Hey truckers, here is part 5 of Villain Tricks Heroines into Hating the MC. Let's dive into the video. While he was on the way, Yi-Chin was informed of the guardian of the heavenly moon blossom, the lunar tiger. It is a massive white tiger with black stripes that stands at over 20 feet tall and possesses incredible strength, speed, and agility that far surpasses any other beast at the king realm. The lunar tiger is said to be able to move faster than the speed of sound, and its claws can cut through even the hardest of materials. It is fiercely protective of the heavenly moon blossom and will stop at nothing to ensure that no one else takes it. It is also highly intelligent and can communicate telepathically with those it deems worthy of its attention. However, it is notoriously difficult to gain the lunar tiger's trust, as it is highly suspicious of outsiders. Despite its fearsome reputation, the lunar tiger is also known for its sense of honor and loyalty. It will always keep its word and never back down from a challenge, making it a formidable opponent in any battle. Yi-Chin realized that triumphing over the lunar tiger would prove to be quite a formidable task. In fact, he recognized that it was imperative to vanquish a few beasts beforehand and subsequently place their corpses into the Chaos Essence bead in order to reinvigorate the pure essence of the bead. As the sun started to set, they arrived at the entrance of the cave, shrouded in darkness. Due to the lack of visibility, they decided to postpone exploring the cave until the next day. The disciples of the Lotus Blossom sect, relieved from their journey, gathered around a bonfire to chat with Yi-Chin. However, Elder Hua stood a little farther away with a watchful expression, disinterested in the small talk. Although Yi-Chin was eager to approach her and start a conversation, he knew that it would be inappropriate to do so in front of her disciples. He sensed that making a move at this point would only worsen his chances with her. Yi-Chin continued chatting with the disciples of the Lotus Blossom sect, enjoying their lively banter as they sat around the crackling bonfire. However, as midnight approached, it was time to call it a night and retire to their tents. Just as Yi-Chin was about to turn in, Elder Hua approached him and offered to show him a spot to set up his tent. Yi-Chin was surprised, as he had been considering pitching his tent right there. However, it quickly became clear that Elder Hua had other ideas in mind. Without showing any annoyance, Yi-Chin followed Elder Hua to the spot she had chosen for him. It was a peaceful area about half a mile away from the Lotus Blossom sect's camp. While Yi-Chin felt a twinge of disappointment at being excluded from their group, he didn't let it dampen his enthusiasm for the expedition. All of a sudden, Elder Hua's pupils dilated as she detected an unusual energy signature. She could feel a colossal spiritual power rapidly approaching their camp, and her expression turned grave. "Quickly, follow me," she ordered Yi-Chin urgently, her tone laced with anxiety. "The lunar tiger has sensed us and is on its way here." Yi-Chin didn't waste a moment and immediately ran after her, their feet pounding the ground as they dashed towards the camp. Fortunately, when they reached their destination, they found that the lunar tiger had not yet arrived. Elder Hua's eyes widened in shock and alarm as she saw a massive burst of light blue lunar energy hurtling towards them with tremendous force. Reacting quickly, she stepped forward with a determined expression and conjured a powerful barrier imbued with the laws of wind to intercept the incoming attack. However, the sheer power of the blast was overwhelming, and the barrier she had hastily formed was incomplete. In a blinding flash, Elder Hua was thrown back by the explosive impact of the attack. Meanwhile, Yi-Chin was utterly taken aback as he witnessed the sheer force of the lunar tiger's attack. He could hardly believe that a beast could possess such power. It was evident that the creature was far more formidable than a typical king realm beast. As they recovered from the shock, a thunderous voice echoed in their minds, sending shivers down their spines. It was the lunar tiger, and it was clearly not pleased with their presence. "How dare you humans invade my territory? You will all meet your demise." A majestic white tiger with black stripes emerged before them, standing over 20 feet tall. Its eyes held a peculiar calmness, belying the ferocity of its appearance. Elder Hua stood firm, brandishing her sword with determination etched on her face. "Respected lunar tiger, we humbly request a single petal of the heavenly moon blossom flower. We mean no harm and will leave immediately," she spoke with a composed and imploring tone. The lunar tiger let out a disdainful sneer, its powerful voice echoing in everyone's minds. "The heavenly moon blossom belongs to the lunar tigers. We have been its protectors for generations, and we alone are entitled to its benefits. Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com." Its words were laced with a fierce determination that made it clear it wasn't going to give up the prized plant without a fight. "Then fight we shall." With a loud roar, Yi-Chin leaped into action, unleashing his powerful whirlwind-attack from a safe distance. The attack was a stunning display of swordsmanship that launched a deadly flurry of razor-sharp blades towards the lunar tiger. But to Yi Chen's surprise, the lunar tiger effortlessly countered the attack with a blast of pure moon energy that obliterated the blades in an instant, leaving Yi Chen vulnerable to a deadly blow. Just as the lunar tiger was about to strike Yi Chen and kill him, Elder Hua stepped forward and intercepted the attack with her sword, her eyes blazing with determination. "I won't hold back then," she declared, her spirit activated and ready for battle. Her spirit was in the form of a skyblade wolf as it appeared with an intense blue light. The lunar tiger roared and charged at Elder Hua, but she was prepared. She jumped out of the way and unleashed her first attack, Thundering Fawn Slash. Her sword glowed with lightning energy as she slashed at the lunar tiger. The lunar tiger countered with Moonlit Claw, as its claws glowed with moon energy and slashed at Elder Hua. But Skyblade Wolf leaped into action, attacking the lunar tiger with Sky Shatter Bite. Its jaws glowed with blue energy as it bit into the lunar tiger's side. The lunar tiger roared in pain and fury and retaliated with Lunar Blast. A blast of pure moon energy shot out of its mouth, but Elder Hua was quick to dodge it. Elder Hua and Skyblade Wolf worked together, executing Windstorm Fawn Slash and Blade Hurricane. The combination of their attacks created a fierce windstorm that pushed the lunar tiger back. But the lunar tiger was not deterred. It countered with Moonlit Fury, a series of powerful slashes with its claws that glowed with a silver light. Elder Hua and Skyblade Wolf leaped out of the way, avoiding the attack. Elder Hua then charged forward with Stormbreaker Slash. Her sword glowed with blue and white energy as she swung it towards the lunar tiger. The lunar tiger responded with Moon Shadow Dance and disappeared from sight. Elder Hua and Skyblade Wolf searched for their opponent, but suddenly the lunar tiger reappeared with Moonlight Pounce, a powerful attack that sent them both flying back. As Elder Hua and Skyblade Wolf stood up, they realized the lunar tiger was preparing its most powerful attack, Moon's Wrath, a massive blast of pure moon energy that could obliterate them both. But they refused to give up. Elder Hua and Skyblade Wolf combined their spiritual energy to create the ultimate technique, Skywolf's Fury, a powerful attack that created a massive storm of wind and lightning. The attack collided with the lunar tiger's Moon's Wrath, and a massive explosion erupted. As the intense battle between the lunar tiger and Elder Hua's Skyblade Wolf raged on, the surrounding landscape was left in ruins. The ground was torn apart, and the air was filled with the sounds of clashing swords and roaring beasts. In the midst of the chaos, Yi Chen led the other disciples of the Lotus Blossom sect to a safe distance. He knew that they would be no match for the lunar tiger and Elder Hua's power. But Yi Chen wasn't going to sit idly by and watch the battle unfold from afar. He had a plan, and he was determined to see it through. With multiple talismans in hand, he rushed back to the battlefield, his heart pounding with anticipation. As he approached, the lunar tiger's attention was solely focused on Elder Hua and her Skyblade Wolf. It was a fierce and unrelenting battle, with neither side gaining the upper hand. But Yi Chen was not deterred. All he had to do was get close enough to use them. Once he was close enough, Yi Chen unleashed a bunch of his talismans at the same time. These talismans included Death-Dealing Sword Talisman, Celestial Blade Talisman, and the Phantom Sword Talisman. The lunar tiger was caught off guard as hundreds of shimmering swords suddenly materialized and raced towards it, glowing with an intense celestial energy. The lunar tiger reacted quickly, setting up a powerful lunar barrier to protect itself. However, the swords effortlessly phased through the barrier, causing the lunar tiger to realize it had been deceived. Meanwhile, Yi Chen had reached the lunar tiger and unleashed a fierce attack with his heavy sword. The blade, infused with the power of the Celestial Sword Talisman, sliced through the beast's flesh, causing it to roar in agony. But the lunar tiger was not defeated yet. It shook its massive body, unleashing a tremendous burst of lunar chi that sent Yi Chen flying through the air, crashing to the ground several meters away. Elder Hua's eyes gleamed as she saw an opportunity to end the battle. She swiftly moved towards the lunar tiger with Skyblade Wolf by her side. With a fierce cry, she unleashed her most powerful attack, the Storm Piercer. The Skyblade Wolf transformed into a stream of pure lightning and wind energy that enveloped Elder Hua's sword, imbuing it with incredible power. The lunar tiger sensed the danger and launched a massive blast of lunar energy to block the attack. However, to its surprise, the lightning and wind energies took the shape of a half-wolf, which effortlessly endured the attack and charged towards the lunar tiger with great speed. The lunar tiger tried to evade the attack, but the half-wolf made of a mix of spiritual energy and chi was too fast. It exploded upon the collision with the lunar tiger, causing a deafening explosion that shook the entire battlefield. As Elder Hua and her disciples made their way towards the cave where the heavenly moon blossom was said to grow, Yichen trailed closely behind, deep in thought about how he could persuade Elder Hua to relinquish the coveted flower. But as they approached the cave, their eyes widened with wonder at the sight of numerous glittering treasures scattered throughout the cavernous expanse. Glinting gemstones and glittering crystals adorned the walls and floors, while rare herbs and exotic plants sprouted from the rocky crevices. The group's eyes widened in amazement as they ventured deeper into the cave. They found not only the highly coveted heavenly moon blossom but also an array of other valuable medicinal plants like the rare thunderstorm vine, wind whistle leaf, and frostbite grass. The ocean pearl coral, mystic wind fern, and soul mist mushroom were on par with the heavenly moon blossom in terms of rarity and potency, sending the disciples into a frenzy of excitement. As they scanned their surroundings, they realized that the cave also housed piles of ancient bones, which sparked curiosity about the cave's past. The tomes they discovered were filled with secret techniques and ancient knowledge that could unlock unparalleled power for the wielder. Among these techniques, Yichen came across a body cultivation technique known as the divine bone transformation art. It requires a profound understanding of the body's inner workings. To cultivate this technique, one must first find a suitable place to cultivate, preferably somewhere with abundant natural energy. The technique has a total of 9 levels, with each level unlocking a new ability that enhances the cultivator's body and increases their strength. The first 3 levels focus on enhancing the bones and muscles, granting the cultivator the ability to wield heavier weapons. The 4th and 5th levels heighten the senses, boosting reaction time and detecting even the slightest movements. The 6th level is a crucial milestone, where the bones become denser and harder, making them impervious to most attacks. The 7th level enables the cultivator to recover quickly from fatal injuries. The 8th level, known as the divine transformation, is where the body reaches its zenith, and the bones become almost indestructible, enabling the cultivator to wield their bones as weapons. Finally, the last level, the heavenly transformation, empowers the cultivator to transcend human limits, granting tremendous strength and the ability to manipulate their body's density to move at unbelievable speeds and withstand the most formidable attacks. It was a pity that the divine bone transformation art that Yichen had acquired contained description only until the 7th level. There was no information on how to cultivate the technique to the 8th or final level. As Yichen delved deeper into the secrets of the divine bone transformation art, his confidence swelled. With this technique, he felt like he could take on any foe and emerge victorious. His attention was suddenly drawn to Elder Hua as she had made her way to the heavenly moon blossom and was poised to pluck its flower. Without hesitation, Yichen called out to her. "Please, Elder Hua, wait." The elder turned to him with a dark scowl etched onto her face. She knew that Yichen coveted the blossom as well and was loath to relinquish it. However, Yichen was the one who created that opportunity which allowed her to kill the lunar tiger so that she couldn't show blatant disregard for his words. "I must request that you let me have the heavenly moon blossom," he implored. Seeing the elder's expression grow even more sour, he quickly added, "I understand that the Lotus Blossom sect has a pressing need for it, but I humbly ask that you allow me to keep the flower." "Why?" Elder Hua demanded, her voice dripping with disdain. Undeterred, Yichen answered gravely, "I have a unique technique that can allow us to procure more heavenly moon blossom flowers. But it requires me to hold on to this one for an entire day. And not just that, I can even multiply all the herbs and medicinal plants in this area." As Yichen spoke, his words dripped with such an infectious confidence that it seemed to mesmerize Elder Hua. Her initial ruthlessness began to waver, and for a moment, she found herself wanting to trust him. The tension in the air was palpable as her disciples watched with bated breath. They knew that the heavenly moon blossom was a rare find, but they also felt that trusting Yichen would be the right choice. As if on cue, the disciples began to speak up for Yichen, their voices rising in unison as they vouched for his trustworthiness. Caught between a rock and a hard place, Elder Hua hesitated for a moment longer before finally relenting. "Very well," she warned, her voice laced with caution. "But you will not leave my range at any costs." Yichen's eyes sparkled with triumph as he accepted her terms with a wide grin. "Agreed," he said, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. "I wouldn't dream of it." All test NOVL on novelben/.cm. As the day passed, Yichen fulfilled his promise to Elder Hua by presenting her with dozens of herbs, each of which was of exceptional quality. The herbs were brimming with energy that even surpassed the levels he had exhibited in the cave. Elder Hua was left stunned and gazed at Yichen with newfound admiration. His reputation as a skilled cultivator was solidified in her mind, and she couldn't help but wonder about his true potential. Maintaining his composure, Yichen projected the image of a seasoned expert and capitalized on the opportunity to impress Elder Hua even further. After the group left the forest, Yichen parted ways with the Lotus Blossom sect and began his journey towards the Church of Divine Light. Yichen made a swift return to the Church of Divine Light, and the Pope was taken aback by the sudden appearance of his energy within the church's boundaries. Just as the Pope was about to dispatch a deacon to investigate the situation, a bishop frantically barged into his chambers, bringing news of Yichen's arrival. The bishop informed the Pope that Yichen had arrived with a bountiful donation of rare herbs, which he wished to present as a token of gratitude to the church for their hospitality. Furthermore, he also wished to express his deep regret for any inconvenience he might have caused them. The Pope was taken aback by Yichen's magnanimous gesture and was impressed by his noble character. Intrigued by this sudden turn of events, the Pope immediately ordered the bishop to escort Yichen to his chambers. He was eager to hear more about Yichen's journey and how he came across these treasured herbs. It had been a couple of days since Wang Jian settled inside his new palace. He had been rather busy for these past few days. His primary task was to spend time with his wives. The secondary task was to send a servant with the petal of golden lotus to the Tao of Alchemy Society. He had already informed Xia Shiwei to concoct a thunderbolt lotus pellet for him. Xia Shiwei had responded that it would take a couple of days and Wang Jian was fine with the timeline. Meanwhile, an esteemed alchemist of the Tao of Alchemy Society had already been sent to the Jin family to cure Jin Meixiang's uncle and grandfather. This matter had been completed perfectly as Wang Jian received thousands of points from Jin Meixiang. She was extremely touched by his actions and had thanked him profusely. Actually, now that he had opened the notification center of the system, he began to check out the other notifications he had received. These notifications dated back to the time when Wang Jian was still on the way to Arya City, and he had tormented Xiao Ling, Bishi Shuyan, and Lady Zhuoran. All in all, he had acquired 290,000 destiny points from the three. This was a rather impressive number. Most points were actually provided by Lady Zhuoran. Well, it did make sense as she held the highest luck among the women who regained their heroine status. Status. Name, Wang Jian. Age, 20 years old. Destiny points, 321,346. Cultivation, first stage of the King Realm. Cultivation technique, Soaring Dragon Technique, level 4, requires 500,000 destiny points to level up. Skills, Origin Fist, Beam of Destruction, Mystic Force, Divine Shielding Iron Body, Enhanced Strength, Spiritual Sensitivity, Moonrise Fist, Lunar Shield, Moon Shadow Step, Shadow Manipulation, Dark Fog, Eclipse Domain Annihilation, Tranquil Mind Divine Mantra, Black Castle, Elemental Genius, Dragon's Prestige, Enchantment Ability, Level 1. Ocular Abilities, True Eyes, Level 2, 200,000 Destiny Points. Bloodline, Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Bloodline. Second level, next level, 500,000 Destiny Points. Insight in Laws, Flame, mid-level, 2 million Destiny Points. Lightning, Nil, 300,000 Destiny Points, Dark, Nil, 100,000 Destiny Points. Physique, Chaotic Yang Body, Dormant. Spirit, Dark Flame Double-Headed River Dragon, 7-star Spirit, Mutated. Weaknesses, Holy Attribute. Solar Attribute. Wang Jian in his private chambers while utilizing the True Eyes. He had noticed that Kong Huiyan's loyalty was merely 30, and Han Shifeng's loyalty was even lower and was set at 26. He could understand the reason behind their dwindling loyalty. They were planning to use the growing strength of their respective tribes to escape his grasp. Wang Jian was naturally not going to allow that to happen. He had a plan that involved breaking them both physically and mentally. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned the two girls to his chambers. They appeared in front of him, both dressed in maid uniforms he had designed especially for them. The dresses were seductive, with short skirts that barely covered their thighs and tight bodices that accentuated their curves. It was clear that the dresses were designed to be both humiliating and arousing for the two heiresses. Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng looked at each other, their faces flushed with embarrassment. They knew what was about to happen, and they knew that they had no choice but to obey Wang Jian's orders. The prince's voice was low and dangerous as he addressed them. "I know what you two have been plotting," he said, his eyes blazing with anger. "You think that you can escape me by growing your tribes? You are wrong. You belong to me, body and soul." Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng hung their heads, shame written all over their faces. They knew that they had made a mistake, but they had not realized the consequences of their actions. Wang Jian's demeanor softened, and a small smirk appeared on his lips. But, perhaps, we can come to an understanding, he said, his voice honeyed. I am willing to forgive your transgressions on one condition. The two maids looked up at him, their eyes wide with hope. Perhaps there was a way out of this after all. Wang Jian leaned closer to them, his breath hot against their skin. You must learn your place, he said, his voice low and menacing. And I will teach you. I will show you what it means to be loyal. With a wicked grin, Wang Jian's eyes roamed over Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng, their bodies glistening with sweat and their expressions a mix of fear and pleasure. You two can't resist me, can you? He taunted, his voice low and commanding. No matter how much you try to fight it, your bodies crave my touch. Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng exchanged nervous glances, their minds a haze of conflicting emotions. But as Wang Jian approached them, they found themselves unable to resist his magnetic pull. He reached out and grabbed Kong Huiyan by the hair, pulling her towards him, and she let out a small whimper. I can't, Kong Huiyan stammered, her eyes filled with desire as Wang Jian's lips crashed onto hers in a demanding kiss. She melted into his embrace, her body responding to his touch, her nipples hardening as he groped her breasts. Han Shifeng watched, her breath hitching as she felt a pang of anger. She had been through this with Wang Jian before, but seeing him with Kong Huiyan ignited a fierce longing within her. She tried to suppress her desires, but her resolve crumbled as Wang Jian pushed her to the ground, delivering sharp spanks to her backside. She moaned, her body arching into his touch despite her protests. Wang Jian's dominance was intoxicating, and the two women found themselves losing control of their carnal desires. He positioned Han Shifeng on her hands and knees, thrusting into her with primal force, and she couldn't help but gasp at the sensation. Her body responded eagerly, her moans growing louder as he pounded into her relentlessly. Master, please! Han Shifeng cried out, her eyes glazed with lust. Harder, faster, I need more. Wang Jian obliged, increasing the pace of his thrusts, and Han Shifeng's body convulsed with pleasure. Her inhibitions vanished as she begged for his seed, her voice filled with need. Kong Huiyan watched, her own body aching with desire. She tried to resist, but her body betrayed her as Wang Jian turned his attention to her, taking her into a doggy-style position as well. She moaned as he yanked her breasts, a mixture of pain and pleasure coursing through her. Please, master, Kong Huiyan gasped, her voice filled with desperation. Take me, use me as your own. I'm yours. Wang Jian smirked, relishing in his control over them. He pounded into Kong Huiyan with unrestrained force, her body yielding to him completely. The two women's inhibitions were shattered, and they fell deeper into depravity, their expressions twisted with pleasure as they begged for more. This was just the start to the next dozens of rounds that Wang Jian spent with them. In the evening, he stood up while gazing over the two women triumphantly, their bodies spent. He knew he had claimed them completely, and they were now at his mercy, obedient to his every command. Remember, Wang Jian said with a sinister chuckle, you belong to me now. Your bodies, your desires, everything. You can't resist me, and you'll come crawling back for more. Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng nodded eagerly, their eyes glazed with submission. They had fallen into a dark, carnal world with Wang Jian as their master, unable to escape the intoxicating pull he had over them. All test NOVL on novelben/.cm. After indulging in some fun with Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng, Wang Jian decided it was time to have a conversation with the two women. He didn't seem to care that they were still naked, as he sat on the bed in the middle of them. Their voluptuous bodies hugged him as they laid their heads on each of his shoulders. Now then, ladies, let's have a little chat. I want to know why you had the foolish idea of thinking you could escape from me, Wang Jian asked, a sly smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Han Shifeng spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper. We received a message from the third prince 2 days ago. He claimed to have conducted a thorough investigation on us and learned that our tribes were once esteemed clans in the empire before they were banished to the remote Jingguan region. Wang Jian's eyes narrowed, a sneer forming on his lips. Is that so? He muttered. It seems that third brother Chen did not reach out to the Night Dagger clan, or else Fen Shuang would have informed me of it. However, as he pondered deeply, Wang Jian soon realized the reasoning. The difference in social standing between my wife, Fen Shuang, and my maids, Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng, must have been the reason why the third prince didn't contact the Night Dagger clan. He probably assumed that persuading the two would be a simpler and less risky task compared to convincing my wife. I must admit, he is quite astute in his approach. Kong Huiyan whimpered, her fear palpable. Yes, she murmured. He said he would help us restore our clan's reputation and even elevate their status to what it once was in the empire. Wang Jian's lip curled into a sneer. And what did he want in return? He demanded, his voice low and dangerous. He requested that we join his faction in his campaign for the throne, Han Shifeng replied, her voice barely audible. Wang Jian chuckled darkly. I see. So the third prince thinks he can use you to further his own ambitions. How amusing. So, what did you say to him? He asked. We have yet to give one, Kong Huiyan replied, sensing Wang Jian's mistrustful gaze. We plan to contact him in a few days with our decision. A sly smile crept up on Wang Jian's face as he asked, so, what will be your response to him now? Han Shifeng rolled her eyes as she whispered softly, whatever you want it to be, my lord. That is a good answer, Wang Jian responded as his smirk widened. Wang Jian leaned forward, fixing his gaze on Han Shifeng and Kong Huiyan. Here's what we'll do, he said, his voice low and serious. You'll send a message to my third brother, letting him know that you can't join his faction, but you'll offer your support within my faction. Kong Huiyan looked up, eyebrows raised. And how should we explain why we can't join him? I have leverage over you too, Wang Jian replied, his tone cryptic. That's all he needs to know. Han Shifeng nodded in agreement, her expression composed. Understood, my lord. Wang Jian placed his arms around the two, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. Good, he said. Let's see how my third brother reacts to that. Yes, my lord, the two women muttered at the same time. Soon, Han Shifeng asked Wang Jian with a worried tone, will you be angry with us for a long time, master? Wang Jian chuckled at her question and brought his arm down from her head while caressing her waist. Her soft skin was just lovely to touch and play with. He spoke with an amused tone, angry? I have never been angry at you two, my dear. In fact, I am glad that you would do this. This shows that you have thoughts, ambitions, and the courage to take risks. It shows that you have a strong personality. And I do like my women with strong personalities. Han Shifeng and Kong Huiyan seemed rather relieved to hear his words. Kong Huiyan promised, I would never think of betraying you again, master. Han Shifeng repeated that promise. Then let's have another round to commemorate your vows. Wang Jian spoke with a sly grin on his face. The day following the incident involving Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng, a most unexpected visitor arrived at Wang Jian's palace, the esteemed saintess of the Church of Divine Light, Hong Meilin. Although taken aback, Wang Jian granted her and her entourage entry into his palace. They were escorted to the main hall, where Wang Jian was already seated on his imposing throne, perched atop a raised platform. Hong Meilin and her companions took their seats on chairs positioned below. A respectful bow accompanied by the sound of rustling robes interrupted the silence of the hall. Priest Pan, one of the teachers in the church, stood up and addressed Wang Jian with a formal tone. Your Highness, he began, the Church of Divine Light humbly offers gifts as a gesture of seeking your forgiveness regarding the matter with Yichin. He continued with an impressive oratory that could sway even the most skeptical, we implore your Highness to comprehend that the saintess was restrained by her moral code. As an accomplished practitioner, your Highness must be well aware that to attain expeditious accomplishments, one must remain steadfast to their convictions. Wang Jian's eyes narrowed in contempt as he turned his gaze towards Hong Meilin. Why do I hear a parrot's words instead of the one who truly committed the offense, he hissed. Is this your idea of sincerity, saintess? Making your lackeys beg for forgiveness on your behalf? The followers of the church, including Hong Meilin and Priest Pan, were taken aback by the disdainful words that escaped Wang Jian's lips. Priest Pan tried to defend himself by saying, Your Highness, I am a priest dash. Wang Jian's icy voice sliced through the air, cutting off Priest Pan's defense. Silence! Your prattle is but fuel to my anger, he declared with a chilling tone. He then turned his eyes towards Hong Meilin and spoke with a razor-sharp tongue, if the Church of Divine Light truly wishes to seek my forgiveness, then it is you, saintess, who must beg for it. Prostrate yourself before me and show true regret with a kowtow. His words were like a whip that lashed out at the followers of the church. They immediately erupted in protest, and the hall was filled with the sound of their angry voices. How dare you insult our saintess with such demands, you heretic? Your insolence is insufferable. Our holy saintess is above such humiliating acts. Blasphemy! You are no one to demand such a thing from the Church of Divine Light. The radiant God shall strike you down for your arrogance and lack of respect for the church and its followers. Such insolence! Our holy saintess only kneels before the Pope and the radiant God. To think that he would be greedy enough despite the fact that we have brought such wonderful treasures as his gifts. Truly, a royal prince's greed is insatiable. Wang Jian remained unmoved by their protests and continued to stare at Hong Meilin with an icy expression. Do not presume to school me on the intricacies of your customs and beliefs. You have committed a grievous offense against me, and I demand nothing less than a genuine apology. Your attempts to placate me with mere trinkets are insulting to my intelligence. Do you think I am so easily swayed by material possessions? The Church of Divine Light claims to uphold noble principles, yet your actions suggest otherwise. His words elicited a wave of shock and anger from the Church's followers, but before they could voice their protests, Hong Meilin intervened. Silence, everyone. We are here to seek forgiveness, not to provoke His Highness. Turning to Wang Jian, Hong Meilin spoke with conviction. You are mistaken, Your Highness. The Church not only claims to uphold noble principles, but we also act upon them. If it is your wish, I will humbly kowtow to you and seek your forgiveness. Hong Meilin, unlike her followers, understood the gravity of the situation. Having been scolded by the Pope, she knew how vital it was to obtain Wang Jian's forgiveness. To that end, she believed that kowtowing to Wang Jian in his palace was a small sacrifice to make. Wang Jian's eyes widened in surprise as he heard Hong Meilin's compliance. He had anticipated a heated argument and fierce resistance from her, but her sudden submission caught him off guard. The scheming side of him had hoped to incite her and push her to commit another offense. In due course, Hong Meilin completed her act of deference towards Wang Jian, and he watched as she rose from her kowtowing position. New N0vel chapters are published on N0v/e/lb/in co/m. Without hesitation, Hong Meilin issued a command, reveal the gifts. In response to her directive, a bishop who was accompanying her took a step forward and presented the gift to Wang Jian. It was a spatial pouch, a highly valued possession, and it contained the offerings. Such tremendous wealth. 3 holy blossom fruits. 3 phoenix flame fruits. Oh, wait, there is also a pendant. He muttered. Turning his gaze towards Hong Meilin, he asked inquisitively, what is this? With a foul expression, Hong Meilin explained, this is the holy aegis pendant, one of the most treasured items of the Church. It has 2 uses. The first ability allows you to conjure a powerful holy barrier that can block all attacks under an Emperor Realm expert, while the second ability allows your chi to gain or empower the holy attribute temporarily. In your Highness's case, it will allow you to gain the holy attribute. Wang Jian raised his brow in interest and asked, interesting. What are the limitations of this pendant? The pendant must be recharged by someone possessing holy chi, preferably a priest of the Church, Hong Meilin responded calmly. Wang Jian was deep in thought as he listened to her words, considering, this will be perfect for Han Shifeng then. It will also allow her to maintain the illusion in front of everyone that she can still use holy chi. Also, she can recharge this artifact by summoning her spirit as she can still use holy chi through this trick. Very well. This matter is hereby concluded, and there is no longer any grudge or animosity between me and the Church, Wang Jian declared. He was aware that prolonging the issue would only bring him harm. A collective sigh of relief escaped from the followers and members of the Church upon hearing Wang Jian's words. They had been on edge, anticipating that Wang Jian would continue to make things difficult for them, but he had surprisingly let the matter go. I would be honored if you all would join me for dinner. Wang Jian cordially extended the invitation to Hong Meilin and her followers. Despite Hong Meilin's desire to leave the palace as soon as possible, she knew it would be impolite to decline the prince's gracious invitation. With a beaming smile, Hong Meilin graciously accepted the invitation. We would be thrilled to join you. The group made their way to the dining hall, and as they entered, 2 tables caught their attention. One was opulent, adorned with exquisite tableware and glittering gold, while the other appeared shabby, with chipped plates and stained tablecloths. The sight of the luxurious table was too tempting for the group, and they gravitated towards it. Wang Jian's words cut through their excitement like a knife. The saintess will sit with me here, he declared, gesturing to the opulent table. His finger pointed towards the dingy table, and he barked out, the rest of you can make do with that one. Hong Meilin's eyes widened in shock, and her followers began to murmur amongst themselves. One of them spoke up, his voice tense with anger. Your Highness, is it not disrespectful to segregate us like this? Wang Jian's expression hardened. I think differently. I believe you are extremely insolent to sit at the same table as the saintess and me when you are not equal to our rank. Do not forget your place. Hong Meilin couldn't help but mutter as she stared at Wang Jian with a stern gaze, "We are all equal before the eyes of God, Your Highness." Wang Jian's lips curved into a sardonic smile, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Ah, the elusive concept of equality," he chuckled. "It's quite intriguing how the church preaches it yet fails to practice it within its own ranks." The group looked on with quizzical expressions as Wang Jian continued, "Tell me, Saintess, how can you preach equality when you have created a hierarchy within your own organization? Surely, that creates disparity among your followers." Hong Meilin bristled with anger at Wang Jian's accusations. "The church's ranks serve to organize tasks and responsibilities, not to create inequality among its members," she retorted. Wang Jian raised a brow, a look of amusement in his eyes. "Is that so? Then answer me this, Saintess, how many of your followers are entitled to the same resources as you?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Hong Meilin was flabbergasted. Even the most devout followers of the church were left stunned, their eyes fixed on Wang Jian in shock. Despite their deep-seated loathing for Wang Jian, they could not help but acknowledge the weight of his words. His logic was unassailable, and his argument struck at the very heart of the church's teachings. The expressions of shock and disbelief on the faces of the church's followers did not go unnoticed by Wang Jian. He savored the moment, relishing in the uncomfortable silence that had descended upon the group. "The church preaches equality, but it's nothing more than a facade," he said with a sardonic smile. "Even the Pope recognizes this truth. If he truly believed in equality, why would he have sent you here with these gifts to appease me?" The room fell silent, the weight of Wang Jian's words heavy in the air. The church's followers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to respond to the seventh prince's pointed criticism. Wang Jian continued, his voice low and measured. "Let's not pretend that we're all equal. The reality is, I am the seventh prince of the empire, and even the church cannot afford to offend me." A moment of tense silence followed as the gravity of Wang Jian's words sank in. The church's followers shifted uncomfortably, struggling to reconcile their beliefs in equality with the harsh reality of power and influence. Wang Jian's expression remained unchanged as he regarded the group before him. "Remember this," he said, his voice cold and hard. "In this world, there is no true equality. There are only those who have power and those who do not. And I, for one, will always be among the former." Wang Jian's impassioned speech left a lasting impression on the group, and not a single follower of the church dared to make a fuss about the seating arrangements or the food that was served during dinner. Despite the luxurious spread laid out before them, the air was thick with tension and unease. The followers of the church ate their food in silence, stealing wary glances at Wang Jian every now and then. It was clear that his words had struck a chord, and they were all grappling with the implications of what he had said. Meanwhile, Wang Jian sat at the head of the table, watching his guests with a smug expression on his face. Once the dinner was over, the group quickly dispersed, eager to escape the oppressive atmosphere that had hung over the dining hall throughout the meal. As the group dispersed, Wang Jian made his way to the treasure chamber, where he retrieved a selection of exotic fruits and a few treasures. He soon headed to his private chambers, eager to relax after the tense dinner. As he entered his quarters, he called out to his maids, instructing them to gather Su Xian, Fen Shuang, Chen Yan, Kong Huyan, Han Shifeng, Xiao Ling, and Bishi Shuyan and bring them to his chambers. The maids scurried off to carry out their orders, leaving Wang Jian to settle into a plush armchair. Wang Jian's women arrived promptly, each one radiating a powerful aura. Wang Jian wasted no time in getting down to business, addressing his ladies with a serious expression. "You have all made remarkable progress, but as you know, the road to cultivation is long and difficult. To aid you in your journey, I have brought with me a selection of exotic fruits that will infuse your bodies with powerful qi and help you advance even further." He reached for a tray of succulent fruits, each one infused with a unique type of energy that corresponded to the elemental affinities of his women. With a practiced eye, he distributed the fruits among his ladies, ensuring that each one received the perfect fruit for her cultivation needs. "Xian, these 3 Arctic aurora fruits are for you," he said, handing her the plump, icy blue fruit. "Shuang, these nightfall bloom fruits are for you," he continued, passing her a trio of dark, velvety fruits. "Ian, I have saved these phoenix flame fruits for you," he continued, placing 3 fiery red fruits in her hand. Following that, Wang Jian distributed fruits to the rest of his women. Kong Huyan was next in line, receiving 3 crimson blaze fruits. These fruits contained pure flame energy that was on par with the phoenix flame fruits, except that they lacked slight insights of laws of flames. Han Shifeng received 3 holy blossom fruits, which were the same fruits that Wang Jian had acquired from the church. Following them was Xiao Ling, who was handed 3 frostbite blossom fruits. These fruits were known for their icy cold energy, much like the Arctic aurora fruits. The relationship between these two types of fruit was similar to that of the phoenix flame fruits and the crimson blaze fruits. Lastly, Bishi Shuyen received 3 whirlwind gust fruits. As she possessed the wind element, these fruits were perfect for her. The gust of wind energy contained in these fruits could be absorbed and used to enhance her cultivation. After Wang Jian finished distributing the fruits to his wives, he dismissed everyone except for Su Xian, Chen Yan, and Fan Shuiying. He then handed each of them a life-saving treasure and a weapon to enhance their power. Su Xian's eyes lit up with excitement as she accepted the gift. "Thank you, husband. It is a wonderful present," she said. She had received ice attribute bangles known as the glacial frost bangles. One of them possessed the ability to create an ultimate defense that could seal the user's body in a special ice possessing laws of ice. To break it required the strength of an Emperor Realm expert. The second bangle possessed the ability to launch a powerful ice blast that could freeze the opponent. This attack would possess the laws of ice. The only disadvantage was that each of these bangles required a month to recover their essence. Chen Yan couldn't contain her happiness either. "This weapon is amazing. Thank you so much, Jian," she said with a big smile. She had received a fan known as the Inferno Control Fan that could shoot off and control flame tendrils. This was its normal ability. However, this fan had a secret ability through which the user could easily burn all their surroundings with intense fire possessing laws of flame. Considering that this fan had no method to protect her, Wang Jian had attached the flame barrier talisman that could utilize the fan's essence to create a protective dome around Chen Yan if she ever required it. Fan Shuiying also expressed her gratitude. "Thank you, hubby. I'll make sure to use this treasure to protect our family," she said with determination in her voice. Last, but not the least, Fan Shuiying had received a pair of boots. These were known as the wind drifting boots. The ability of these boots was rather simple. It allowed the user to walk on the wind as if they were walking on land. The more chi they infuse within the boots, the higher their altitude would be. These boots also held a secret energy source possessing laws of wind that could greatly boost the flying speed and allow the user to traverse 1,000 miles in under 1 minute. Naturally, the energy would be exhausted after that. However, since these boots didn't actually enhance Fan Shuiying's offensive capabilities, he handed her a pair of gloves that could greatly boost her strength. Wang Jian jokingly responded, "Well, you need to become a hell lot stronger then, Shuiying." "I will," Fan Shuiying replied resolutely. Chen Yan then couldn't help but add, "I feel a bit sad that I can't reciprocate with something of equal value." Wang Jian gave her a loving smile and added, "It would be best if you use these treasures to become so strong that I don't have to fear for your safety ever. This will be the greatest gift for me." He was soon lying on the bed, surrounded by his 3 wives. Su Xian and Fan Shuiying were positioned on either side of him, while Chen Yan took place behind him, gently cradling his head in her lap and stroking his hair with tenderness. As 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye, Wang Jian asked his wives to leave. He had somewhere else he had to go. Once his wives left, Wang Jian ordered the maids to summon Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng. "I summoned you here to hand you a couple of treasures that can save your lives and also enhance your strength in battle," Wang Jian spoke seriously. Kong Huiyan was gifted a pair of firestorm earrings that had unique abilities. The right earring had the power to summon a raging storm of fire that could annihilate all her foes, while the left earring granted her the ability to conjure a formidable flame barrier that could keep her safe from any harm. Meanwhile, Han Shifeng was gifted the Holy Aegis Pendant. In the meantime, Han Shifeng was bestowed with the esteemed Holy Aegis Pendant. As the explanation unfolded, Han Shifeng's eyes welled up with tears, and a look of profound shock crossed her face. Without hesitation, she rushed forward and embraced Wang Jian tightly, burying her head in his chest as she wept. Kong Huiyan observed Han Shifeng sympathetically, understanding the turmoil of emotions that she was experiencing. The pendant was a source of immense relief for Han Shifeng, as it would enable her to harness holy qi. Since unlocking the fallen angel bloodline, Han Shifeng had lived in constant fear of being discovered by members of her tribe. The truth of her bloodline would lead to her denunciation, an outcome that she had been tormented by in her dreams. But with the gift of the Holy Aegis Pendant, Wang Jian had put her fears to rest and granted her a newfound sense of ease. After a couple of minutes, Wang Jian pulled away from the embrace while speaking seriously, "I want you to remember that you are indeed important to me. I know that my actions must have traumatized you. And honestly speaking, if I had a choice, I would still do it all over again. Do you know why? Because I want you to be mine." And this is my twisted way of getting what I wanted. With a solemn tone, he added, you both need to make up your mind whether you want to be my maids forever or would like to have a chance at becoming my wives someday. You should have noticed how I treat my wives. You treat them so nicely, so respectfully, Kang Hyun replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes. It's because of their genuine feelings that I treat them differently. I want to treat you the same way, so don't disappoint me, he whispered with a smirk. Wang Jian soon heard Han Shifeng's whisper, I don't care about what happened before. This gift is like a light that has illuminated my life. I will never betray you in this life, master, LL new rise at N0V/LBI/.cm. She then jumped up and kissed Wang Jian on her own accord. Even Wang Jian was a bit startled, but he soon enjoyed the kiss. Once the kiss ended, Wang Jian stared at Kang Hyun and thought up something. He spoke, I will let your father leave the dungeon. However, I will keep an expert on him at all times to ensure he wouldn't do anything stupid. This time, it was Kang Hyun's turn to embrace him and kiss him passionately. After finishing with Hong Meilin and Kang Hyun, Wang Jian summoned Lady Zhuoran to his chambers. He knew that he couldn't neglect her while showering his other women with treasures and resources. When Lady Zhuoran arrived, she gracefully bowed down in front of Wang Jian, a hint of fear lurking in her eyes. Wang Jian gazed intently at Lady Zhuoran, holding out a small, shimmering pearl bead in his palm. Behold, Lady Zhuoran, he spoke in a commanding voice, this is the magnificent oceanic pearl bead, a treasure that will aid you in enhancing your water elemental attacks and allow you to gain deeper insights into the laws of water as you meditate. Lady Zhuoran's eyes widened with awe as she stared at the beautiful bead. She couldn't believe that such a treasure was in front of her, and that Wang Jian was willing to give it to her. As she took the bead from him with a shaking hand, she bowed deeply, thank you, my lord. I will cherish this treasure and use it to strengthen my cultivation as you have commanded. As she was about to turn and leave the room, Wang Jian suddenly reached out and grabbed one of her silver tails, pulling it forcefully. Lady Zhuoran gasped in surprise and pleasure, her body trembling with ecstasy as she let out a seductive moan. Ah, ah. She moaned softly, feeling a rush of desire coursing through her body. As she gasped in surprise and pleasure, Wang Jian's hand moved up to her waist, pulling her into his embrace. He made her sit on his lap, pressing his hard member against her supple backside. Lady Zhuoran let out a soft whimper, her body trembling with desire as Wang Jian began to kiss and nibble on her neck. With one hand still wrapped around her waist, he used the other to explore her body, tracing the curves of her bust, hips, and thighs. Lady Zhuoran let out a soft whimper as Wang Jian's fingers traced the curves of her breasts, sending shivers of pleasure coursing through her body. Her eyes fluttered shut as she surrendered to his touch, her mind clouded with desire. Wang Jian leaned in closer, his lips brushing against her ear as he spoke in a low, seductive voice. You must have seen the fruits I provided to Xu Yan. She is entitled to those resources only because she is your daughter. Lady Zhuoran nodded her head, her voice barely above a whisper. I understand, Your Highness. Suddenly, Wang Jian tore her top, exposing her breasts to his gaze. Lady Zhuoran gasped and moaned as Wang Jian continued to fondle her breasts, sending waves of pleasure through her body. Ah, Your Highness, she moaned softly, her hands gripping his shoulders tightly. Wang Jian's voice was husky as he spoke, good. Remember that your daughter's benefits depend on your obedience and willingness to please me. I understand, Lady Zhuoran moaned, her head thrown back in pleasure as he continued to explore her body. I will do anything for my daughter's sake. All new chapters NNV.com. In fact, this was how she justified surrendering to the intense pleasure consuming her body at that moment. Wang Jian's body burned with a primal desire as he held Lady Zhuoran's curvaceous figure in his arms. With a sudden burst of lust, he couldn't resist any longer and threw her onto the bed before climbing on top of her. He tore her clothes apart with a roughness that sent shivers of pleasure down her spine, and his hands roamed freely over her exposed flesh. In no time, he pulled out his throbbing member and rubbed it teasingly against her slick folds while his fingers tangled in her silver tails. With a sudden yank, he elicited a loud moan from Lady Zhuoran as he brought her body closer to his own. Ah yes, ah. She cried out, feeling waves of pleasure coursing through her veins. Without warning, Wang Jian plunged into her, groaning as he felt the tight walls of her pussy clenching around him. It was an indescribable sensation of pure bliss that made him lose control and thrust harder and harder, relishing in the euphoria of their mutual pleasure. Lady Zhuoran moaned uncontrollably as Wang Jian's thrusts became rougher and more forceful. She felt as if she was being consumed by his raw, primal desire, and she welcomed it eagerly. Wang Jian's hands gripped her hips tightly as he pounded into her, relishing the sound of their flesh slapping together. Lady Joran's moans turned into screams of ecstasy, and her nails dug into his back, leaving deep scratches. He yanked on her silver tails roughly as he continued to thrust deeper and harder, pushing her towards the edge of her pleasure. The bed shook violently under their combined weight, and the room was filled with the sounds of their wild, animalistic lovemaking. Wang Jian was lost in a haze of lust, consumed by the need to possess her completely. As they caught their breath, Lady Joran's mind raced with the knowledge that this was just the beginning. She knew from experience that Wang Jian was insatiable, and that there would be many more rounds to come. Each one that was more thrilling and debauched than the last. The thought sent a shiver of excitement down her spine as she gazed up at Wang Jian, his eyes dark with desire. She couldn't wait to see what he had in store for her next, eager to submit to his every whim and desire. The following day, a servant from the Tao of Alchemy Society arrived at the palace, bearing a small but precious item, the Thunderbolt Lotus Pellet. Wang Jian had been eagerly anticipating the arrival of this pellet, knowing its potent effects on the body. With great reverence, he accepted the delivery from the servant and thanked him before quickly retreating to the privacy of his courtyard. Once there, he carefully inspected the tiny pellet, marveling at its delicate form and the power it held within. Without hesitation, he popped it into his mouth, feeling the bitter taste spread across his tongue. He closed his eyes and waited for the pellet to take effect, feeling a surge of energy coursing through his veins as it began to work its magic on his body. The lightning element within him surged to new heights, its strength amplified to an incredible degree. Where before his lightning could only generate sparks, he now possessed the power to conjure thunderbolts that could vanquish even a Lord Realm expert. Wang Jian immediately opened his status screen. It was during this time that Wang Jian noticed he had 24 of notifications unread. About 1/4 of these notifications came from Hong Meilin, Xiao Ling, and Bishi Shuyan, while 3/4 came from Lady Joran alone. Hong Meilin provided Wang Jian with 5,000 destiny points as he had shaken her belief in the core values of the church. Regarding the notifications from Xiao Ling and Bishi Shuyan, it appeared that they were delighted to receive cultivation resources and increase their strength. Thus, their positive feelings towards Wang Jian rose a bit and provided him with a total of 31,000 destiny points. Meanwhile, Lady Joran had provided destiny points to Wang Jian for multiple reasons. The first was to receive such a precious treasure from him. The second was when she heard that her daughter received a gift because of her. This did increase her favorable feelings towards Wang Jian as she liked that he was treating her daughter so well. The next 16 notifications were due to her getting lost in the pleasure during her rough intercourse with Wang Jian. In total, Lady Joran had provided Wang Jian with a total of 141,000 destiny points. Status: Name: Wang Jian. Age: 20 years old. Destiny points: 498,346. Cultivation: First stage of the King Realm. Cultivation technique: Soaring Dragon Technique, Level 4, requires 500,000 destiny points to level up. Skills: Origin Fist, Beam of Destruction, Mystic Force, Divine Shielding Iron Body, Enhanced Strength, Spiritual Sensitivity, Moonrise Fist, Lunar Shield, Moon Shadow Step, Shadow Manipulation, Dark Fog, Eclipse Domain Annihilation, Tranquil Mind Divine Mantra, Black Castle, Elemental Genius, Dragon's Prestige, Enchantment Ability, Level 1. Ocular Abilities, True Eyes, Level 2, 200,000 destiny points. Bloodline, Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Bloodline. Second level, next level, 500,000 destiny points. Insight in Laws, Flame, mid-level, 2 million destiny points. Lightning, nil, 150,000 destiny points. Dark, nil, 100,000 destiny points. Physique, Chaotic Yang Body, Dormant. Spirit, Dark Flame Double-Headed River Dragon, 7-star Spirit, Mutated. Weaknesses, Holy Attribute. Solar Attribute. The price to acquire an Insight and Lightning element has been halved. This trick really works. However, now that his points were so close to the 500,000 mark, Wang Jian felt that it would be better to wait and upgrade his cultivation technique. He spent the day with his wives, assisting them in managing their respective groups. Wang Jian devoted himself to helping Su Xian train her disciples, informing them that experts from the Lotus Blossom sect would be arriving in a few days to guide them. Once their training was complete, they would be ready to gain battle experience by venturing into the nearby woods to hunt beasts. Meanwhile, Wang Jian helped Fin Shuiang create 2 teams, as he had previously discussed with Su Xian. These teams were promptly dispatched to accept missions from local towns and to spread the word of their clans. Wang Jian watched intently as Chen Yan focused on the inferno control fan in front of her. Her delicate fingers moved with precision as she summoned forth the flames, coaxing them into tendrils that danced and twisted at her command. As she worked, Wang Jian stepped closer, his eyes never leaving her graceful movements. He could feel the heat emanating from the flames, but he paid it no mind as he focused solely on his wife's progress. He offered her pointers, guiding her on how to better control the tendrils and weave them into intricate patterns. With each passing moment, Chen Yan's confidence grew, and the flames responded to her with even greater obedience. Together, they continued to work, perfecting her technique until the tendrils moved with the fluidity of water, their heat tempered to a comfortable warmth. Satisfied with their progress, Wang Jian stepped back and watched as Chen Yan continued to practice. A week had passed in the blink of an eye, and several significant events had transpired. Firstly, Yi Chen met with the second princess, Wang Ying. Secondly, experts from the Lotus Blossom sect arrived at Wang Jian's mansion. Thirdly, the third prince had received messages from the Crimson Mammoth tribe and the Miracle Angel tribe and was planning his next move. Lastly, Wang Jian received a sword forged by the Heavenly Blade sect. Now, let's delve into the first event that occurred, Yi Chen's meeting with the second princess. After settling matters with the church, Yi Chen stayed for some time, waiting for Hong Meilin's return. However, during his stay, he received a message from the second princess, requesting a meeting. The message included the time and location of the meeting. Though hesitant at first, Yi Chen eventually made the decision to attend the meeting, believing that it would be beneficial for furthering his ambitions within the empire. Therefore, Yi Chen departed from Yuelu City and embarked on his journey towards Jinhua City. The location for meeting with the second princess was set to take place at the illustrious Jin clan's mansion. It was communicated to him that he must carry the note with him, for without it, he would not be allowed entry into the premises. Yi Chen's journey to Jinhua City took a mere day, thanks to the cloud-soar falcon he rode on. This majestic creature was one of many tamed and trained by the beast taming community to serve as transportation for travel agencies and organizations across the everlasting Mystic Empire. Under an agreement with the beast taming community, travel agencies received these beasts at a high cost, but the investment was worth it for the speed and convenience they offered. The community ensured that the beasts were obedient and safe for passengers, using special training centers to tame and condition them for use in transportation. Despite having a few days before the scheduled meeting, Yi Chen felt an urgency to reach Jinhua City without delay. He harbored doubts about the intentions behind the invitation and could not shake off the suspicion that this might be a trap set up by either Wang Jian or the second princess Wang Ying. Even though he recognized that Wang Ying was aligned with a distinct faction and vying for the throne, Yi Chen deemed it prudent to take precautions and verify the situation before the meeting. Upon arriving in Jinhua City, Yi Chen made it his priority to gather as much information about the Jin clan as possible. He spoke with a multitude of locals, including those in the city, taverns, and even some of the shadier alleys. After conducting extensive research, Yi Chen discovered that there had been no unusual activity or rumors of any trap set by the Jin clan. However, Yi Chen did uncover a piece of information of interest. The Jin clan had previously faced a near-destruction threat from the Jade Serpent sect, and as a result, all members of the sect were actively hunted by the Jin clan members. The days passed by in the blink of an eye, and it's finally the time of the meeting. During these days, Yi Chen bought all sorts of talismans by trading the precious fruits he had on him. He could always grow more of those trees by utilizing the Chaos Essence bead. Upon arriving at the Jin clan's mansion, Yi Chen presented the message bearing the second princess's seal. This allowed him entry into the mansion, and he was escorted to the main hall, where he found several chairs occupied by members of the Jin clan. Upon entering the grand hall, Yi Chen laid eyes on the patriarch of the Jin clan, Jin Sheng, who sat regally on a chair placed on a raised pedestal. The only other chair on the platform was unoccupied. Among the various members of the clan present, Yi Chen also noticed Jin Meixiang, a strikingly beautiful woman who sat on a chair placed on the floor. Alongside her, Jin Sheng's father and brother had taken their respective seats. Jin Sheng cast an inquisitive gaze towards Yi Chen and asked, "May I know who you are?" With a composed demeanor, Yi Chen replied, "I am Yi Chen, summoned here by the second princess for a meeting." "I see. Please be seated and wait until she arrives," Jin Sheng replied, gesturing towards an empty chair. Yi Chen sat down and surveyed the members present in the hall. However, his attention was particularly drawn towards Jin Meixiang. She was an exquisite beauty, her features conveying an air of elegance and purity, which caused a lascivious gleam to appear in Yi Chen's eyes. Jin Xing observed Yi Chen's gaze and noticed a certain glint in his eyes that made him frown. He wondered why the second princess would summon someone with such a seemingly unrefined and impure demeanor for a meeting. The members of the Jin clan maintained their silence, observing Yi Chen with cautious eyes. However, Yi Chen seemed to be completely oblivious to the uncomfortable atmosphere he was creating. Instead, he fixed his gaze on Jin Meixiang, flashing his best smile, and asked in a tone that bordered on being irritating, "What's your name, dear?" Jin Meixiang shuddered at Yi Chen's tone and responded with a cold voice, "Please refrain from addressing me so intimately. I am young Miss Jin to you." "Hello, Miss Jin, I am Yi Chen, a disciple of the previous sect master of the Heavenly Blade sect. But feel free to use my first name, my dear," he spoke with a sleazy grin on his face. Jin Xing was on the verge of admonishing Yi Chen for his impertinence, but his father, Jin Piao, interrupted with a look of surprise etched on his face. "Are you truly a disciple of old Chu?" Yi Chen gave a firm nod and showed Jin Piao the command seal of Chu Tianjin, proving his affiliation with the Heavenly Blade sect's former master. Jin Piao's excitement was palpable. "It does appear genuine," he said, examining the seal closely. "So this is why the second princess summoned you." As Yi Chen basked in the moment, Jin Meixiang's mind suddenly flashed back to a request made by Wang Jian. He had asked her to inform him immediately if she ever encountered Yi Chen, the same person who had ambushed him in the past. Pialpha and Dialpha no one, realizing the gravity of the situation, she kept her composure and remained silent, but her eyes narrowed ever so slightly as she regarded Yi Chen with suspicion. Jin Meixiang held high regard for Wang Jian. He had saved the Jin clan from the brink of annihilation without seeking any reward in return. Moreover, he had gone out of his way to call in some favors to have alchemists sent to cure her uncle and grandfather. As they conversed, Jin Piao's eagerness to learn more about Yi Chen's master, Old Chu, was palpable. He had been a disciple of the Heavenly Blade sect during Old Chu's tenure as sect master and had benefited greatly from the pointers that were given to him. These pointers played a crucial role in Jin Piao's ascent to the King realm, making it a defining moment in his martial journey. His reminiscing led to an engaging discussion with Yi Chen, who eagerly shared his knowledge and experiences of training under Old Chu. He would occasionally shoot a lecherous glance at Jin Meixiang, hoping to see a look of amazement on her face. However, Yi Chen's hopes were dashed as he noticed her face bore an apathetic and indifferent expression, utterly lacking in interest or emotion. In the meantime, Jin Xing and his brother stared at Yi Chen with scowls on their faces. Fortunately, the second princess arrived soon enough. She entered the hall along with a couple of her subordinates and guards. The room fell silent as everyone stood up and gave her a respectful bow, except for Yi Chen, who seemed startled by the sudden action. He stood up, but unlike the others, he didn't bow. He seemed to be checking out Wang Ying and was surprised to see that she was such a gorgeous beauty. In terms of looks, Wang Ying was equal to Jin Meixiang. However, in terms of that royal and commanding aura, Wang Ying easily beat Jin Meixiang. One of Wang Ying's subordinates noticed Yi Chen's omission of a bow and spoke up, his voice laced with hostility. "Hey, you! Why aren't you bowing? Are you showing disrespect towards Her Highness?" Yi Chen smirked and replied with a hint of arrogance, "I don't bow to anyone except my parents, master, and the heavens." The subordinate became even more furious and made a threatening gesture towards Yi Chen, ready to attack him. However, before anything could happen, Wang Ying stepped in and asked, "You must be Yi Chen, correct?" Yi Chen confirmed her suspicions with a confident tone. Wang Ying's expression shifted slightly, but she maintained her composure and ordered her subordinate to stand down. "Leave it," she said firmly. She then addressed everyone else in the hall with a polite tone, "Please take your seats. Let us proceed with the meeting as quickly as possible." Wang Ying settled herself on the vacant chair positioned beside Jin Xing on the elevated platform. Her retinue of guards formed a protective barrier behind her while the rest of her subordinates took their seats on the same level as Yi Chen and the others. "Today's meeting is to deliberate our new strategy since our old one is no longer viable. I presume you're all familiar with the reason behind this shift. It's all thanks to my dear brother, Wang Jian, who has become a wild card in this situation," Wang Ying announced in a composed tone, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. Yi Chen visibly trembled at the mention of Wang Jian. His reaction didn't escape Wang Ying's observation. She was now sure that Yi Chen had a personal grudge against her brother. She was sure that his desire to take vengeance must be even stronger as he had tasted defeat at Wang Jian's hands. At this moment, Jin Xing turned towards Wang Ying and inquired, "Your Highness, is it wise to discuss such an important matter in the presence of an outsider?" Everyone in the hall knew that Jin Xing was talking about Yi Chen. A scowl appeared on Yi Chen's face as he heard Jin Qing's words. However, he took a quick glance at Jin Meixiang before calming his anger. Wang Ying noticed Yi Chen's behavior and read the situation, gaining insight into his personality. Lord Xing, Yi Chen is not an outsider. In fact, he will play a vital role in my new strategy, Wang Ying declared with a sly smile on her lips. Everyone present in the hall, including Yi Chen, was stunned by Wang Ying's announcement. They never expected that Yi Chen, who didn't belong to any faction formed by the members of the royal family, would play such an essential role in her new strategy. Noticing the inquisitive looks of everyone in the hall, Wang Ying proceeded to elaborate. Yi Chen is a formidable warrior who has reached the pinnacle of the Lord Realm. His mentor is an expert at the Emperor Realm, a testament to his exceptional talent. He has recently proven his bravery and might by attacking my brother Wang Jian for reasons unknown to me. Furthermore, she continued, Yi Chen is well connected to numerous influential figures in various domains. He has strong ties with the Heavenly Blade Sect, the Mystic Creature Handlers Union, the Brotherhood of the Steel Fist, the Crimson Guards, the Iron Mercenaries, the Church of the Divine Light, and the Lotus Blossom Sect. As Wang Ying concluded her explanation, the members of the assembly were left in utter astonishment. They gazed at Yi Chen with a mix of admiration and trepidation, finally realizing the extent of his power and influence. Yi Chen's eyes narrowed as he stared at Wang Ying, surprised that she had knowledge of his recent interaction with the Lotus Blossom Sect. Clearly, she had a wide information network across all factions. Jin Meixiang rolled her eyes disdainfully and posed a challenging question. Your Highness, while Yi Feng may have contacts in these illustrious factions, they are unlikely to be the decision-makers. How, then, can he be a core part of the new strategy? Wang Ying raised her brows, not expecting this question to arise. All the build-up she had created for Yi Chen now seemed to be in vain. The other members of the Jin clan were also beginning to realize the questionable nature of her decision. Even Yi Chen had a dark complexion as he heard that question. However, since it was Jin Meixiang who asked that question, he restrained his anger. In a calm and graceful manner, Wang Ying responded to Jin Meixiang's query, that is indeed true. And that is precisely why Yi Chen is the core part of my strategy. With a slight smirk, she continued, all of Yi Chen's contacts in these factions are young yet talented individuals. By offering them assistance to acquire powerful positions in their respective factions, we can ensure their loyalty and strengthen our network. These individuals are the future decision-makers of their respective factions, and our support can guarantee their gratitude and devotion. Her answer was convincing and appropriate, and it made everyone in the hall nod in agreement. Even Jin Qing appeared satisfied with Wang Ying's reasoning. Before Jin Meixiang could ask another question, Wang Ying turned towards Yi Chen, this meeting is also a formal invitation for you to join my faction. However, before that, I have a couple of questions I would like you to answer. Yi Chen paused for a moment before nodding his consent. What would you like to know? He asked. Wang Ying's eyes bore into Yi Chen's as she posed her question. Why did you ambush my brother Wang Jian? As far as I know, he had no prior connection with you and couldn't have possibly offended you. And yet, you not only targeted him, but also attacked a few of his friends. Yi Chen sneered arrogantly as he answered, he and his despicable friends bullied my childhood friend. Wang Ying arched a skeptical eyebrow as she spoke, Guanyin? I did hear about the incident involving my brother's friends harassing her, but it was resolved quickly without any harm coming to her. Yi Chen retorted with a cold, unyielding expression, their intentions were malicious, and they had to face the consequences of their actions. Wang Ying couldn't help but narrow her eyes at Yi Chen's arrogance, but she recognized the value of such a man, one who could be easily manipulated. I understand, Wang Ying responded calmly. She posed her next inquiry, would you be willing to assist me in vanquishing my adversaries, Yi Chen? Yi Chen replied straightforwardly, it depends on who you're referring to. If it's Wang Jian, I will spare no effort to ensure his faction suffers immense losses. As for others, I can't guarantee anything. I appreciate your candid response, Wang Ying said, her voice smooth and even. She then posed her final query, what compensation do you desire in exchange for your services, Yi Chen? This question caused Yi Chen to pause for a moment. He cast a glance at Jin Meixiang before meeting Wang Ying's gaze. I seek an official title as Duke, complete with a fiefdom. Additionally, upon defeating Wang Jian and dismantling his faction, I desire the right to first pick among his subordinates for recruitment into my own forces, Yi Chen replied with a serious countenance. Wang Ying was taken aback by the audacity of Yi Chen's request. He was asking for a great deal, not only the coveted title of Duke, but also the privilege of recruiting Wang Jian's subordinates. This made Wang Ying wonder whether she missed a talent among Wang Jian's subordinates. However, she decided to think about this later and smiled. You have a deal. The truth was, Yi Chen had ulterior motives for his second demand, discover new Tories at nv/lbin.c/o. He remembered the 5 gorgeous women who accompanied Wang Jian and didn't want them to end up in Wang Ying's faction. Yi Chen wanted them for himself and knew it would be more difficult to seduce them if they joined Wang Ying's side. Wang Ying declared authoritatively, remember, I can only fulfill this promise after you've eradicated Jian's faction. Until then, I can issue a permit allowing you to recruit people without any conflict with the Empire's authorities. Also, if you require any resources, inform me, and I'll try my best to provide them. Yi Chen was satisfied with these conditions and nodded in agreement. Wang Ying rose from her seat and said, now that we've settled this matter, let's move on to discussing our new strategy in detail. Jinxing nodded obediently and led the group out of the main hall, through a series of winding corridors until they finally reached the war chambers. As they entered, the room revealed a grand round table, adorned with multiple maps, feather pens, ink pots, and various other tools for strategy and planning. Wang Ying surveyed the room before turning to Jinxing and instructing him, pull out an extensive map of the entire empire. Jinxing nodded and began to rummage through a large stack of maps until he found one that was detailed and large enough to display the entire empire. Once the map was laid out on the table, Wang Ying motioned for everyone to gather around. All right, let's begin our strategy meeting, she said with a confident tone. We need to plan our next move carefully. As Yi Chen gazed upon the map spread out before him, he couldn't help but feel impressed by its scope and level of detail. The map was not only expansive but also carefully annotated with a plethora of locations and names, many of which he had never seen before. He took his time examining it, committing as much information as possible to memory. It was a rare opportunity for him to lay eyes on such a comprehensive and accurate map of the entire empire. Wang Ying proceeded to outline her strategy, her voice ringing with authority. Our main focus will be on the region near the Jade Serpent sect and the Celestial Dragon sect. The Jin clan and Yi Chen will be responsible for targeting all branches of the Tao of Alchemy Society, the Celestial Talismans Guild, the Silk Road Traders, the Lotus Assassins, and the Sacred Crane sect. Yi Chen's face contorted with disgust as he questioned, but what's the point? These are just the branches of factions that Wang Jian's friends belong to. It won't harm him directly. Wang Ying patiently explained, true, but my brother's faction is still in its infancy. By targeting these associations, we'll create a domino effect. Once we hit a few branches, the associations will become suspicious and launch their own investigations. It won't take long for them to realize that these branches were targeted because of their ties with Wang Jian's faction. Once they realize this, they will put pressure on the families of Wang Jian's friends, forcing them to cut ties with him. This will deal a significant blow to Wang Jian's faction and slow down their expansion. Jinxing spoke up with a serious expression, catching everyone's attention. Your Highness, your plan is well thought out, but there is a slight issue with it that needs to be addressed, he said. Wang Ying raised an eyebrow curiously and asked, what is it, Lord Xing? Jinxing's voice remained firm as he spoke, Your Highness, with all due respect, I cannot allow a single member of the Jin clan to take part in targeting His Highness Wang Jian's faction. Wang Ying and the others in the room were shocked by his statement. What do you mean, Lord Xing? Asked Wang Ying, her tone becoming cold. Jinxing responded with a calm and steady voice, Wang Jian is the benefactor of our clan. He saved us from the brink of destruction and didn't ask for anything in return. In fact, he even sent an alchemist to cure my brother and father. Attacking his faction directly would be a betrayal of my clan's honor. Wang Ying took a moment to process Jinxing's words before replying, Your words are both admirable and frustrating, Lord Xing. I am impressed with your sense of honor and loyalty, but at the same time, it makes our task more challenging. She then turned to Yi Chen and assured him, since the Jin clan won't participate in this mission, I will ask another clan to assist you in your mission. Yi Chen nodded in agreement, understanding the situation. Wang Ying gestured to a specific location on the map, which was located near the Emerald Mist Mountain. I want your clan to focus your efforts on this area, she commanded Jinxing in a commanding tone. Subjugate the clans in Qianshu City and Jilia City and take control of the trade routes leading to the Emerald Mist Mountain. Additionally, any bandit camps or outposts in the region must be eliminated. She then added, there are 3 prosperous cities over this Emerald Mist Mountain. If we gain control of the trade routes leading to the mountain, we can extend our influence on those cities and earn significant profits. Jinxing listened carefully and replied confidently, the Jin clan won't let you down, Your Highness. Wang Ying nodded approvingly but added a warning. Be cautious. I've heard that there are 3 King Realm experts in the area, each belonging to a different clan. However, I have no doubt that your clan will be able to handle them. Jin Qing's expression remained unchanged as he replied, I will send a few teams and conduct thorough research before taking swift action. That would be the best approach, Wang Ying affirmed with a nod. Afterwards, the group delved into various other important topics. They discussed the distribution and transfer of resources and weaponry, along with the logistics of their transportation. The conversation went on for a considerable amount of time, with each member providing their input and expertise. Finally, they concluded the meeting inside the war chambers, confident in their plans and ready to set them in motion. In the midst of the week, the second notable event occurred as experts from the Lotus Blossom sect made their way into Wang Jian's grand palace. Greetings, Elder Qiu, Wang Jian respectfully welcomed the elder, who was accompanied by a group of disciples. I am grateful for your presence and assistance in this matter. Please follow me, he spoke, leading the group to where Su Xian trained her disciples. Elder Qiu smiled warmly and replied, It is our pleasure to assist you, Your Highness. Lead the way. As they approached the training area, Elder Qiu cast a critical eye around the room. She was renowned for her expertise in spiritual arts and combat, and her middle-stage King Realm status made her a formidable figure in the martial world. She gave a brief nod before speaking her mind. Their form is commendable, but their movements lack fluidity. With a day's worth of training, I can guarantee you a marked improvement. Wang Jian's curiosity was piqued, and he asked eagerly, Is it a significant issue? Elder Qiu reassured him with a smile. Not at all, Your Highness. We can easily rectify the issue with some focused training. With that, the group settled in for a productive day of training, with Elder Qiu's expertise and guidance proving invaluable to Su Xian's disciples. Throughout the day, Elder Qiu and her disciples demonstrated a range of fighting styles to Su Xian's disciples, helping them to refine their basic techniques. The impact of this training was significant, not only for Su Xian's disciples but also for Su Xian and Meng Xiangyi. Until then, their exposure to different combat styles had been quite limited, primarily focused on the techniques used by Su Xian, Meng Xiangyi, and the members of the 3 tribes. The new techniques demonstrated by Elder Qiu and her disciples expanded their horizons and gave them a fresh perspective on martial arts. They learned how to incorporate different movements and styles into their existing techniques, creating a more dynamic and versatile fighting style. Su Xian was particularly impressed by the fluidity and grace of Elder Qiu's movements, and she was grateful for the opportunity to learn from such an accomplished expert. Even Wang Jian was somewhat impressed by Elder Qiu's teaching method. It was a dynamic rather than a static or theoretical process. At the end of the day, Elder Qiu approached Wang Jian to report on the progress made by Su Xian's disciples. Your Highness, I am pleased to inform you that I have corrected their forms. While there are still some minor issues that require battle experience to resolve, they have made remarkable progress, said Elder Qiu in a calm tone. Wang Jian's face lit up with gratitude as he replied, Your assistance has been invaluable, Elder Qiu. Your training exercises have truly opened my eyes. As someone with no teaching experience, I cannot help but admire how effortlessly you impart knowledge. Hearing his words, Elder Qiu couldn't help but feel flattered. She turned her face away, trying to hide her blush as she replied, It's just a matter of experience, Your Highness. I have spent many years honing my skills. Indeed, said Wang Jian, nodding in agreement. I must thank Lu Yu for sending such a talented expert to assist us. You flatter me, Your Highness, responded Elder Qiu. However, there was no denying that prideful look in her eyes. Feeling a sudden urge, Wang Jian offered, Why don't we share a drink, Elder Qiu? I would love to discuss the matter of payment and perhaps some other matters. Of course, replied Elder Qiu as they made their way to a scenic pond area. The moon was casting its silver glow on the placid water, illuminating the entire area with its ethereal light. Wang Jian and Elder Qiu took their seats on lavish chairs and a round table nearby, surrounded by nothing but the tranquil sounds of nature. As they sipped their drinks, Wang Jian spoke, This area is quite peaceful, isn't it, Elder Qiu? I often come here to clear my mind and escape the chaos of the palace. Elder Qiu nodded in agreement, Indeed, it's a beautiful spot. Your Highness has an excellent taste in choosing such a serene location. A moment of silence followed as Wang Jian savored his drink, and then he said, Regarding your payment, Elder Qiu, I would like to offer something more than the agreed-upon amount. I appreciate your hard work and dedication in training my men, and I believe it's only fair to compensate you accordingly. Elder Chio's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly regained her composure and replied, "Your Highness, your generosity is too great. I couldn't possibly accept more than what was agreed upon." But Wang Jian persisted, "Please, Elder Chio, consider it as a token of my appreciation." He then threw a spatial pouch towards her. Elder Chio glanced inside the pouch by utilizing her spiritual energy and noticed there were precious gems inside. These gems were all filled with precious qi and elemental qi. These were just a part of what Wang Jian owned, as he had gained 3% of the church's income, which was just astronomical. "This is around twice the price that we initially agreed upon." "There is indeed a reason I am being so generous, Elder Chio," Wang Jian spoke somberly. "I would like to keep the presence of these disciples a secret. So, I request that you or your disciples do not mention anything about what happened today. I am sure you realize my concerns." Elder Chio nodded her head understandingly. She spoke calmly, "Your faction is still new. You don't want to alert your enemies of the new force you are developing." "That's right. Moreover, it won't just be harmful to me, but for you and your disciples," Wang Jian spoke. Elder Chio responded with a solemn tone, "Please rest assured, Your Highness. This secret will stay with me and my disciples." "Thank you," Wang Jian said, finishing up his drink. As they took a short walk around the lake before parting ways, Elder Chio gathered her disciples to talk to them. Meanwhile, Wang Jian sought out Su Xian and hugged her from behind. "How did your task go?" Wang Jian asked softly. She agreed, Su Xian responded with a smile. In reality, while Wang Jian was talking with Elder Chio, Su Xian had a conversation with Lan Yu, one of Elder Chio's disciples. Su Xian had successfully bribed Lan Yu to plant a spy in the Lotus Blossom sect who would keep them updated on Yi Chen's activities. Lan Yu had already received an advance payment in the form of a spirit-empowering pellet. Su Xian reported, "Lan Yu informed me that Yi Chen encountered one of the teams that were exploring the Crimson Canopy Woods. Elder Hua led the team on a mission to acquire a heavenly moon blossom flower growing in a secret cave in the forest. However, when they returned, they had 4 heavenly moon blossom flowers. It appears Yi Chen was the reason behind the multiplication of the herbs." Wang Jian looked intrigued at this new information. It seems he possesses a treasure that can multiply herbs. Su Xian nodded in agreement, "Yes, and it appears that he also developed a close relationship with all the disciples in the team led by Elder Hua." Well, Wang Jian wasn't surprised by this information. He would be more surprised if this weren't the case. What about rumors of any relationship with Elder Hua? Is there any? Wang Jian asked. Read latest ch.lbi.co/m. Su Xian shook her head and spoke, "I did think of that and asked Lan Yu. However, Lan Yu mentioned that Elder Hua is considered one of the cold fairies of the sect. She has no interest in pursuing romance. Moreover, she had treated Yi Chen very coldly during the expedition." Wang Jian had a smile on his face as he heard this information. He was around 70% sure that Elder Hua was a heroine. "All right. Get some servants to conduct thorough research on this Elder Hua." Wang Jian left Su Xian before meeting up with Elder Chio and her disciples. He accompanied them to the exit. Before they could leave, Elder Chio spoke, "If there are any other issues, please be sure to contact me, Your Highness. You can directly send a message to the Misty Rain Peak." "I will be sure to remember that, Elder Chio." "Once again, thank you for your wonderful services," Wang Jian spoke politely. This second event occurred somewhere in the first few days of the beginning of the week. It was a major event as Wang Jian had successfully planted a spy within the Lotus Blossom sect while also providing a proper training exercise for the women training under Su Xian. Most importantly, it also informed him a bit about Yi Chen's cheat's abilities and his current actions. "All right. According to what I know, Yi Chen possesses a rare insight into the laws of sword despite being in the Lord realm. However, it's not because his weapon is special or nothing. It felt rather normal. Secondly, he has a special artifact through which he can multiply herbs. I wonder what the cost of growth is. Can it multiply other resources such as ores?" Yi Chen had accompanied Hong Meiling's group to the cathedral. From there on, he went to the Crimson Canopy Woods and came across Elder Hua's team. After that, he returned to the cathedral. That's his last known location. On the 4th day of the week, the third notable event took place. It occurred in the chambers of Wang Chen, the third prince of the everlasting mystic empire. He was engrossed in reading the messages sent by the Miracle Angel tribe and the Crimson Mammoth tribe. The room was dimly lit, and the prince sat on a cushioned chair, his eyes scanning the notes with intense concentration. My utmost appreciation to your highness for extending such a generous proposal to my tribe. As per your letter, it is true that we were exiled from the empire centuries ago due to a grave mistake committed by our ancestors. Nevertheless, we have learned from our past and have come a long way since then. The Crimson Mammoth tribe wholeheartedly accepts your offer. However, due to a precarious situation, we are unable to leave the faction of His Highness Wang Jian as he holds us under his power. Nonetheless, we will be honored to render our support to you discreetly. Of course, this is on the condition that you provide our tribe with necessary resources, aid us in our expansion, and remove the blemish on our clan's reputation. Wang Chen couldn't help but grin ear to ear as he finished reading the message from the Miracle Angel tribe. It was almost identical to the one he received from the Crimson Mammoth tribe. Inwardly, he was pleased with the response. This was precisely what he had hoped for when he sent the offer to the exiled clans. However, Wang Chen had no intention of allowing these tribes to work under him. He had a greater purpose in mind. Instead, he intended to use these tribes to keep a close eye on Wang Jian's movements, using them as spies within his camp. Find up Tedovals on n/v/elbin.co/m. It was a brilliant strategy that could potentially give him the edge he needed to outmaneuver his cunning little brother. As a result, the two tribes began to maintain regular communication with Wang Chen, providing him with valuable insights into the current state of Wang Jian's faction. They informed him that Wang Jian was engaged in meetings with representatives from various tribes, which suggested that he was attempting to expand his influence and strengthen his position in the ongoing struggle for power. Moreover, they earned Wang Chen's trust by sharing information about Wang Jian's meeting with the Lotus Blossom sect. They informed him of the name of Elder Qiu. Wang Jian's interest in forming an alliance with the neutral sect made perfect sense, as it could potentially provide a significant advantage in the ongoing conflict. It was clear that Wang Jian was pursuing a smart strategy. Rather than attempting to persuade other factions to defect and join his own, he was focusing on cultivating relationships with neutral parties. This approach was likely to prove much more effective in the long run. After receiving satisfying reports from the two tribes, Wang Chen decided to reward them with a generous amount of resources. He also gave them their first assignment to keep him updated on Wang Jian's meetings while remaining covert. Meanwhile, Wang Chen instructed his informants in the Lotus Blossom sect to keep a close watch on Elder Qiu's movements. In addition, the Jade Serpent sect reached out to Wang Chen and apologized for the failure of their mission. They explained that Blade Serpent couldn't have revealed his identity, as he was misled to believe that the order to attack the Jin clan came from Crown Prince Wang Hao, not Wang Chen. Despite the apology, Wang Chen made a mental note to keep a closer eye on the Jade Serpent sect and their activities. Meanwhile, inside Wang Jian's palace, he received intelligence regarding the resources that Wang Chen had discreetly sent to the Crimson Mammoth tribe and the Miracle Angel tribe. According to the report, Wang Chen had sent 7 tomes of different and rare assault techniques, 2 tomes of movement techniques, and 3 tomes of defensive techniques. In addition, 7 kilograms of the precious Azure Chi Heart Jade had also been sent to them. The Azure Chi Heart Jade was known to possess one of the purest forms of energy, and its primary use was to construct a closed-room cultivation array that would allow a cultivator to absorb the purest form of Qi. Even Wang Jian only possessed a few dozen of kilograms of Azure Chi Heart Jade in his treasury. Those jades were spread to all 3 tribes along with Su Xian's disciples. The final event of the week was marked by the arrival of a magnificent sword crafted by the renowned Heavenly Blade sect. Elder Mu had arrived at Wang Jian's palace to deliver a sword personally. Wang Jian was admiring the blade while Elder Mu began to explain the sword's construction. As per the Emperor's command, this sword has been forged using the rare and powerful Tyrant's Emperor crystal for its blade, Elder Mu explained. The handle is made of a special material known as dragon hide steel. This unique material not only provides a sturdy grip but also adapts to the wielder's hand size for maximum comfort and control. Wang Jian swung the sword a few times, feeling the weight and balance of the blade. He looked at Elder Mu and asked, "What's the name of the sword?" Elder Mu replied, "The name of this sword is Tyrannical Sovereign's Blade." Wang Jian, impressed with the sword's design, gave it a few swings before commenting, "An interesting name for such an impressive weapon." Elder Mu noticed Wang Jian's enthusiasm and took the opportunity to address the incident with Disciple Yi. The Heavenly Blade sect had no knowledge of Disciple Yi's actions. "We apologize for any trouble he has caused and implore you to give us an opportunity to rectify our mistake." "How will you make this right?" Wang Jian asked nonchalantly. Elder Mu replied, "We will investigate Disciple Ye's motives and punish him severely depending on his actions." We do not condone such behavior and will do everything in our power to maintain our honor and reputation. You don't need to bother investigation. Yi Chen informed me of the reason behind the ambush. He accused me of harassing one of his friends, Guanyin, Wang Jian replied while rolling his eyes in disdain. As Elder Mu stood up, his face contorted with anger, he exclaimed, "What preposterousness! How could he falsely accuse your highness of such an egregious offense?" Wang Jian swiftly turned towards Elder Mu and looked at him with a cold and unwavering gaze. In a voice dripping with arrogance, he spoke, "It does not matter if the accusation is true or not. Even if I did commit such an act, so what? Would that mean that a member of the Heavenly Blade sect would raise hands against the imperial family? No, your highness. What disciple Yi did was extremely wrong. Rest assured, we will find him and punish him appropriately." Elder Mu spoke. There was a short moment of silence in the area. Wang Jian broke the silence with a cold tone, "I want 5 sword techniques and I will let this matter rest." Elder Mu fell into deep thought before responding, "That is acceptable. Which techniques do you want, your highness?" "I have brought a couple of techniques with me." Wang Jian raised his brow in amazement. This really did surprise him. It implied that the Heavenly Blade sect had anticipated this request. After looking at all these techniques, Wang Jian selected 5 of them. Starry Night Sky Strike. This sword technique involves the wielder gathering and concentrating their energy before unleashing it in one swift and powerful strike. When performed, the user's sword glows with a bright blue light, reminiscent of the starry night sky. The strike is so powerful that it can shatter even the most durable of materials, making it a deadly attack against both living beings and objects. Serene Moonlight Slash. This technique involves the user moving their sword in a fluid and graceful motion, creating a shimmering trail of light as they do so. The strike is executed with incredible speed and precision, making it difficult to defend against. Upon impact, the strike emits a brilliant white light, reminiscent of the serene moonlight. It is a technique best used to quickly take down opponents with swift, deadly strikes. Swift Silver Stab. This technique involves the wielder unleashing a lightning-fast thrust with their sword aimed at a specific target. The strike is delivered with such speed and precision that it can pierce even the thickest armor, making it a deadly attack against heavily protected opponents. The blade of the sword glows with a bright silver light, making it appear as if it is moving too quickly to be seen. Endless Blade Defense. This technique is a defensive move, involving the user rapidly moving their sword to block incoming attacks. The user's sword moves in an unending, circular motion, creating a protective barrier around them. This technique is incredibly useful in combat, allowing the user to deflect multiple attacks from various directions. The technique is also useful in buying time to formulate a counterattack strategy. Flowing Water Guard. This defensive technique involves the user moving their sword in a fluid, graceful motion, mimicking the movement of flowing water. Egglesnull. When used, the user's sword emits a tranquil blue aura, making it appear as if it is surrounded by water. The technique is best used to deflect and redirect incoming attacks, rather than completely blocking them. The user can also use this technique to maneuver around their opponent, making it difficult for them to land a hit. After choosing these techniques, Wang Jian received the system's notification. New techniques detected. Does the host wish to learn them? Yes. Learning these techniques required 10,000 destiny points in total. Use them. Instantly, Wang Jian's mind was filled with complete knowledge of these techniques. In this week, Wang Jian had naturally spent his nights with his women. He was already gentle to his wives and had become gentler with Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng, considering that their hatred for Wang Jian was reducing every single day. However, Wang Jian's nightly activities with Xiao Ling, Bishi Shuyan, and Lady Zhuran remained rough. Through his efforts, Wang Jian had amassed 35,000 destiny points. This brought his destiny points to 533,346. However, after learning those sword techniques, 10,000 destiny points were deducted. Thus, his current status screen showed. Status. Name, Wang Jian. Age, 20 years old. Destiny points, 523,346. Cultivation, first stage of the King Realm. Cultivation technique, Soaring Dragon technique, level 4, requires 500,000 destiny points to level up. Skills, Origin Fist, Beam of Destruction, Mystic Force, Divine Shielding Iron Body, Enhanced Strength, Spiritual Sensitivity, Moonrise Fist, Lunar Shield, Moonshadow Step, Shadow Manipulation, Dark Fog, Eclipse Domain Annihilation, Tranquil Mind Divine Mantra, Black Castle, Elemental Genius, Dragon's Prestige, Enchantment Ability, Level 1, Starry Night Sky Strike, Serene Moonlight Slash, Swift Silver Stab, Endless Blade Defense, and Flowing Water Guard. Ocular Abilities, True Eyes, Level 2, 200,000 Destiny Points. Bloodline, Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Bloodline. Second level, Next level, 500,000 Destiny Points. Insight in Laws, Flame, Mid-level, 2 million Destiny Points. Lightning, Nil, 150,000 Destiny Points. Dark, Nil, 100,000 Destiny Points. Sword, Nil. Physique, Chaotic Young Body, Dormant. Spirit, Dark Flame Double-Headed River Dragon, 7-star Spirit, Mutated. Weaknesses, Holy Attribute. Solar Attribute. This time, Wang Jian felt it would be best to upgrade the Soaring Dragon technique. After Elder Mu's departure, he decided to utilize the points he had earned and make the most of his training. As Wang Jian focused his mind, he sensed a mysterious energy coursing through his body. The energy flowed with newfound vigor and ferocity, causing his muscles to tense and his senses to sharpen. The path of the qi was now completely different, much quicker and fluid than before, and Wang Jian felt a sense of serenity as he observed the changes in his body. As the upgrade completed, Wang Jian sensed a layer forming over his physique, creating beautiful azure scales made of pure qi. This was the true Dragon Scales ability, a new power that significantly boosted his offensive and defensive capabilities. The scales felt like a second skin, and Wang Jian marveled at their intricate patterns and their responsiveness to his movements. As Wang Jian was studying the changes in his body, a notification from the system interrupted his thoughts. The host's cultivation technique has significantly stimulated the chaotic young body. It can now be unlocked by utilizing 1 million destiny points. The sudden notification took Wang Jian by surprise. He had long given up hope of awakening his physique, thinking it was impossible. He had even considered releasing Yu Qing from the Divine Spirit prison to seek her help, but he knew the risks involved. The source of this content n/o/v/l/by/n. Yu Qing would never forgive him for imprisoning her and might even seek revenge for what he did to Zhang Fei. Thus, Wang Jian had to create a situation where he could release her without the fear of getting killed. Or, he would have to keep on utilizing the enchantment ability on her until it worked. However, the system's notification stating that it would require 1 million destiny points caused Wang Jian to sigh. It would be really hard to gather so many destiny points just by using Xiaoling, Bishi Shuyan, and Lady Zhuoran. The destiny points they were providing him was reducing. Egglesnell, even if he made these 3 women fall in love with himself, Wang Jian felt that he would barely be able to gather 500,000 destiny points. He had to think of something else. Target Yi Chen or one more of his heroines. Well, Wang Jian didn't spend too much time thinking about it. He would see how it goes. Meanwhile, a branch of the esteemed Tao of Alchemy Society had been viciously attacked. Xia Hui, the Grand Elder and a highly respected figure in the society, was present at the branch as he was guiding and mentoring the young alchemists. With his exceptional skills, Xia Hui fiercely fought against the assailants, but unfortunately, he was overwhelmed and rendered unconscious. His condition was alarming, and none of the healing pellets were having any effect on his spirit and soul. The alchemists in the society were perplexed, and it took them a while to identify the root of the problem. Finally, they discovered that the Grand Elder had been afflicted with a potent poison that was lingering over his spirit. The alchemists immediately recognized the poison as the work of Huan Yi, also known as the Poison King. Huan Yi was a notorious figure from one of the vassal kingdoms of the everlasting mystic empire, known for his extraordinary talent in concocting deadly poisons. The grave condition of Xia Hui, Xia Shiwei's grandfather and the powerful Grand Elder of the Tao of Alchemy Society, had created a power vacuum that threatened Xia Shiwei's family. With Xia Hui's influence in the Alchemy Society at stake, other elders and even the leader saw an opportunity to seize power. Xia Shiwei's father, once a respected member of society, was now excluded from the inner circle of decision-makers, while the family's control over valuable pellets was being eroded. Protests from Xia Shiwei's family were met with vague promises, signaling that society was no longer on their side. With the Alchemy Society turning against them, Xia Shiwei's family knew they had to act fast to protect their wealth and influence. In desperation, Xia Shiwei turned to Wang Jian's palace seeking assistance to avert the looming crisis. Xia Shiwei sat nervously in the elegant hall of Wang Jian's palace, his mind clouded with worry. The weight of his family's future hung heavy on his shoulders. "What should I do, Jian?" If grandfather doesn't recover soon, our family could lose all its remaining influence. Xie Wei spoke out his concerns, his voice laced with desperation. Wang Jian frowned, deep in thought as he contemplated the dire situation. This is not good news, my friend. It seems we must act fast. Xie Wei's eyes widened in hope. Do you have any ideas, Jian? Wang Jian sighed heavily. It won't be easy, but I might have a solution. However, it comes with great risk. What is it? Xie Wei leaned forward, his eyes twinkling in hope. I require a sample of your grandfather's blood first, stated Wang Jian. Xie Wei had anticipated this request and promptly retrieved a vial of blood from his pocket. Here you go, he said, handing it to Wang Jian. Wang Jian examined the blood closely and then gave a command to the system in a low voice, run a thorough analysis and provide details of the poison. This service requires 100 destiny points for a comprehensive analysis. Without hesitation, Wang Jian agreed to the fee, and the system quickly began to provide him with detailed information about the poison. Dream-weaving poison. This poison creates a dreamlike state in the victim's mind, making them lose consciousness while it slowly weaves a web around their spirit, leading to eventual death. The poison possesses a bit of demonic qi that had been concealed very intelligently with appropriate holy herbs. Is there any cure to this poison? Yes. There are 3 ways to cure this poison, according to the current data within the system. However, this information will cost 1,000 destiny points to the host. Use them. The first method is to utilize the 9 heaven root. Use 9 heaven root, heavenly cloud fruit, and sky thunder mushroom to create a powder that can alleviate the poison's effect on the spirit. The second method is to use venomous transfusion. Introduce the soul eater venom inside the victim's body. This potent poison will swallow the dream-weaving poison. Then, use a combination of frost lotus and nirvana seed to expel both poisons from the body. Ghost fire cleansing. Ignite a type of ghostly flame that burns at an extremely high temperature and then submerges the poisoned body into the flame. The heat of the flame burns away the poison, and the holy herb called Dragon's Heart heals the damaged cells. From these 3 methods that the system had provided, Wang Jian could only choose the second method. The Soul Eater venom was available and could be bought from the Lotus Assassins. He also held the Frost Lotus and Nirvana Seed, so it would indeed be possible to cure Xiaohui using this method. Go and get the Frost Lotus and Nirvana Seed ready. I will visit your mansion tomorrow and cure your old man. I know an expert who can treat this poison, Wang Jian spoke. Xie Wei was startled upon hearing those words. He immediately nodded and spoke sincerely, thanks, Jian. If this goes through, I will make sure that my entire family joins your faction officially. After Xie Wei was gone, Wang Jian decided to visit his mother's palace. He asked her of 2 things. One was to procure the Soul Eater venom for him. The second was to send one of her personal alchemists with him to Xie Wei's mansion. He knew that if he went alone, it would be impossible for Xie Wei's family to let him administer the Soul Eater poison to Xiaohui. However, it would be a different matter if an esteemed alchemist were to suggest this remedy. It didn't take long for Bai Liqin to acquire the Soul Eater venom for Wang Jian. She had a couple of contacts in the Lotus Assassins who are rather notorious for coating their weapons with this poison. Although the Soul Eater venom is much stronger compared to the dream-weaving poison, it was easier to cure as it could be easily analyzed. However, the same couldn't be true about the dream-weaving poison. It was weaker, but there was no way to figure out the hint of demonic attribute within this poison due to the presence of holy attribute herbs. Thus, it became really challenging to cure the dream-weaving poison. The only method of saving yourself from such a poison was to guard the spirit very carefully or keep a treasure on yourself that could prevent such a poison from reaching your spirit. The following day, Wang Jian paid a visit to Xie Wei's mansion. Having informed his family beforehand about the arrival of an expert who could heal Xiaohui, the entire family eagerly awaited Wang Jian's arrival. Accompanying Wang Jian was an elderly man, instantly recognizable to the family as Wen Jia, an esteemed alchemist who had pledged his lifelong services to Bai Liqin. His devotion to her was a result of her having saved his life and nurtured him into the alchemist he was today. As they entered the mansion, Xia Chang, Xie Wei's father, rushed to greet them. Thank you for coming, Your Highness, and bringing Master Wen Jia with you. We are indebted to you both, he said with a deep bow. Wang Jian smiled and replied, It's our pleasure to help. Master Wen Jia is one of the most skilled alchemists in the land, and I'm sure he will be able to cure the Grand Elder Hui. Wen Jia nodded, his eyes glinting with determination. I will do my utmost to heal Grand Elder Hui, he said. Based on my analysis of the blood sample, I have some theories on how to counteract the dream-weaving poison. Please lead me to his chambers. Eagles Nova 1, Xia Chang nodded and gestured for Wen Jia to follow him. As they walked through the halls, Xia Chang filled Wen Jia in on the state of his father's condition. He has been weakening by the day, Xia Chang said. The maids have been administering the spirit-empowering elixir directly to his blood every hour, but it only strengthens his spirit for a short time. When they entered the room, Xia Hui lay on the bed, his breathing shallow and labored. Wen Jia approached the bed and examined Xia Hui closely. I need some privacy to administer the cure, Wen Jia said, turning to Xia Chang. Xia Chang hesitated for a moment but then nodded, understanding the need for secrecy in the alchemical arts. Please, do whatever it takes to save my father, Xia Chang implored, extending a small velvet pouch to Wen Jia. Inside this spatial pouch, you'll find the requested medicinal herbs and even more. I beg of you, don't let him perish. Wen Jia accepted the pouch, feeling its weight and nodding solemnly. I will do everything within my power, he promised, before Xia Chang bowed and left the room. Once Xia Chang had left, and Wen Jia looked troubled as he gazed at Wang Jian. Are you certain this is the right method to treat Xia Hui? Wen Jia inquired, his tone concerned. Wang Jian had already informed him about the plan to use the Soul Eater venom to treat Xia Hui's condition, but Wen Jia was apprehensive due to the high risk involved. While it is possible to treat the Soul Eater venom using the Frost Lotus and Nirvana Seed, the combination with this unknown poison could be fatal, Wen Jia explained. Wang Jian remained confident. I understand your concern, but it will work, he assured Wen Jia. Wen Jia was still hesitant, unaware of the demonic and holy attributes within the dream-weaving poison that would prevent it from being too lethal when combined with the Soul Eater venom. Wang Jian was aware of this, but due to the lack of time, he could not explain it to Wen Jia. As Wang Jian injected the Soul Eater venom into Xia Hui's body, Wen Jia prepared to use the Frost Lotus and Nirvana Seed to counteract the venom's effects. He carefully held the herbs, ready to release their vital essence at a moment's notice. As the venom began to take hold of Xia Hui's body, a dark aura began to spread across his skin, and he began to sweat profusely. Wen Jia watched nervously, hoping that they would be able to save him. Wang Jian used his spiritual sensitivity ability to closely observe the battle between the two opposing forces within Xia Hui's body. The battle raged on for nearly half an hour, with the Soul Eater venom slowly gaining the upper hand and winning eventually. The Soul Eater venom was now extremely weak and planned to devour Xia Hui's spirit. Just as the venom was about to consume Xia Hui's spirit, Wang Jian shouted, now. Wen Jia sprang into action, his hands bursting into crimson flames that heated the Frost Lotus and Nirvana Seed. The herbs released their vital essence, and Wen Jia expertly manipulated it to envelop Xia Hui's entire body, counteracting the venom's effects. The room was silent as they waited for the treatment to take effect. After a few tense minutes, Xia Hui's body began to calm down, and the dark aura dissipated. He opened his eyes, and Wen Jia breathed a sigh of relief. We did it, he said with a small smile. Wen Jia couldn't help but stare at Wang Jian with admiration. You truly are amazing, Your Highness. You were able to create an antidote for the Poison King's unknown poison, he said, impressed. It's called the dream-weaving poison. I will explain it to you in detail later, Wen Jia, Wang Jian responded calmly. As they left the chambers, Xia Shiwei and his family were waiting for them in the hall. Xia Shiwei practically leapt to pull Wang Jian in a tight embrace while whispering his thanks repeatedly. Xia Chang was also delighted and hugged his wife as they all cheered happily. Thank you, Lord Wen. It's all because of your skill that we could resolve this deadly venom of the Poison King, Xia Chang soon came to thank Wen Jia. Wen Jia accepted the gratitude with a complicated smile. It was my duty to help a friend of His Highness, he said humbly. Xia Chang turned towards Wang Jian with a wide smile on his face as he saw his son hugging the prince. However, the smile soon turned into hesitation before a resolute expression appeared on his face. Your Highness, he began, his voice serious. I must ask for your help once again. That's not a problem, Wang Jian spoke. He further added, take good care of Grand Elder. I will return after a couple of days. I want to discuss something with you. That would be absolutely fine, Your Highness. The doors to the Xia family are forever open to you from now on, Xia Chang declared passionately. After hearing those words, Wang Jian left the mansion in a good mood. He was heading towards his mother's palace. Wen Jia was dismissed, and the mother-son duo were alone in Bai Liqin's chambers now. Judging by that smile, it went well, Bai Liqin commented with a grin. Wang Jian nodded, yes. It won't be long before they contact me again and officially join my faction. Xia Jiwei's family will be an extremely valuable support. He then asked, what about that group? No. They received payment from an anonymous individual in a tavern in the Bihai town. They will never know that the one who paid them to attack Xia Hui was us, Bai Liqin uttered. Wang Jian nodded with a wicked smirk on his face, good. He took his leave from his mother's palace soon enough. As anticipated, Xia Jiwei's family contacted Wang Jian soon after Xia Hui's recovery. Xia Chang paid a visit to Wang Jian's palace to discuss a matter of great importance. Greetings, Your Highness. I am here to discuss a serious matter with you, Xia Chang said upon arrival. Wang Jian, already aware of the topic at hand, welcomed Xia Chang and invited him to the living room. After they both took a seat, a maid was called in to bring tea and snacks for the guests. Xia Chang then spoke with a solemn expression, Your Highness, the Xia family would like to officially join your faction. Wang Jian calmly responded, as I stated earlier, Lord Chang, I would have saved Grand Elder Hui's life simply because he is my friend's grandfather. I do not want you to feel compelled by this incident and make a hasty decision. Xia Chang, with conviction in his voice, replied, No, Your Highness. This is not a hasty decision. I have given it much thought, and it is the right decision for the Xia family. I have even discussed it with my father, and he has given his approval. He then explained, I am sure you won't deny that this attack occurred because of Jiwei's association with you. Wang Jian nodded hesitantly, yes, I had my suspicions as well. My eldest brother, second sister, or third brother might be responsible. Only they have the resources and intelligence to orchestrate such an attack. Read latest OVLS at nv/e/l/buy.com. Xia Chang agreed, I came to the same conclusion, Your Highness. I was initially hesitant about joining your faction, but after this incident, it has become clear that the other members of the Alchemy Society have already chosen their factions. They used those factions to pressurize and humiliate us. If not for your assistance, the Xia family might have lost everything. He continued with a resolute tone, thus, it became clear to me that the choice has already been made. Since the enemy factions are already targeting us, we can't just sit back and take their attacks. We need to fight back. And I believe that officially joining your faction would be the way. You are bound to fight against those factions anyway. Wang Jian nodded thoughtfully and replied, I understand your concerns, Lord Cheng. I accept the Xia family's request to join my faction. I have two conditions for this alliance. What are they? Xia Chang inquired. Firstly, I require 10% of the pellets assigned to the Xia family every month. Secondly, I want the alchemists from your family to prepare pills for me for free, provided I provide the necessary resources, Wang Jian stated composedly. Xia Chang visibly relaxed after hearing the terms and nodded in agreement. That's not an issue, Your Highness. The Xia family pledges to fulfill these conditions. Furthermore, I assure you that no alchemist from the Xia family, including my father Xia Hui, would ever refuse to concoct pills for you, Xia Chang pledged earnestly. He then requested, however, I do have a favor to ask. Would you kindly arrange for some experts to safeguard my family? The Xia family would gladly pay for their services. I have the ideal organization in mind, the Ivory Fang Legion. They are powerful, reliable, and upright. I'll contact them and request their assistance in protecting your family, Wang Jian responded assuredly. Thank you, Your Highness. We eagerly await their arrival, Xia Chang expressed with a grin. The news of Wang Jian's successful healing of Xia Hui spread like wildfire, eliciting various reactions from the people. The Poison King and his followers were taken aback to learn that their potent poison had been resolved by Wang Jian. But they were not the only ones, members of the Tao of Alchemy Society were equally stunned. The Tao of Alchemy Society's members had never imagined that Xia Hui would recover from the deadly poison that had been administered to him. When he was on his deathbed, each member had humiliated the Xia family, believing that they would soon be free of their influence. However, with Xia Hui's impending return to the society, they knew they had made a grave mistake. Xia Hui, although a king realm alchemist, was the only one capable of creating incomplete emperor-rank pellets. The members of the society knew that they would be in trouble when he returned, and they were anxious about how he would react to their behavior towards his family. They knew that Xia Hui was a well-respected and influential figure, and that he had significant sway over many powerful individuals in various factions. In light of this, they decided to take preemptive measures to assuage any potential anger or resentment from Xia Hui. One of the steps they took was to restore all the power and privileges that the Xia family had previously held, including access to rare pellets and the royalties associated with them. In fact, the society went even further this time, granting the Xia family even more privileges and rights than they had before. However, these two groups were not the only ones affected by this incident. The factions belonging to each of the members of the royal family fighting for the throne were the ones most impacted. While the crown prince was still involved in his battle against the demons and had yet to return, his subservient groups were shocked to learn of Xia Hui's miraculous recovery. The second princess and third princess factions were the ones affected the most. Each one had planned to slowly target the Xia family to ensure their collaboration with Wang Jian resulted in a great loss. However, someone else had acted before they could even begin their plans, and the Xia family had fallen directly into Wang Jian's lap. With the Xia family now firmly aligned with Wang Jian's faction, the balance of power in the kingdom was shifting, and those vying for the throne were forced to reevaluate their strategies. It didn't take long before the conditions of Wang Jian's partnership with the Xia family were leaked, a move that was deliberately orchestrated by Wang Jian himself. He had informed the Xia family beforehand of his intentions. The reason behind this move was simple: to broadcast to the entire empire that he had gained access to vast quantities of rare pellets through the Xia family's affiliation. This announcement rendered him a prime target for factions seeking pellets, but it also held an allure for organizations that required these precious substances but couldn't purchase them in the open market. Such organizations included those that had been outlawed by the Empire, such as the Crimson Cult, the Phantom Brotherhood, the Black Hand, the Shadow Warriors, and the Demons. It was only known to a select few individuals in the upper echelon that there were demons with extremely rare bloodlines that possessed a human-like form scattered across the Empire. These demons were strategically located in various parts of the empire to secure resources for their kind. After a few days, Xia Hui had made a full recovery and was able to return to the Tao of Alchemy Society. To the surprise of many, he did not seek revenge on those who had caused trouble for his family during his absence. Instead, he opted to give them a mild punishment, such as a compensation in the form of rare alchemy resources or wealth. This decision was unexpected but was seen as a display of Xia Hui's magnanimous character, as he chose not to hold grudges and instead turned the situation into an opportunity for reconciliation. Naturally, this was occurring all under Wang Jian's instructions. Xia Hui actually wanted to slaughter these bunch of scamps for harming his family. However, Wang Jian had instructed him to act magnanimously. He wanted the Xia family to boost their fame. Wang Jian requested a detailed list of all the individuals who had caused trouble for the Xia family, including the benefits they received from Xia Hui's condition. He was taken aback when he saw the name of Su Imo on the list provided by the Xia family. Su Imo was actually Su Yuding's grandfather and was in line to become the next Grand Elder of the Tao of Alchemy Society due to his extensive experience and exceptional skills. In fact, he was even faster at concocting pellets than Xia Hui, which was quite impressive considering Xia Hui's talent and reputation. However, it was a pity that Su Imo fell slightly short in terms of the quality of pellets compared to Xia Hui. It was known to the public that Su Imo was affiliated with the second princess, Wang Ying's faction. Meanwhile, Su Yuding, Su Mo's granddaughter, was currently in the everlasting Mystic Empire, gaining valuable experience in pellet concoction by creating various types of pellets for Wang Ying's faction. Wang Jian couldn't help but wonder, has she regained her heroine status? He felt it was unlikely as Su Yuding couldn't have met up with Yi Chen yet. System, set up an alert for when Su Yuding regains her heroine status. Alright, host. Yi Chen had been diligently carrying out his mission as a member of the second princess's faction. He had been stationed in the vicinity of the Jade Serpent sect and the Celestial Dragon sect for some time, acquainting himself with the area and scouting potential escape routes. He had also been busy preparing secret hideouts, such as a secluded cave or secret shacks, in case of emergencies. During this time, the Tang clan, which was one of the many clans working under the second princess, had arrived to assist him. Their arrival had greatly eased Yi Chen's burden, allowing him to focus more on his task without having to worry about logistics or support. Accompanying the Tang clan's experts, Yi Chen's friend from the Mystic Creature Handlers Union, Liao Buqin, arrived at the area near the Jade Serpent sect and the Celestial Dragon sect. Liao Buqin was the youngest son of the leader in the Mystic Creature Handlers Union and had a low status. However, he had the good fortune of meeting Yi Chen during an expedition to the Celestial Sage's temple, where he was saved by him. During this journey, Liao Buqin also discovered a powerful and rare beast known as the Golden-Maned Thunder Lion. This unique and rare beast was known for its shimmering, golden mane and lightning-fast reflexes. It was said to possess unparalleled speed, agility, and strength, making it one of the most formidable creatures in the entire empire. As a mystic creature handler, Liao Buqin had formed a close bond with the golden-maned Thunder Lion and trained it to follow his commands. Together, they had become a formidable duo, feared by all who crossed their path. Liao Buqin had always been thankful to Yi Chen for saving his life, so when he heard about Yi Chen's mission, he quickly volunteered to help. He brought with him 30 griffins, each one at the peak of the Lord Realm, which was considered the cream of the crop in the Mystic Creature Handlers Union. These griffins were no ordinary beasts, their speed and agility were unparalleled, making them ideal for reconnaissance and swift strikes. Even a seasoned warrior at the peak of the King Realm would have a tough time keeping up with them. Each member of the Tung clan began rigorous training, alongside Yi Chen, to gain proficiency in riding the beasts. After a week of training, Yi Chen and his team were finally prepared to attack a branch of the Tao of Alchemy Society. However, fate had other plans for them. News had spread like wildfire that Xia Hui, who had been the target of their attack, had made a miraculous recovery. Upon hearing of this news, Wang Ying, the second princess and the leader of their faction, quickly sent a message on her fastest messenger to call off the attack on the branch of the Tao of Alchemy Society. The message left Yi Chen fuming with rage. He couldn't comprehend why Wang Ying would forbid him from attacking the branch at the last possible second. After all, they had spent a considerable amount of time and effort planning for it. Despite his frustration, Yi Chen had no choice but to comply with Wang Ying's orders. Thus, Yi Chen and his team switched their targets, and their new objective was the Celestial Talismans Guild.ead new chapter rs on no/v/e/ln.com. Each member of the team took the necessary precautions and made sure to cover their faces before striking their new target. The Celestial Talismans Guild was known to be a powerful organization that dealt in talismans that was sure to attract the attention of other sects and clans. However, Yi Chen and his team were confident in their abilities and their plan. The branch of Celestial Talismans Guild was a sprawling complex that dominated a significant area of Zhuyu City. The impressive structure was compartmentalized into various sections, each dedicated to a specific type of talisman. These sections included one for assault talismans, another for defensive talismans, one for sealing talismans, another for unsealing talismans, and a section for general-purpose talismans. The Celestial Talismans Guild was heavily guarded, but Yi Chen and his team had carefully planned their attack and swiftly made their way to the guild master's office. As they approached the door, they were confronted by the guards who tried to prevent them from entering. With lightning-fast reflexes, Yi Chen launched a powerful attack, sending the guard flying through the gate and crashing into the wall with a painful groan. The guild master and his guest, an elder of the Celestial Dragons Guild, were shocked by the sudden intrusion and the display of power. "Who are you?" the guild master demanded, his voice filled with fear and anger. By this time, all the Lord Realm experts of Yi Chen's team were stationed outside and were dealing with the guards of the Celestial Talismans Guild. "Hand over the talismans and no one will be harmed," Yi Chen replied coldly, his eyes fixed on the guild master. The elder of the Celestial Dragons Guild moved forward and struck one of Yi Chen's team members. But Yi Chen was quick to react, intercepting the attack by launching the Whirlwind Slash, infused with his sword chi and the vital essence from the Chaos Essence bead. This attack caught the Celestial Dragon's sex elder off guard and caused him to suffer a slight injury. "You underestimate us," Yi Chen said, his voice filled with determination. "We are not to be trifled with. Now hand over what we came for or face the consequences." The Celestial Talismans Guild master remained undeterred by Yi Chen's threat and stepped forward while utilizing a talisman to create a barrier ahead of himself. Members of Yi Chen's team stepped forward as they struck that barrier with enchanted weapons. The guild master's eyes widened in disbelief as he witnessed the enchantments on the weapons. The Celestial Talismans Guild didn't possess these enchantments. "Which clan do you belong to?" he demanded, while releasing his chi to prepare for battle. The guild master may have been a King Realm expert, but his skills were more attuned to creating talismans than actual combat. Nevertheless, he was determined to defend his guild at all costs. Two of Yi Chen's team members, who were also King Realm experts, immediately approached the guild master to engage in combat. However, the guild master was quick to release multiple powerful assault talismans to fend them off. The talismans managed to drive the two warriors away, but they didn't give up. Instead, they regrouped and planned a more strategic approach. Meanwhile, the remaining two King Realm experts of Yi Chen's team fought fiercely against the Celestial Dragon Sex Elder. The sound of clashing swords and explosions echoed through the room as the two groups engaged in a heated battle. "Your efforts are futile," the elder of the Celestial Dragon sect sneered as he unleashed a powerful attack. But Yi Chen's team members were not easily defeated. They dodged and countered with their own attacks, gradually wearing down the elder's defenses. As the battle continued, it became clear that Yi Chen's team had the upper hand, find the new st ovals on n/velben.com. Meanwhile, the Celestial Talismans Guild guards rushed towards the commotion, but it was too late. Yi Chen's team had already managed to grab hold of the guild master. "You are making a grave mistake," the guild master warned, struggling against their grasp. "The Celestial Talismans Guild will not take this lightly. You will face the consequences for your actions." "We knew the risks when we came here," Yi Chen replied calmly. The guards hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. They had been trained to protect their guild master at all costs, but they were no match for Yi Chen's team. Seeing their hesitation, Yi Chen stepped forward and addressed them directly. "You can either stand down and let us leave with what we came for, or you can continue to fight and suffer the consequences." The guards exchanged uneasy glances, but in the end, they chose to stand down. They were worried that if they chose the wrong option here, the guild master might pay the price. Outside, the battle raged on. The two King Realm experts of Yi Chen's team had joined forces and were now pushing the Celestial Dragon's Sex Elder back. Despite his skills, the Elder was struggling to keep up with their combined might. Yi Chen stared at the guild master and ordered, "Lead us to the warehouse." The guild master led Yi Chen and his team through the maze-like corridors of the warehouse, leading them to the most heavily guarded section where the most valuable talismans were stored. As they entered the room, Yi Chen stood with his team, scanning the warehouse's contents as the guild master watched in utter defeat. "Make sure you don't forget anything valuable," Yi Chen spoke aloud. The guild master could only clench his fists in fury as he watched them rummage through the warehouse, taking anything they deemed valuable. After some time, they managed to acquire an impressive collection, including 13 King Realm Assault Talismans and 10 defensive King Realm Talismans, which were considered rare and powerful artifacts. Moreover, they also found themselves holding hundreds of Lord Realm Talismans. Yi Chen's team felt a sense of relief and satisfaction as they knew they had successfully completed their mission. With their newfound talismans, they could now strengthen their combat power and increase their chances of success in their upcoming battles. Eagles Nova 1-0 With their mission accomplished, Yi Chen and his team let out a series of sharp whistles that echoed across the city. In response, 30 majestic griffins swooped down and landed near them. The griffins launched a powerful gust, sending most of the Lord Realm experts flying and causing chaos in the vicinity. The two warriors who had been fighting the Celestial Dragon Sex Elder immediately seized the opportunity to launch a series of devastating attacks. As the Elder dodged their combined assaults, he was startled to see Yi Chen's team members swiftly mount the griffins and soar into the sky. Not a single guard attempted to pursue them as the guild master was still in Yi Chen's hands, and they knew that trying to stop them would only bring them more trouble. After flying some distance away, Yi Chen turned to his team member and gave a curt order. "Throw him away now." Without a word, the team member grabbed the struggling guild master and hurled him off the griffin. Luckily for the guild master, his martial prowess allowed him to maneuver in the air and land on his feet. Glowering in the direction of the griffins as they vanished into the distance, the guild master's eyes smoldered with anger. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's team had retreated to their hideout, a secluded clearing deep in the forest. With adrenaline still pumping through their veins, they eagerly examined the talismans they had acquired. "Wow, we hit the jackpot this time," one team member exclaimed as he marveled at the King Realm Assault Talismans. Another member grinned as he inspected the defensive King Realm Talismans. "These will come in handy for sure." Yi Chen leaned back against a tree, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. "We did well today. No casualties, and we got what we came for." As the team reveled in their success, congratulating each other on their first mission without any casualties, Yi Chen sent a message to the second princess's palace to inform them of their victory. Along with the message, he sent some of the talismans they had acquired as proof of their success. Little did they know that their celebration would be cut short. 2 days later, Yi Chen's group was suddenly attacked in their hideout. They found themselves surrounded by a group of powerful experts who had been led to their location by none other than the guild master. It turned out that he had struck 1,000 miles tracking talisman on the griffin they used to escape, allowing him to track their every move. Yi Chen quickly assessed the situation and realized that they were up against some of the most powerful forces in the region. He looked around at his team and saw the fear in their eyes, but he knew that they couldn't afford to falter now. "We're not going down without a fight," he declared, drawing his sword. The group braced themselves for the impending battle as the attackers closed in on them. They could see the powerful elders of the Celestial Dragon sect leading the charge, their eyes filled with fierce determination. As they fought for their lives, it became clear that the guild master had spared no expense in hiring the best mercenaries to aid in this attack. The three groups of mercenaries fought with ruthless efficiency, their weapons glinting in the sunlight as they attacked relentlessly. They had been provided with powerful talismans and some enchanted weapons. Despite their best efforts, the group soon found themselves overwhelmed and outnumbered. The guards of the Celestial Talismans Guild were closing in on them, and Yichen knew that they had to act fast. "Fall back," he shouted to his team as they began to retreat towards the edge of the clearing. But it was too late. The attackers had surrounded them from all sides, leaving them with nowhere to run. Adding insult to injury, Yi Chen's team had neglected to disguise themselves in dark clothing to conceal their identities. The guildmaster's gaze swept over the group, and recognition dawned on his face as he spotted the two elders of the Tongue clan. His lip curled into a sneer. "So the Tongue clan has joined forces with the enemies of the Celestial Talismans Guild. You will pay for your treachery," he growled. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to Yi Chen, who was wielding a heavy sword and emanating sword qi. The guildmaster's eyes widened with realization. "You're Yi Chen," he exclaimed. Yi Chen let out a snarl as he heard that voice. He quickly pulled out a 1,000 miles escape talisman and crushed it. In the next moment, Yi Chen disappeared. The guildmaster of the Celestial Talismans Guild and the elders of the Celestial Dragon Sect were fuming over Yi Chen's successful escape. Despite their best efforts, they had been unable to locate him. On the bright side, they had managed to capture numerous members of the Tongue clan who had participated in the raid on the guild. Moreover, they had also recovered 5 assault and 3 defensive King Realm talismans. These captives had undergone intense interrogation under the effects of talismans, and they were willing to share whatever information they had. Upon interrogation, the captured members of the Tongue clan revealed that the attack was orchestrated by the second Princess Wang Ying's faction. However, the motive behind the attack on the Celestial Talismans Guild remained a mystery. The Tongue clan also disclosed that their initial target was actually the branch of the Tao of Alchemy Society in Jiyu City. However, for some reason, the princess called off the attack, which led Yi Chen's team to set their sights on the Celestial Talismans Guild. The news of the attack on the Celestial Talismans Guild by Yi Chen's team spread like wildfire, reaching the ears of everyone in the Empire within a matter of days. However, the report didn't mention the involvement of the second princess. The guildmaster knew that it would be unwise to reveal the princess's involvement in the matter. He had his reasons to believe that the princess would pay a hefty sum to keep her name out of the news. As he fled from the city, Yi Chen couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. His team had been exposed, and the guildmaster was sure to have sent out his most skilled trackers. As he headed north, he kept a watchful eye on his surroundings, scanning the landscape for any sign of pursuit. He knew he had to put as much distance between himself and the Celestial Talismans Guild as possible. Unbeknownst to Yi Chen, he was unwittingly making his way towards one of the fierce battlefields between the human and demon realms. The Crown Prince himself was leading the charge, battling fiercely to subdue the demons. This battlefield held immense strategic value for the demons, owing to the presence of a natural essence spring that sprouted from the ground. This spring was a vital resource for the demons, capable of strengthening their bloodline and enhancing their abilities. Yi Chen stumbled upon a scene of intense battle, where the Crown Prince's soldiers had raided a demon hideout. To their surprise, they found the demon princess of the Void Soul Twilight Dominion inside, protected by a cadre of powerful demon experts. The air was thick with the clash of weapons and the whizzing of spells as human King Realm experts engaged the demon experts in fierce combat. Yi Chen was ready to lend his support to the human side when his eyes fell upon the demon princess, who was unleashing devastating attacks with a purple belt. However, it wasn't her fighting style that captured Yi Chen's attention, but her striking beauty. Her long, flowing pink hair and piercing green eyes were mesmerizing, and her slender, curvy figure moved with deadly grace as she fought off the human attackers with ease. Despite his loyalty to the human race, Yi Chen found himself transfixed by her otherworldly beauty and stood frozen in awe for several moments. It wasn't until a sudden gust of wind jolted him back to reality that he realized he needed to snap out of his trance and focus on the situation at hand. As Yi Chen snapped out of his trance, he noticed the perilous situation the demon princess was in. She had sustained severe injuries and was on the verge of being dealt a fatal blow. In desperation, she pulled out a talisman, but Yi Chen knew it would take time to activate it, and by then, it would be too late. Reacting on instinct, Yi Chen charged forward with his heavy sword, unleashing a powerful attack called the Gust Slash. The move disrupted the practitioner who was about to land the killing blow on the demon princess, causing him to retreat with a scowl on his face. Yi Chen valiantly stood in front of the demon princess, shielding her from any further harm. His tone was cold and direct as he asked, "Are you all right?" But before he could receive an answer, the demon princess struck him with her purple belt, sending him hurtling to the ground. As he looked up, he saw her swiftly healing her wounds. It was clear that she had only pretended to be injured in order to catch her opponent off guard. However, Yi Chen's unexpected intervention had foiled her plan, and she redirected her attack towards him in frustration. The demon princess bellowed with frustration, "The plan has failed. We must retreat." Upon hearing her command, all the demons quickly scattered and fled deeper into the demon territory. Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com. The human experts, knowing the danger of venturing further, gave up on chasing them. However, some of them turned their attention to Yi Chen and questioned his actions earlier. They wondered why he had chosen to protect the demon princess, who was their enemy. "Who the hell are you? Why did you interfere? We could have killed that devil if not for you," he yelled with indignation, his face twisted in anger. The others chimed in with mocking comments. "Looks like we have a devil lover here," one of them sneered. "Seriously, what were you thinking?" another scoffed. "Helping the enemy is just foolish." Despite the derogatory comments thrown his way, Yi Chen kept his composure and got up, brushing off the dirt from his clothes as he began to walk away. But his attempt to leave was interrupted by the human experts who surrounded him, their expressions a mix of disbelief and suspicion. "Wait a minute," one of them said, stepping forward. "We can't just let you go like that. Why did you protect the demon princess? Are you in league with the demons?" Yi Chen looked at the group, sensing their hostility and mistrust. He spoke calmly, trying to reason with them. "I assure you, I have no affiliation with demons or any other enemies of humanity," he said. "We'll be the judge of that," a human expert sneered, using his King Realm Chi to intimidate Yi Chen. But Yi Chen stood firm, his own aura just as potent. "If you want to stop me, then you'll have to defeat me first," he declared, brandishing his heavy sword. Without hesitation, Yi Chen charged towards the human experts, ready to fight them all and make his escape. He knew that he couldn't take them all on, but he refused to go down without a fight. However, it quickly became apparent that he was outnumbered and outmatched. The humans were skilled fighters, and Yi Chen was unable to keep up with their attacks. As they closed in on him, he realized that there was no way he could escape with his meager abilities. However, the impressive display of his swordsmanship had changed the human experts' opinion of him. They were impressed by his skill and wondered who he was and where he had come from. Yi Chen had even used sword chi, which had startled the King Realm experts and made them wonder about his true identity and background. After subduing Yi Chen with chains, the humans presented him to the Crown Prince Wang Hao. As Yi Chen lifted his head, he met the prince's gaze and was taken aback by his striking appearance. Wang Hao had dark blue hair that fell to his shoulders in elegant waves, and his eyes sparkled with the color of rubies. He had an extremely handsome face, with sharp features and a lean, muscular body that exuded power and authority. Yi Chen's heart began to race as he stared at Wang Hao, feeling a sense of fear for one of the first times in his life. The Crown Prince gave off an oppressive and intimidating aura, as if he could crush Yi Chen with a mere flick of his finger. Even when Yi Chen had fought Wang Jian, he hadn't experienced such a feeling. The Crown Prince Wang Hao's impassive gaze was fixed on Yi Chen as he spoke. "My subordinates told me what you did on the field. Why would you try and save the demon princess?" In response to the Crown Prince's question, Yi Chen hesitated for a moment before answering. I've never encountered a demon that looked so similar to a human before. I was confused and thought that some powerful experts were bullying a defenseless woman." Wang Hao sneered in response. "Who are you?" He cleared his throat before finally speaking up. "I am Yi Chen, a disciple of Old Chu from the Heavenly Blade sect," he said firmly, making sure to emphasize his master's name. Wang Hao's expression turned cold at the mention of Old Chu's name. He narrowed his ruby eyes dangerously, sizing up Yi Chen with a critical gaze. "Old Chu, you say? The previous sect master of the Heavenly Blade sect, huh?" he said slowly. "But what makes you think you can interfere in our affairs?" Yi Chen felt a wave of fear wash over him as he stared up at the imposing figure of the Crown Prince. He swallowed hard before replying, I acted on impulse. I didn't know that I was getting involved in your affairs." Wang Hao snorted in response. "Ignorance is not an excuse," he said icily. "Guards, take him away and throw him in with the demon prisoners." Wang Jian was in the midst of a discussion with his fellow comrades when he received a report about Yi Chen's recent actions. By this time, Wang Jian had managed to gain the loyalty of all his friends' families, following the example set by Xia Shiwei's family. As they had learned from Xia Shiwei's family's experience, it was wiser to align with Wang Jian's faction now as the other princes' factions had already started targeting them. Unbelievable, Luo Ying said, shaking his head in disbelief. Attacking the Celestial Talismans Guild? That's just asking for trouble. Lu Yu nodded in agreement and added, yes, my father informed me that the guild's top executives are planning to take strict measures against him. They are even contemplating permanently banning him from purchasing any talisman from us in the future. Xia Shiwei let out a contemptuous snort. What's the point? He'll just ask someone else to buy it for him. Lu Yu's brow furrowed in contemplation. What do you suggest we do then? Tang Xiaowei interjected firmly, we should take action ourselves and eliminate this idiot once and for all. No, Wang Jian spoke firmly. Xia Shiwei seemed unconvinced as he replied, but why, Jian? The longer he runs around, the more mess he will make. Wang Jian explained his reasoning calmly, right now, he is creating enemies for himself and making a huge mess. We should let him do that. Meanwhile, we need to focus on strengthening our own faction. Although each of your families is extremely powerful in your respective organizations, it still won't be enough to challenge my siblings. He continued, my eldest brother Wang Hao has complete control over the Crimson Guards, the Brotherhood of Steel Fist, and the Jade Order. He also has close allies in the Heavenly Blade Sect and the Celestial Dragon Sect. Meanwhile, my second sister Wang Ying has complete control over the Silk Road Traders, the White Lotus Society, and significant control over the Tao of Alchemy Society. She has influence over major clans like the Jin clan, Tung clan, and so on. I have also heard that the Lotus Blossom Sex Mistress is close to her. Lastly, my third brother has a mysterious yet wide network that encompasses every organization. He has the majority of experts in the Lotus Assassins and the Black Hand working for him. He also has the Jade Serpent clan working for him. Wang Jian finished speaking and looked at each of his comrades. Tang Xiaowei asked with curiosity, then how do you want us to proceed? Wang Jian's tone became serious as he spoke, our first target should be the Tao of Alchemy Society. Pills and elixirs are crucial for all cultivators, and without them, it's impossible to grow stronger. Luo Ying nodded in agreement, you're right. All of Wang Jian's comrades appeared to agree with that statement. Xia Shiwei expressed his concern, but what should we do? My grandfather's status has already made my family very influential in the Alchemy Society. Wang Jian responded calmly, that may be true, but don't forget what happened when your grandfather fell ill. The members of the Alchemy Society humiliated your family. In fact, without your grandfather, the Alchemy Society wouldn't even care about your family. Xia Shiwei gritted his teeth and clenched his fists in anger while recalling that painful memory. You're right about that. Wang Jian's eyes flashed with a dangerous glint as he spoke, we will change that. They need to fear you and your family. Xia Shiwei looked at Wang Jian intently and asked, how will I do that? Wang Jian pulled out a list and handed it to Xia Shiwei with a sinister smile, these are the names of all the members who took action against your family. Your task is to gather information on each member and identify the ones who are loyal to my second sister's faction. Xia Shiwei nodded and accepted the list, I understand. What should I do once I have identified them? I will inform you later, Wang Jian replied with a cryptic smile. Luo Ying spoke for the rest of the group, and what about us? Wang Jian looked at them all and gave clear instructions. I want you to do the same task as I just assigned to Zhiwei. However, I also want you to ask your family to stop selling talismans and instead gather them. I will provide a buyer who will purchase them at twice the price. Find uptedevils on n/v/elben.co/m. Lu Yu was thrilled by this news and grinned widely. You got it. Wang Jian turned his attention to Tang Xiaowei next. Expand your network and make contact with local blacksmiths and armorsmiths from towns, villages, and other cities. I will provide the funds. Pay them in advance and ask them to create the weapons quickly. Also, ask the merchants who have a good relationship with your family to keep tabs on Yi Chen and report any information about his actions to my palace directly. Tang Xiaowei nodded firmly. That can be arranged as long as there is sufficient funding. Wang Jian chuckled in response. There is no shortage of that for now. He then turned to Luo Ying. As for you, I want your family to gather as many disciples as possible and begin recruiting them for my faction. Even if there are only a few at first, it doesn't matter. Luo Ying raised a concern. But if the sect master finds out about this, it could be a problem. He has strictly forbidden any factions within the sect. Wang Jian was confident. I will handle that. Any other doubts? He asked the group. It was Tang Xiaohui who spoke up this time. What if the other factions discover what we are doing? Wang Jian replied simply, for now, we'll hire powerful mercenary groups. I'll take care of this issue soon enough. Does anyone else have any other questions or concerns? He asked. Nah, they responded rather lazily. With that settled, they decided to relax and unwind. They spent the rest of the day in leisure, enjoying each other's company as they chatted and drank. Wang Jian's instructions to his friends were well received, and they immediately set to work carrying out their respective tasks. Xia Shiwei diligently worked through the list of 28 names and had already identified 7 members who were loyal to Wang Ying's faction. Despite Xia Shiwei's best efforts to be discreet in his investigation, it didn't take long for the 7 individuals he had identified to catch wind of what was going on. They were outraged to hear that Xia Shiwei's subordinates were asking questions about them both in the Alchemy Society and on the streets and wasted no time in expressing their displeasure to the Xia family. They stormed into the Xia family's estate, demanding to know why they were being investigated. Xia Shiwei remained calm despite his family's scolding in front of the faction members. After they left, he revealed that the investigation was carried out on Wang Jian's orders. The Xia family was taken aback by this revelation and pressed him for more information. Xia Shiwei, however, had no further information to offer, leaving the family to wonder what Wang Jian's motives could be. Their curiosity led them to investigate further, and they discovered that Wang Jian had accompanied Luo Ying to the Sacred Crane sect. It seemed that he would be away for a while, leaving them with no choice but to wait for his return. Meanwhile, Lu Yu and Tang Xiaohui had already started their tasks. Lu Yu followed Wang Jian's instructions and asked his family to withhold their share of talismans that they received from the Celestial Talismans Guild. His family was thrilled when they learned that Wang Jian would provide them with a buyer who would pay double the price for the talismans. However, they were curious about the buyer's identity, suspecting that they must be someone with a sensitive identity to pay such a high price. On the other hand, Tang Xiaohui used his father's influence to gather various merchants, craftsmen, blacksmiths, armorsmiths, tailors, hunters, and others. He informed them to prepare large quantities of supplies and provided them with a part of payment as advance. Additionally, Tang Xiaohui also informed them to send any information related to Yichen directly to Wang Jian's palace. As Wang Jian reached the Sacred Crane sect, he found out that Old Chu, the former sect master of the Heavenly Blade sect, had left for the Crown Prince's camp in a hurry. The reason behind his sudden departure was that Yichen had fought against the Crown Prince's subordinates and saved the demon princess. Upon hearing this news, Wang Jian couldn't help but think to himself, as expected. He was pleased that his plan was unfolding as he had anticipated. With a sly grin on his face, he swiftly penned a letter to his palace, instructing his men to use this information to ruin Yi Chen's reputation and destroy his popularity. At roughly the same time, the second princess Wang Ying was also informed of Yi Chen's actions. She was utterly astonished and couldn't resist slapping her forehead in exasperation. The news had deeply disappointed her, and she felt a profound sense of frustration at Yi Chen's behavior. Old Chu, a respected Emperor realm expert and Yi Chen's master, had made his way to the Crown Prince Wang Hao's camp in the north to inquire about his disciple's whereabouts. "Where is my disciple?" Old Chu demanded, his tone blunt and unapologetic. Despite his authority, not many dared to speak to the Crown Prince in such a manner. However, Old Chu's reputation and standing in the martial world allowed him that privilege. The Crown Prince remained unperturbed by Old Chu's mannerisms and responded calmly, "He has been imprisoned alongside the demons. His actions have left me with no choice. He did try to save the demon princess, after all." Old Chu's expression darkened at the mention of Yi Chen's involvement with the demon princess. Yi Chen has always been rash and impulsive. "I will take full responsibility for his actions and will ensure that he receives the punishment he deserves," he said firmly, his voice laced with disappointment. The Crown Prince nodded solemnly, "I understand, Master Chu. However, I must ask you to keep a close eye on him. We cannot risk any more incidents like this." Old Chu nodded upon hearing those words. However, the Crown Prince continued with a cold tone, "I expect the Heavenly Blade sect to make up for this magnanimity." A frown appeared on Old Chu's face as he replied, "I shall personally owe you a favor, Wang Hao." Wang Hao smiled slyly, "That is good enough. You can take him away." While Old Chu went to retrieve his disciple, Yi Chen was engaged in a fierce battle against the demons locked up with him. Despite being outnumbered, Yi Chen easily dispatched the demons because of his superior physique and skills. As he threw their lifeless bodies into his chaos essence bead, he noticed something strange happening. A dark energy was being generated within the bead as a result of the demon corpses being absorbed. This energy was absorbed by Yi Chen's body, making him feel stronger and more invigorated than ever before. In fact, his vitality and stamina were being fully restored with each demon he defeated and absorbed. Visit en Velben. cm for you ovals. Yi Chen was amazed by this unexpected turn of events. He never knew that the Chaos Essence bead possessed such a unique ability. With renewed determination, Yi Chen continued to fight the demons, growing stronger with each victory. Suddenly, a booming voice from above interrupted his battle. Yi Chen, the voice called out, causing him and the demons to look up in surprise. They saw Old Chu flying in the sky, his powerful Emperor realm aura causing the demons to shrink back in fear. Old Chu landed in front of Yi Chen, his face stern and serious. Yi Chen, what were you thinking? He scolded. Your actions have brought shame to the Heavenly Blade sect and endangered our relationship with the royal family. Yi Chen hung his head in shame. Master, I know I have made a mistake. I am willing to face any punishment. Old Chu sighed, his tone softening. Yi Chen, you have always been impulsive, but I hope you learn from this incident. We will deal with the consequences later, but for now, we need to escape this place. Yi Chen nodded in agreement, his eyes brimming with gratitude towards his master. Thank you, Master Chu. I will make up for my mistakes. Old Chu gave a nod and waved his hand, breaking the shackles that restrained Yi Chen's cultivation. With that, Old Chu and Yi Chen flew out of the barrier, leaving the demons trembling in fear. As they flew towards the Heavenly Blade sect, Yi Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over him. He was grateful to be out of that prison and to have his freedom back. As they soared towards the Heavenly Blade sect, Old Chu fixed Yi Chen with a piercing gaze. Enlighten me, Yi Chen, he demanded with a stern edge to his voice. Why have you been making such reckless choices? Firstly, you ambushed the 7th Prince Wang Jian. Yi Chen quickly replied, eager to explain himself. Master, that bastard Wang Jian and his friends had bullied Guanyin. They treated the matter as if it were nothing. I couldn't just stand by and let them get away with it. Old Chu's expression remained unyielding. And what of your involvement in the attack on the Celestial Talismans Guild branch in Juyu City? Yi Chen's face tensed with regret. I acted on orders from the second princess. My participation was intended to remain confidential. Old Chu snorted derisively. And yet your name has still surfaced. What about the demon princess? Why did you involve yourself in her rescue? Yi Chen hesitated briefly before answering. I believed her to be a human in need of aid. I couldn't simply stand by and watch her be mistreated. Old Chu shook his head in exasperation. Yi Chen, your impulsivity could lead to your ruin. You must learn to consider the ramifications of your actions. They will catch up with you in time. Yi Chen hung his head in acquiescence, fully grasping the severity of the situation. Do you understand the consequences of your actions? Old Chu asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. The Heavenly Blade sect has paid a steep price to calm the factions affected by your rash decisions. We were forced to use 3 kilograms of the Tyrant Emperor's crystal to forge a sword and gift it to Wang Jian. Yi Chen's eyes widened in shock at the mention of the Tyrant Emperor's crystal, one of the most valuable treasures of the Heavenly Blade sect. He knew that only a select few could afford to forge a sword from it, and even the sect master was not among them. To gift it to Wang Jian was a huge loss. His frustration was palpable as he realized that it was all because of his ambush on Wang Jian. Old Chu's next words only added to Yi Chen's distress. The repercussions of your actions have extended even further, he said with a scowl. The Celestial Talismans Guild has threatened to blacklist our entire sect unless we provide a reasonable explanation for your attack. No one from the Heavenly Blade sect will be able to purchase a talisman from them. Yi Chen felt his heart sink as he realized the gravity of the situation. The Celestial Talismans Guild was one of the most important sources of talismans for the Heavenly Blade sect, and being cut off from them would be a serious blow. Before Yi Chen could even come up with a solution, Old Chu added, as for this latest incident of you saving the demon princess, I have no doubt that this will cause everyone in the Empire calling out for your blood. Yi Chen felt a shiver run down his spine at the thought of the entire Empire turning against him. Old Chu, noticing the fear in Yi Chen's eyes, decided to offer some reassurance. Fortunately, it seems that the news of this incident couldn't have spread very far, he said. Since Wang Hao wants to use it as leverage against me, he won't actively spread it. I'll also use my contacts to make sure that the news doesn't reach too many ears. Yi Chen felt a glimmer of hope at Old Chu's words. He knew that Old Chu was well-connected and had a lot of influence in the empire, so his assurance was comforting. Old Chu continued, your good relationship with the church will also come in handy. People will have a hard time believing that someone who is so closely tied to the church would conspire with a demon. Yi Chen felt a surge of gratitude towards Old Chu. Thank you, Master. I am forever in your debt for this favor, he said earnestly. It's my duty as your teacher to aid you in your time of need, Old Chu replied sagely. Remember to take this as a lesson and learn from it. That night, Old Chu made an effort to contact his allies in an attempt to prevent the spread of the information. However, it quickly became evident that his efforts were in vain. To Old Chu's dismay, it was revealed that someone had already disseminated the news throughout the empire. It had been a calculated and premeditated attack on Yi Chen's reputation. As Old Chu dug deeper into the matter, his frustration grew, and he soon uncovered the culprit responsible for this heinous act, the seventh Prince Wang Jian. When Yi Chen learned of this, he couldn't contain his anger and punched the ground in fury, his frustration boiling over. The most annoying part was that Old Chu and Yi Chen couldn't challenge these rumors as they were the truth. We must act swiftly to rectify the situation, Old Chu said with determination. Yi Chen was all ears, desperate for a solution to his predicament. What can we do? He asked. Forget about the agreement with the second princess, Old Chu advised. Instead, we must focus on eradicating demon nests that are plaguing the empire. By actively hunting these demons, news of your exploits will spread, and eventually, the people will forget about this incident. Yi Chen nodded, understanding the gravity of his situation. I'll do whatever it takes to clear my name, he replied with conviction. After returning to the Heavenly Blade sect, Yi Chen sent a message to the second princess to inform her of his decision. Second Princess Wang Ying was more than happy about this decision. In fact, if Yi Chen hadn't taken this decision, she would have thrown him out of her faction. At this very moment, Wang Jian was in the middle of a meeting with the highly influential sect master of the Sacred Crane sect, Ji Huan. With his peak stage king realm cultivation, Ji Huan was widely respected throughout the sect for his wisdom and strength. Meanwhile, Luo Ying's father held the position of sixth elder in the sect, with a mid-stage king realm cultivation. Although his status wasn't very high among the elders, he had enough clout to arrange a meeting between Wang Jian and the esteemed sect master Zhu Huan. Wang Jian and Zhu Huan sat on comfortable cushions on the ground, with a low table separating them. As they spoke, a young disciple entered the room, holding a tray with 2 cups of steaming tea. Zhu Huan gestured towards the cups and said, "Please try our tea. It's one of the specialties of our sect, made from the finest tea leaves we cultivate ourselves." Wang Jian picked up his cup and took a sip, his face breaking into a pleased smile. "This is truly remarkable. The tea is smooth and refreshing." Zhu Huan chuckled modestly. "Our sect may have some skill in tea making, but that is not why you are here, is it?" Wang Jian smiled. "Indeed not. I come to discuss a matter of mutual interest, Sect Master Zhu. Does this matter relate to the matters regarding your faction, Seventh Prince?" Zhu Huan asked rather politely. With a nod, Wang Jian confirmed his suspicions, "That's correct. I come here, bringing you with a proposition. Join my faction." Zhu Huan's expression turned sour. "Join forces? Or should I say, surrender to your faction? Your true intentions are transparent, Seventh Prince." Wang Jian shrugged nonchalantly. "I understand why you might think that, but I assure you that I have no plans to interfere with how you govern your sect. However, I do hope to have your sect on my side if a conflict arises." Zhu Huan remained unconvinced. "And what guarantee do I have that you won't meddle in the affairs of my sect?" he asked. Wang Jian leaned back in his cushion, his expression serious. "I give you my word that I won't interfere in your sect's governance. I know the value of having allies in times of need, and your sect's strength and expertise would be invaluable to me." The sect master pondered Wang Jian's proposal for a moment. "What would you offer in return for our support?" he asked. Wang Jian's eyes gleamed with ambition. "The resources and protection of my faction," he replied confidently. "And I assure you that if you choose to join us, your sect will have a prominent position in my kingdom." Zhu Huan studied Wang Jian for a moment before replying, "Your offer is indeed enticing, seventh prince. However, I must decline. You see, I have a strict policy of keeping my sect untainted by imperial factions." Wang Jian rolled his eyes and retorted, "I am aware of your reasons. Your brother was killed 30 years ago when both of you joined my uncle's faction in the fight for the throne. Not only did you suffer the loss of your brother, but the future of the Sacred Crane sect was also jeopardized." Zhu Huan replied sarcastically, "I am honored that the seventh prince has taken the time to thoroughly investigate me." His annoyance was evident as soon as Wang Jian brought up the topic of his deceased brother. Wang Jian asked him, "Are you sure you won't change your mind?" Zhu Huan spoke rather resolutely, "Yes. I have spent the past decades trying to rebuild the sect. I don't want to destroy it because of another battle for the throne." Taking another sip of the tea, Wang Jian spoke, "Do you know why the Sacred Crane sect never became one of the great sects of the empire? Do you know what you lack?" "Resources," Zhu Huan responded calmly. "No. You lack resources and reach. And I am the only man who can provide it to you," Wang Jian spoke confidently. Zhu Huan rolled his eyes in disdain as he responded, "If I must go against my principles to grow the sect, why should I join your faction? I believe it would be better for my sect to join the Crown Prince's faction. He has a much higher chance of winning the throne than all others." "Did my uncle's defeat at my father's hands teach you nothing, Zhu Huan? My father was originally the fourth prince of the empire, yet he is the one whom you refer to as the emperor now. So, don't judge too quickly," Wang Jian spoke. Zhu Huan sneered, "You think you can fool me with that? The current situation is much different than that. You have no idea just how far ahead Wang Hao is ahead of you. He has the strongest sects, clans, and even the top associations working for him. There is no way he will lose in this battle for the throne. Never be so sure about this. But enough about that, I can't convince you to change your mind today," Wang Jian spoke calmly. A sly smirk appeared on his face as he added, "I have another proposal that will definitely get you thinking about our cooperation. As you know, my faction is small and there are no sects allied to me. This means that if you join my faction, you will receive a much greater share than you will from any other faction." "Let's hear it," Zhu Huan seemed interested as he spoke those words. Wang Jian nodded and began speaking, "Since you will be the first sect that will join my faction, I will give you the spot of one of the four great sects if I do win the throne. But I guess that's for later and you might want something more direct. So, I will provide you with land, tax concessions, resources, and even the support of the local authorities." "Oh really? Where?" Zhu Huan asked sarcastically. "The Silvercrest Dominion and the Windhaven Kingdom," Wang Jian responded instantly. Zhu Huan raised his brows in wonder as he heard those names. He instantly recalled that the Silvercrest Dominion was indeed assigned to Wang Jian's faction. It was Concubine Bai who was managing this region until now. Meanwhile, the Windhaven Kingdom was under the ninth Prince Wang Lan. However, Zhu Huan had heard information of how Wang Jian had once seized control of this kingdom from his brother. "I will tell you after a discussion with my elders," Zhu Huan responded after contemplating the offer for some time. "Send the answer to my palace," Wang Jian spoke as he stood up and prepared to leave. There was no longer any reason for him to stay here. From the start, Wang Jian knew that Zhu Huan was actually merely pretending to be disinterested in the offer. He knew that since Zhu Huan had joined up a faction belonging to the royal family once, he could do it again as well. Wang Jian just had to give him enough incentive. Right now, Zhu Huan had a pretty good deal, and no other faction could provide it. It was all because each one had already promised a lucrative deal to the other powerful sects. Wang Jian chose the Sacred Crane sect not because of its influence or techniques, but because he had someone on the inside he could trust to run the things in the sect. That was Lu Yu. It wouldn't take long before Lu Yu could start to actively recruit sect disciples and even elders for his faction. Well, this was just one fish done, though. There were a lot more sects that he had to target. While he was on his way back, Wang Jian's palace received more information from those merchants stating that Yi Chen was sighted in the Jinhua city 2 weeks earlier. It appeared that he headed to the Jin clan. This information interested him a little. After all, he had asked Jin Meixiang to inform him if Yi Chen came to visit her clan, yet she sent him no message. Did something happen between them? Wang Jian wondered as a sly smirk appeared on his face. For the following 2 days, Wang Jian journeyed towards Jinhua city. When he arrived, he landed his griffin a safe distance away from the city to avoid arousing any suspicion. He then proceeded to enter the city by making use of his moonshadow step technique, moving with stealth and agility. The Jin clan security measures were quite formidable, but Wang Jian was able to overcome them by utilizing his shadow manipulation skills to create a shadow clone. LL new rise at N0V/LBI/.cm. The clone blended seamlessly with the shadows and quietly infiltrated the Jin clan's opulent mansion, which was a hub of activity with guards patrolling the premises. Considering that Wang Jian had been inside the mansion before, it didn't take his clone much time to find Jin Meixiang. At this moment, Jin Meixiang was in her chambers, cultivating at this moment. Miss Meixiang. I feel distressed that you didn't inform me about Yi Chen's visit to your mansion. I thought we were friends. Wang Jian's voice resounded in the room. Jin Meixiang was startled to hear Wang Jian's voice so suddenly. Why, Your Highness? Jin Meixiang spoke aloud as her voice trembled in fear. The shadow on the ground suddenly turned into a corporal being with Wang Jian's physique. He spoke, Don't worry. I am just a clone sent by the master to ask you a couple of questions. Jin Meixiang wasn't unfamiliar with the clone techniques, but it was the first time she had seen one appear from shadows like that. She whispered, I see. It's not that I couldn't inform you, but my father came to inform me that the second princess's men are watching me. They will intercept all my messages to you. My second sister, huh? Why was Yi Chen here? Was it something to do with her? Wang Jian's clone asked. Jin Meixiang nodded, that's correct. She wanted his help to deal a huge damage to your faction, Your Highness. After asking a couple more questions, the clone dispelled itself. Wang Jian received those memories soon enough. A sly smirk appeared on his face as he felt that things were becoming really interesting. As Wang Jian returned to his palace in Arya City, he was greeted by his wives. How is the business setup going on? He asked. Fen Shuiying replied with a smile, all three tribes have successfully set up their businesses. We didn't even have to exhaust our resources for the Crimson Mammoth tribe and the Miracle Angel tribe. Wang Jian nodded with satisfaction. That's great news. And what about my third brother's informants? Did you find any? Su Xian spoke up, yes, we found a few. Apparently, the third prince has spies in the two tribes who inform him of any new developments. We have already gathered information about the people he has bribed. Excellent work, Wang Jian said, a smirk forming on his lips. But don't take action against them yet. Let them simmer. We can use them to send our own chosen information to my third brother. Su Xian and Fen Shuiying shared a look of relief. Fen Shuiying spoke up, we were planning to confront them soon, but it's a good thing we waited for you. Get your clan ready, Wang Jian instructed her. I want the Night Dagger clan to appear ready to accept all missions regarding theft or assassination. Among those missions, choose the ones that you feel will benefit our faction the most. Fen Shuiying nodded, all right. I'll send 2 delegates from the clan. Wang Jian then turned to Su Xian, prepare Meng Xiangyi and your disciples. You will accompany them to the Blackthorn Forest and lead them to battle beasts. But remember, your goal is to gather experience, not to engage in combat with extremely strong beasts. Yes, my husband, Su Xian replied eagerly. She had been looking forward to this opportunity to lead her disciples into battle. What Wang Jian didn't inform Su Xian was that he was going to send Lady Zhuoran after her secretly. She was a King Realm expert, so she could easily defend them against any powerful beasts or experts they accidentally encounter. Meanwhile, Fen Shuiying was going to lead her clan members in a covert mission. They would be tasked with assassinating individuals who worked for factions rival to Wang Jian's. This would weaken his enemy's power and make it easier for him to achieve his goals. EAD new chapter S on no/v/e/ln.com. Wang Jian wanted to take a break from their usual work and planning, so he decided to take Su Xian and Fen Shuiying on a date within his palace. He arranged for a private dinner in a beautifully decorated room with a table set with exquisite dishes and delicacies. The room was lit with candles, and the atmosphere was romantic. As they enjoyed their meal, they chatted about their daily lives, and Wang Jian asked about their opinions of the palace. The conversation then turned to Han Shifeng and Kong Huiyan. Su Xian spoke up, I have been thinking about them a lot lately. They have been with us for so long, and they have helped us in many ways. Fen Shuiying chimed in, I agree. They are both very skilled and trustworthy. We should find a way to reward them for their loyalty. Wang Jian nodded, I agree with you both. I will make sure they are rewarded for their service to us. What is your opinion of Xiaoling and Bishi Shuyan? He asked them. I don't know why, but I get the feeling that they can't be trusted, Su Xian spoke hesitantly. Wang Jian raised his brow in amazement, so she can sense Xiaoling and Bishi Shuyan's status as heroines with her instincts. That's rather interesting. What about you? What do you think about those two? He asked Fan Shuiying. I have actually asked 2 subordinates to keep an eye on them at all times in the palace. Till now, they haven't done anything suspicious, Fan Shuiying responded. All right, Wang Jian nodded in understanding. At one point, Wang Jian suggested they play a game, and he pulled out a set of cards. Su Xian and Fan Shuiying were both surprised, as they had never played this particular game before. They quickly got the hang of it, and soon they were all fully engrossed in the game. They laughed and teased each other as they played, and the atmosphere was light and carefree. After a while, they finished playing and sat back to relax. Su Xian looked around the palace and couldn't help but comment on how much she loved it. It's so beautiful here, she said. I feel so lucky to be able to live in such a wonderful place. Fan Shuiying nodded in agreement. Yes, the palace is truly magnificent. And the way it's decorated is simply stunning. Wang Jian smiled proudly. I'm glad you both like it. As the night went on, they continued to enjoy each other's company, savoring the delicious food and basking in the warm, inviting atmosphere of the palace. It was a wonderful evening, filled with laughter, joy, and love. The following day, Wang Jian summoned Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng to his chambers. Unlike the previous night with Su Xian and Fan Shuiying, he didn't plan to entertain them with dinner. To his surprise, both Kong Huiyan and Han Shifeng entered the room with genuine smiles on their faces, no longer holding any resentment or unwillingness towards him. Kong Huiyan's bitterness had greatly diminished after Wang Jian released her father from the dungeon, and Han Shifeng had finally found peace after receiving the holy Aegis pendant that concealed her fallen angel bloodline from her tribe members. So, how goes the development of your tribes? Wang Jian asked them. Kong Huiyan responded, it's going well. The third prince has asked my tribe to send our warriors to join up with his forces and help them subdue the nearby bandit camps. Han Shifeng added, he also asked my tribe to concoct healing pellets and elixirs for his forces. In return, he has used his contacts to ensure that everyone in the city will know about this business. Wang Jian nodded, that's good. Follow his instructions carefully but keep note of all his contacts and groups. Already began the work, Han Shifeng spoke proudly. We even assigned a mercenary team to secretly watch over those groups. We already have complete information about each group, including their family and friends. Wang Jian seemed delighted by this news as he spoke, good. Make sure to bribe 2 people in that mercenary group who can send us information about discussions in the inside circle. If they don't accept bribes, then threaten them. But make sure we have 2 informants among each team. Got it, Han Shifeng spoke in understanding. Wang Jian then turned towards Kong Huiyan, have your members split up and join different mercenary groups. In fact, teach a couple of your clan techniques to some other experts. I want the name of your tribe to reach far and wide. Once your tribe is sufficiently famous, we can set up that arena I promised you. I will get it done. Kong Huiyan promised with a resolute face. What about the training? Do your tribes need anything else? Wang Jian asked curiously. Han Shifeng responded, Master, I actually checked out information regarding the Church of Divine Light and I feel that my clan has a profound connection to it. In our ancient records, it states that our tribe was a major part of this church. Interesting, Wang Jian's eyes widened slightly. Kong Huiyan then spoke, my clan elders also informed me that my tribe has a history with a clan in this empire. It's the Chu clan. They are the reason my tribe was banished to the Xinguan region. That's the same clan as the previous sect master of the Heavenly Blade sect. It appears you have a powerful enemy, Wang Jian muttered solemnly. Kong Huiyan nodded and spoke, yes, master. They framed my clan to be working with the rebellion groups. If possible, I would like to avenge the injustice my clan had suffered. Wang Jian responded with a serious tone, it is important to exercise patience before seeking revenge. The Chu family possesses an Emperor Realm expert, which makes it difficult to deal with them. For now, focus on the tasks I have assigned to you and on your personal growth. It would be ideal if you all could advance to the King Realm as quickly as possible. Kong Huiyan replied respectfully, yes, master. Han Shifeng nodded in agreement and replied with a serious expression, "We will do our best, master." After the conversation was over, Wang Jian led them to the bed and slowly undressed them. Their seductive figures captured Wang Jian's attention as they indulged in a long and passionate night. Wang Jian made love to both of them repeatedly, passionately, and with roughness that left them both breathless. As the night progressed, the atmosphere in the room grew more intimate, with the soft glow of candles illuminating the surroundings. The scent of the burning candles and the fragrance of the two women filled the air, adding to the ambience of the room. Wang Jian's hands roamed over the curves of Kang Huiyan and Han Shifeng's bodies, exploring every inch of their flesh. The three of them continued to indulge in each other, lost in the heat of the moment. Wang Jian took turns satisfying both of them, and they eagerly reciprocated. It was a night of intense passion, and they finally fell asleep in each other's arms, sated and exhausted. As if in a fleeting moment, a whole month had passed. During this period, Yi Qin had been confined to the Heavenly Blade sect. His master had imposed this punishment upon him, partly to discipline him and partly to shield him from the outrage of the people. Word had spread like wildfire that Yi Qin was a demon's accomplice. However, there were still some who stood by him. Elder Hua and her followers, who believed in Yi Qin's integrity, were among his staunch supporters. There were also his loyal friends from different factions who refused to let the rumors tarnish Yi Qin's reputation. Unfortunately, their efforts at restoring Yi Qin's reputation yielded no good results. Lastly, the only member of the royal family who still had faith in him was the second princess, Wang Ying. As all of this unfolded, significant events were unfolding in the empire as well, with the triumphant return of the crown prince from the demon battlefront. Despite failing to capture the demon princess, his faction had succeeded in securing the coveted Yin Spring. This was a momentous achievement, and in honor of his son's victory, the emperor arranged for an extravagant feast upon the crown prince's return. The news of this event spread like wildfire, and the entire capital was abuzz with excitement and anticipation as they awaited the arrival of the victorious crown prince. Over the past month, Wang Ying had been making good use of Yi Qin's extensive network within different factions. With calculated steps, she had managed to infiltrate numerous organizations, engaging in secretive negotiations with several influential members of the Mystic Creature Handlers Union, the Brotherhood of the Steel Fist, the Crimson Guards, and the Iron Mercenaries. Her efforts were aimed at forming alliances and strengthening her position in preparation for the political upheaval that seemed inevitable. After successfully securing alliances with several powerful organizations, Wang Ying wasted no time in putting her newfound connections to work. She began to create chaos for her rivals' factions through two distinct strategies. Firstly, by using her discounts on the services of these organizations, Wang Ying was able to secure multiple trade routes. This involved tasking one mercenary group to attack caravans, while another group would protect them. These groups would switch their roles depending on the region they were operating in. Often, the targets of these groups were caravans belonging to clans, sects, or organizations that were affiliated with Wang Ying's rival factions. The Brotherhood of the Steel Fist and the Iron Mercenaries were the primary groups involved in these raids. Secondly, Wang Ying used her informants within these organizations to stay ahead of her rivals by learning of their plans and targets before they could execute them. This kept her faction a step ahead and gave her an advantage in the ongoing power struggle. Wang Ying's rivals, particularly the Crown Prince's faction, soon became aware of her tactics and began planning to counter them. As for the Third Prince's faction, it remained relatively stagnant. Despite keeping a low profile, he was still actively supporting the growth of the Miracle Angel tribe and the Crimson Mammoth tribe. These tribes were slowly gaining strength and influence, and it seemed that the Third Prince was biding his time to make his next move. Notably, the faction of Wang Jian experienced some significant developments during this time. One of the most notable events was the expedition led by Su Xian and her team to the perilous Blackthorn Forest. Their objective was to retrieve 41 tusks from the ferocious crazy mammoths. This was a daunting task, as they had to live in the forest, build their own shelters, and subsist off the land. The first week was the most challenging, as they faced numerous obstacles such as obtaining food and water and managing their shifts. However, this challenging experience provided valuable opportunities for Su Xian to hone her leadership skills and direct her disciples effectively. Meanwhile, Meng Xiangyi played a crucial role as Su Xian's assistant, helping her to manage complex matters and serve as the group's second-in-command. Throughout the months that Meng Xiangyi had spent working for Wang Jian in the empire, she had gained a wealth of knowledge and experience. She was grateful for this opportunity, as it had opened her eyes to new perspectives and ways of doing things. One of the most surprising things she learned during her time with Su Xian was that she was originally from the Jingguan region. Su Xian regaled Meng Xiaoni with stories about Wang Jian, recounting his many acts of kindness and happy memories they had shared together. These stories slowly but steadily improved Wang Jian's image in Meng Xiaoni's mind, and she began to see him in a more positive light. Over their time in the Blackthorn Forest, Meng Xiaoni confided in Su Xian about her thoughts and feelings regarding Wang Jian and the events that had transpired in the Windhaven Kingdom. Su Xian was secretly thrilled to hear this, as she saw it as an opportunity to sway Meng Xiaoni to their side and bolster Wang Jian's faction. She went on to describe some of the ways in which Wang Jian had aided others. She shared how he had provided assistance during natural disasters to the people in the Xinguan region and sponsored the education of children in an orphanage who could not afford it. Meng Xiaoni listened attentively, deeply impressed by Wang Jian's kindness and compassion. After taking a break to rest, Su Xian continued her praises of Wang Jian. "Being with Wang Jian is truly wonderful," she said. "He takes care of us and ensures that we have everything we need to thrive." Meng Xiaoni was astounded by the level of care and attention that Wang Jian showed for his women. "That's truly remarkable," she said. Su Xian grinned. "Indeed it is. Think about when was the last time you saw a man allow his wife to create and manage her own force?" Meng Xiaoni was taken aback by Su Xian's words and realized that she was right. In reality, even though Meng Xiaoni's mothers were powerful cultivators, they had been reduced to mere housewives, with no influence within or outside the Meng clan, which her father managed. "It's not just me," Su Xian continued. "Jian has also allowed Shuaying, Huiyan, and Shifeng to manage their own forces. He does provide us with some guidance, but that is his prerogative as the faction leader." "You're correct," Meng Xiaoni whispered. "I never realized this until now." Su Xian went on to discuss the importance of teamwork and collaboration, explaining how Wang Jian valued input from everyone on the team. As Meng Xiaoni heard these words, she felt a sense of camaraderie and understood why Su Xian held Wang Jian in such high regard. Turning to Su Xian, she said hesitantly, "He sounds like a truly exceptional leader." Su Xian nodded, understanding Meng Xiaoni's hesitation. "I know you must have some doubts about him, especially given his actions towards your lover, but I believe he must have had his reasons," Su Xian explained. "After all, why would he travel all the way to the Windhaven Kingdom and kill someone who was insignificant? It doesn't make sense." Meng Xiaoni nodded thoughtfully, realizing that what Su Xian said made sense. "I appreciate your words. I was hoping that Zhang Fei wasn't guilty, but it seems that he was. This is why His Highness Jian dealt with him so severely, even going so far as to eliminate his entire clan," Meng Xiaoni acknowledged. Su Xian sensed that Meng Xiaoni was on the verge of being convinced, so she continued to persuade her, all westch.rs on n.o/vli/n/.cm. When Jian returned from the Windhaven Kingdom, he mentioned that he had put a stop to a rebellion. "I strongly suspect that he was referring to Zhang Fei," she added, solidifying her argument. Meng Xiaoni's eyes widened at the revelation. "A rebellion?" she repeated, shocked. "Zhang Fei involved?" Su Xian nodded. "Yes, and that's why Wang Jian had to take such drastic measures. It was necessary to ensure the stability and safety of the kingdom." Meng Xiaoni's expression was conflicted as she thought about Zhang Fei's past behavior and arrogance. "Yes, you are right," she finally conceded. "It is difficult to believe, but it is not impossible." Su Xian smiled gently. "I'm glad you understand, Xiaoni." Following their lengthy conversation, Meng Xiaoni found herself growing much closer to Su Xian. The perilous moments they had faced together in the Blackthorn Forest, coupled with Su Xian's heroism in coming to her aid, only deepened Meng Xiaoni's adoration and respect for her. Unbeknownst to Su Xian's team, Lady Zhuoran had been ordered by Wang Jian to protect them secretly. Her strict orders were to keep a low profile and defend the team from all potential life-threatening attacks without revealing herself. However, she was only allowed to reveal her presence in the case of a king realm beast or warrior threatening Su Xian's team. The reason for Wang Jian's covert directive to Lady Zhuoran was to ensure Su Xian's confidence and trust in herself without putting her in actual danger. His intention was to provide her with a sense of security while still allowing her to experience the challenges of the journey. The concept of growth was intrinsically tied to a feeling of peril and uncertainty. Individuals needed to face challenges and difficult situations to develop and improve their skills and abilities. The next significant development in Wang Jian's faction was the Night Dagger clan's rise to prominence. They gained infamy for executing successful assassinations of numerous traitors, landlords, and some members of reputable organizations. The economic affairs of the empire and those organizations remained largely unscathed as the targets were carefully selected and replaceable. Despite everyone knowing who was responsible for the killings, no one dared to publicly accuse Wang Jian. The Night Dagger clan began receiving a plethora of job offers via letters, each stating the target and the price offered. These letters were handled by brokers who acted as intermediaries between the clients and the assassins. The brokers alone knew the clients' identities and targets. The Underworld Barter Syndicate was a significant organization on par with the Tao of Alchemy Society, led by a Peak King realm expert. It also had close ties with Emperor realm experts, causing them to possess great influence and background. The Night Dagger clan selected targets that would strengthen Wang Jian's faction, so they exclusively conducted negotiations with the Underworld Barter Syndicate for the price of the deaths of these individuals. News of Fan Shuaiying's involvement with the Night Dagger clan quickly spread throughout the capital, causing a stir among the various organizations. Many began to wonder about her relationship with Wang Jian and whether or not he had approved of her actions, or if she was acting independently. In a society where men typically held the majority of power, it was uncommon for a woman to be allowed to manage an organization, let alone one as influential as the Night Dagger clan. This fact only added to the intrigue and speculation surrounding Fan Shuaiying's role. Rumors and whispers circulated through the halls of power, with some speculating that Fan Shuaiying was using the Night Dagger clan to further her own ambitions. Others whispered that Wang Jian was losing his grip on power, and that his wife was stepping in to fill the void. Despite the rampant speculation, no one could deny the impact that Fan Shuaiying and the Night Dagger clan had on the empire. Their bold and successful assassinations have certainly been a wake-up call, as many organizations were forced to re-evaluate their own security measures in response. The third notable event that occurred this month was the steady progress of the Crimson Mammoth tribe and the Miracle Angel tribe. The two tribes had also made their impact in the empire, but not to the same extent as the Night Dagger clan. It was only natural, as the third prince wanted to keep his connection with them a secret. These two tribes were going to be his aces to destroy Wang Jian's faction in one go. The fourth significant event that unfolded this month was the successful negotiation between Wang Jian and sect master Zhu Huan. As per the agreement, the Sacred Crane sect publicly declared its allegiance to Wang Jian's faction, solidifying their relationship and increasing Wang Jian's power and influence. In keeping with his promise, Wang Jian immediately dispatched messages to King Qin, the monarch of the Windhaven Kingdom, and King Peng, the monarch of the Silvercrest Dominion, requesting their assistance in establishing branches of the Sacred Crane sect in their respective kingdoms. Wang Jian also emphasized the need for unconditional support to be provided to the sect, given their new status as a member of his faction. The move was significant, as it not only expanded Wang Jian's sphere of influence but also established a new power dynamic in the region. It was also a clear message to other organizations and factions that Wang Jian was not to be underestimated and that his reach and influence were expanding rapidly. The fifth noteworthy development was the successful integration of the Silver-Tailed Fox clan into Wang Jian's faction. Since both the matriarch, Lady Zhuoran, and her daughter, Bishi Shuyan, were already working for Wang Jian, the process of assimilating the entire clan was relatively smooth. One factor that played a crucial role in winning over the clan was the generous gift of numerous beast cores brimming with rich essence. Wang Jian formed a new team of powerful warriors from the Silver-Tailed Fox clan and tasked them with exploring the region. He was counting on Bishi Shuyan's extraordinary ability to detect treasures or celestial resources. Of course, Wang Jian ensured that this team of warriors was led by two King Realm experts, as he was unwilling to risk losing or letting go of such a valuable treasure tracker like Bishi Shuyan. Bishi Shuyan was thrilled to receive this opportunity, as it served two purposes for her. Firstly, it offered her a temporary reprieve from Wang Jian's advances and spared her from having to engage in any further sexual encounters with him. Secondly, she saw it as a chance to prove her worth to Wang Jian by uncovering more treasures for him. As her value increased, she hoped that Wang Jian would be more inclined to heed her opinions and suggestions in the future. She was shrewd and strategic, recognizing that the key to gaining influence and power for the Silver-Tailed Fox clan in Wang Jian's faction was through demonstrating her usefulness to him. This was also the only way she could keep her mother safe from Wang Jian's depraved clutches. Unfortunately for her, Wang Jian was no ordinary man who could be easily manipulated, and he possessed a keen understanding of human nature, particularly when it came to ambition and greed. During the course of her one-month journey, Bishi Shuyan was able to make a remarkable discovery. She had found not one, but two mines containing rare Lord Realm resources that could be used to create powerful armors. However, it was her third discovery that proved to be the most fortunate of all. There, she stumbled upon a rare opportunity to acquire 20 drops of the stellar azure dew. This was an incredibly precious resource that had the ability to purify the meridians and significantly strengthen the body. Unlike other resources that could cause harmful side effects, the stellar azure dew was completely safe to use. What made the stellar azure dew even more valuable was the fact that it took hundreds of years of cultivation on a special plant to congeal. It contained the essence of a special herb that had been cultivated for centuries and could greatly boost the cultivation of even king realm experts. Without hesitation, Bishi Shuyan immediately absorbed one of the 20 drops. Fortunately, the essence within the stellar azure dew was smooth and easy to absorb, and it quickly circulated within her body. As a result, the beast chi within her physique began to revolve in a particular manner, activating the special methods stored in her bloodline. This method was perfectly suited for her physique, and it allowed her to cultivate with ease. Thanks to the stellar azure dew, Bishi Shuyan's bloodline was greatly stimulated, and a fifth silver tail sprouted from her back, growing to the same size as her other 4 silver tails. Bishi Shuyan was taken aback by the sudden appearance of the fifth silver tail. Her mother had told her that attaining the king realm was a major milestone for any member of the silver-tailed fox clan, as it would result in the growth of an additional tail, regardless of the number of tails they had awakened prior to achieving this level of cultivation. This meant that a fox with 1 tail would gain a second tail, a fox with 2 tails would acquire a third, and so forth. Consequently, Bishi Shuyan would grow her 6th silver tail once she advances to the king realm, putting her bloodline on par with that of the silver-tailed fox clan's ancestral bloodline. The prospect of reaching such a high level of cultivation filled Bishi Shuyan with excitement and a sense of pride. Meanwhile, Bishi Shuyan's cultivation began to rise steadily. It had already reached the 3rd stage of the Lord Realm. And this cultivation was still rising. Filled with excitement, Bishi Shuyan eagerly made her way back to Wang Jian's palace, knowing that her recent discoveries would impress him greatly. The 2 mines that she had stumbled upon were already filled with rare and valuable resources that would benefit Wang Jian's faction greatly, but the 3rd discovery of the 20 drops of the stellar azure dew was the cherry on top of the cake. Once Bishi Shuyan returned to the palace with these drops of the stellar azure dew, Wang Jian immediately distributed among his women while keeping the rest with him. Including Meng Xiaoni in the list of his women who received the dew drop, Wang Jian was left with 12 drops of stellar azure dew. The cultivation of all his women rose steadily. Meanwhile, Wang Jian absorbed 1 drop of stellar azure dew himself. Status: Name: Wang Jian. Age: 20 years old. Destiny points: 212 671.ca. Check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. Cultivation: 1st stage of the king realm, rising, 3rd stage of the king realm, after absorption of the essence in stellar azure dew. Cultivation technique: Soaring Dragon Technique, Level 5, requires 2 million destiny points to level up. Skills: Origin Fist, Beam of Destruction, Mystic Force, Divine Shielding Iron Body, Enhanced Strength, Spiritual Sensitivity, Moonrise Fist, Lunar Shield, Moonshadow Step, Shadow Manipulation, Dark Fog, Eclipse Domain Annihilation, Tranquil Mind Divine Mantra, Black Castle, Elemental Genius, Dragon's Prestige, Enchantment Ability, Level 1, Starry Night Sky Strike, Serene Moonlight Slash, Swift Silver Stab, Endless Blade Defense, and Flowing Water Guard. Ocular Abilities, True Eyes, Level 2, 200,000 Destiny Points. Bloodline, Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Bloodline. 2nd level, Next level, 500,000 Destiny Points. Insight in Laws, Flame, Mid-level, 2 million Destiny Points. Lightning, Nil, 150,000 Destiny Points. Dark, Nil, 100,000 Destiny Points. Sword, Nil. Physique, Chaotic Yang Body, 1 million Destiny Points. Spirit, Dark Flame Double-Headed River Dragon, 7-star Spirit, Mutated. Weaknesses, Holy Attribute. Solar Attribute. Wang Jian prepared himself for the grand feast that the emperor had organized to celebrate the victorious return of the crown prince from his battle against the demons. The banquet was a highly significant event that would witness the attendance of all the high-ranking officials and nobles of the empire, and it was an occasion for displaying one's wealth, power, and prestige. Wang Jian, being a member of the royal family, had to ensure that his appearance was impeccable and befitting his status. He dressed himself in a luxurious silk robe of deep red, embroidered with intricate golden designs that displayed his wealth and taste. Arriving at the banquet hall, he was greeted with the sights and sounds of grandeur, ornate decorations, the aroma of delectable food, and the melody of traditional music that played in the background. As Wang Jian made his way to his designated seat, he overheard snippets of conversations around him. Some were discussing the latest political developments, while others were talking about the impressive feat of the crown prince in securing the Yin Spring. Just as he settled into his seat, the emperor made his grand entrance, and the room erupted in applause. Wang Jian stood up respectfully and joined in, his eyes fixed on the emperor. The emperor's voice boomed throughout the hall as he addressed the guests and raised the goblet in toast. I thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the great victory of our crown prince against the demons. He has secured the spring, a feat that will go down in the annals of our history. Please enjoy yourselves and celebrate this momentous occasion. The guests responded with a hearty cheer, raising their own goblets in salute. Wang Jian too raised his goblet and took a sip, his eyes fixed on the emperor as he continued his speech. As we feast and make merry, let us not forget the sacrifices and bravery of our warriors who fought valiantly to defend our empire. Their deeds shall forever be etched in the annals of our history, a testament to the indomitable spirit of our people. The guests nodded solemnly, their faces reflecting the somberness of the emperor's words. But as the banquet resumed, the mood gradually lightened, and the guests began to enjoy the sumptuous feast that had been prepared for them. Wang Jian too dug into his plate, savoring the rich flavors and textures of the dishes. After finishing his meal, Wang Jian strolled around the banquet hall, scanning the officials, nobles, and clan heads that had attended the celebration. Most of them belonged to the crown prince's faction, and Wang Jian made sure to display his social grace by exchanging greetings and pleasantries with them. As he passed by the crown prince's table, Wang Hao spoke up, "Congratulations on reaching the king realm, Jian. I've heard the news." "Thank you, eldest brother," Wang Jian responded with sincere smile. However, the mood soon turned serious as Wang Hao brought up a troubling topic. "I have received reports that your faction has been carrying out assassinations within the capital. I trust you will put an end to this immediately." Wang Jian's expression turned cold as he responded, "Eldest brother, I can assure you that I have no knowledge of any such actions. However, I understand the importance of maintaining peace within the capital and will ensure that any wrongdoing within our faction is brought to light and punished accordingly." Wang Hao nodded, satisfied with his response. "Good. From now on, the Crimson Guards will be conducting investigations into any assassinations within the city. I expect your full cooperation in this matter." Wang Jian nodded solemnly, "Of course, eldest brother. I will do everything in my power to assist in their investigations." As Wang Hao and Wang Jian continued their conversation, the other individuals seated nearby couldn't help but pay attention to their exchange. They could sense the tension in the air, and the experienced politicians among them could already see the subtle but palpable sparks between the two princes. Despite Wang Jian's diplomatic response, it was clear that the two brothers were not on good terms. F0 Lo New Hapters at nov/el/bin/.com. It seemed as though Wang Hao was determined to assert his authority, while Wang Jian was equally resolved to stand his ground. Some of them exchanged knowing glances, while others whispered discreetly to their companions. Now that the crown prince had returned from the battlefront, they believed that the tensions were likely to rise between the factions. Wang Jian, having had his fill of the festivities, excused himself from the crown prince's table and made his way towards the exit. As Wang Jian strode out of the banquet hall, he heard the soft footsteps of someone following him. Turning around, he saw that it was his second sister Wang Ying, accompanied by her stunning aide. With a sly smirk on her face, Wang Ying spoke, "It appears that Hao got to you." Wang Jian's expression hardened as he replied, "What do you mean, elder sister?" "Please, Jian. Don't act naive," Wang Ying said, rolling her eyes. "Everyone in the empire knows that your faction is behind the recent strings of assassinations. And now that Hao has spoken up about it publicly in the banquet, his faction will surely take strict action against you." Wang Jian narrowed his eyes, "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb, Jian. You need my help," Wang Ying said, still wearing a sly smile. Wang Jian's tone was cold, "And why would I need your help, elder sister?" Wang Ying's smile turned into a smirk as she replied, "Because you know that I can be a powerful ally. Together, our factions can become unstoppable." Wang Jian shook his head, "I'm not interested in turning my faction into a weapon to be wielded by you, sister. I'll handle the situation on my own." Wang Ying shrugged, "Suit yourself, Jian. But just remember that I am here if you need some help." Wang Jian stared at his sister while wondering how he should subdue her. Her luck was extremely high, so it was impossible for him to be forceful with her. After a moment of deep contemplation, a sinister idea sprouted in his mind. He also created a trap for Major Guan Yin of the Crimson Guards. As Wang Ying and her aide Ro walked through the dimly lit corridors of the palace, the latter asked hesitantly, "Princess, what do we do about the seventh prince?" "Your plan to use him has failed." Wang Ying stopped in her tracks and turned to face Ro, her expression composed. "This was to be expected," she replied coolly. "I was merely testing the waters to see if Jian had been cowed by Hao's threats." Oh Ro nodded slowly but couldn't help but feel a sense of unease at her mistress's callousness. But what about the situation now? She asked tentatively. Wang Ying's eyes gleamed with a cold determination. It changes nothing, she said firmly. We will continue with our plan. We just need to eliminate a few key individuals and make sure the blame falls on Jian. Oh Ro swallowed nervously, knowing what her mistress was suggesting. The thought of sacrificing innocent lives for the sake of political gain made her stomach turn. But Wang Ying was resolute in her ambition. She would do whatever it takes to secure her power and influence, even if it meant deceiving her trusted subordinates. Only through such ruthless measures would the Crown Prince's faction turn against Wang Jian's faction. Wang Ying's eyes gleamed with malice as she contemplated her plan to frame Wang Jian's faction for more assassinations. She had been keeping a close eye on Wang Jian's actions, and she knew that he had yet to carry out any assassinations among the members of the Alchemy Society who had made things difficult for the Xie family. But she had a list of members who had acted against her family, and she was more than willing to sacrifice a few of them to achieve her goal. With a cold smile, she turned to her aide, Oh Ro, and said, It's time to take matters into our own hands. We'll have to assassinate a few of the elders on our list and make it look like it was Jian's Night Dagger clan that did it. Oh Ro looked at her with concern. But princess, won't that be too risky? What if we're caught? Wang Ying shrugged off her concerns, we have to take the risk. Once we succeed, we will greatly reduce Jian's fame. Even if he finds out that it was done by me, there won't be anything he can do without risking Hao coming after him. She knew that the Crimson Guards wouldn't be able to take action against a royal prince like Wang Jian, but they could easily go after his clan. And so, it would be Wang Jian's Night Dagger clan that would be their first target. With a devious smile on her face, Wang Ying began to plan her next move. Oh Ro, with a concerned expression on her face, asked, What are we going to do about Yi Chen? Wang Ying understood the gravity of the situation. Yi Chen, being a sensitive link to her faction, could lead to public outrage if news of their association was leaked. She had to tread carefully to maintain her power. If we sever our ties with Yi Chen, we risk losing our hold over the various organizations that we have expanded into through him and his friends. It could potentially be disastrous for us, Wang Ying said, her voice laced with concern. Oh Ro nodded in understanding, but still, the situation worried her. But what if the news does get out? Won't we face severe consequences? Wang Ying's face remained calm and collected as she responded, If the public does find out, we will have to take strict action against Yi Chen to quell their outrage. But for now, we must keep our alliance with him a secret and use it to our advantage as long as we can. She knew that it was a delicate balance she had to maintain. But with her strategic mind and cunning, Wang Ying was confident that she could keep control over the situation. During the same period, the Church of Divine Light carried out a series of well-coordinated raids on 3 Crimson Cult hideouts. The church forces displayed impressive combat skills and managed to defeat 4 King Realm experts of the Crimson Cult. Out of those 4, 2 were captured alive. Additionally, the church successfully apprehended nearly 30 more members of the Crimson Cult who had lower cultivation levels. Hong Meilin had played a critical role in capturing them as easily swept the floor with them. However, just when the church officials were about to interrogate the prisoners, they noticed something was off. All of the captives were writhing in pain, their bodies covered in sweat, and their eyes bulging out. The cause of their agony soon became apparent, each of them had ingested a mysterious poison that had started to take effect. Despite the best efforts of the church's healers, none of the captives survived. It was as if the Crimson Cult had taken measures to ensure that their members would rather die than reveal any sensitive information to the church. The church officials were taken aback by this development, and the news quickly spread throughout the city, causing widespread fear and outrage among the populace. The mysterious poison had become a topic of discussion everywhere, and people were speculating about its origin and effects. Ironically, the very fear of this deadly poison spurred the development of its antidote. However, time was not on their side, as the poison had a narrow window for treatment. The antidote would only be effective if it was consumed within a certain period after being poisoned. Thus, the antidote had to be carried by all members of the church at all times as they were at risk of getting attacked by the Crimson Cult members who possessed this mysterious poison. The Crimson Cult had refrained from using the mysterious poison in their battles against the Church of Divine Light, as they were aware that it could lead to the development of an antidote. However, the rapid development of the antidote still caught them off guard. The success of developing the antidote could be attributed to the expertise of a talented alchemist, Wu Zong, who was a member of the church. Wu Zong was a middle-aged man with remarkable skill in alchemy. He quickly identified the ingredients of the poison and ran several tests on rare beasts to ensure its effectiveness. Once the tests on the animals were successful, the next step was to test on willing humans. Although no humans died during the testing, unfortunately, the same could not be said for the beasts. The poison and various antidotes had been administered to many beasts of different species in the process. The discussions regarding the poison and antidote that had been the talk of the town for some time were soon overshadowed by a new topic that caught everyone's attention. The deacons of the Church of Divine Light were gathered together to discuss recent events, and one of them voiced their thoughts. "We have discovered 7 secret vaults and managed to secure them. I can't help but wonder what kind of treasures are hidden inside." Another deacon chimed in, "I've heard rumors that the vaults contain fiendish pills that the Crimson Cult members used to gain immense power. And there were also offerings found, which they sacrificed to their supreme evil god." A third deacon added, "I caught a glimpse of some weapons in one of the vaults. They must be evil weapons of some sort." At this point, the leader of the deacons spoke up, "Yes, all of these items are in our possession now. My mentor is currently gathering them up and planning to set up a purification ritual. We will cleanse the evil chi within these items so that the church can use them as valuable resources." The other deacons nodded in agreement, and the conversation continued as they discussed the best methods to purify the items and the potential benefits the church could gain from them. Unbeknownst to the Church of Divine Light, 2 out of the 3 hideouts they had raided were primary resource bases for the Crimson Cult. These hideouts contained a vast array of resources, weapons, and supplies that the Crimson Cult relied on for their operations and growth. The loss of these valuable resources and weapons was a significant setback for the Crimson Cult, and they were forced to scramble to find new sources to replenish their depleted reserves. As news of the successful raid spread throughout the land, the Church of Divine Light was hailed as heroes, and their reputation grew even stronger. Since the banquet, 3 days had passed by without any major incidents. The Crimson Guards continued to monitor Wang Jian's faction, but their efforts proved futile as Wang Jian had given his organizations a well-deserved break. During this time, he decided to give his women an opportunity to cultivate their abilities by granting them each a drop of stellar azure dew for their closed-door cultivation. The selected women were Su Xian, Fan Shuiying, Chen Yan, Kong Huyan, Han Shifeng, Xiao Ling, and Lady Zhuoran. With the exception of Lady Zhuoran, all the other women experienced a significant rise in their cultivation due to the essence within the stellar azure dew. The essence within these dew drops possessed enough energy to boost their cultivation directly to the peak of the Lord Realm. It was just a matter of absorbing this essence properly. Considering the great potential of these women, it would take them a month to absorb these drops properly. Even Lady Zhuoran's cultivation rose by 2 stages, an achievement in itself, but it couldn't help her evolve her bloodline as her daughter could. While Wang Jian was contemplating his next move, he heard a knock on his chamber door. Utilizing his spiritual sensitivity, he identified the person behind the door to be Lady Xia, which surprised him. "Come in," Wang Jian said, curious as to why Lady Xia had sought him out. The door creaked open, and Lady Xiao's eyes quickly scanned the dimly lit room before settling on Wang Jian, who was seated behind a desk. She hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, her cheeks flushed with color. She removed her jacket and draped it over a chair before turning to face him. Her clothing clung tightly to her curves, accentuating her figure in all the right places. This was a departure from her usual conservative attire, and Wang Jian couldn't help but appreciate the sight before him. However, he was curious as to why she had sought him out. "Thank you for inviting me in, Your Highness," she spoke softly, bowing her head slightly. Wang Jian's eyes lingered on her cleavage, which was now on full display, and he couldn't resist the urge to tease her. "What a sly woman you are," he whispered, his voice laced with amusement. As Wang Jian playfully smacked Lady Xiao's buttocks, her moan reverberated throughout the room, punctuating the air with a breathy exclamation of pleasure. Her eyes fluttered shut, and she let out a gasp, overcome with the sensation. "Ah, damn, so good, I miss this feeling," she whispered, her breaths coming out in short, ragged gasps. Wang Jian was a little taken aback by her reaction before a devious smile crept onto his face. He chuckled and motioned for her to sit down, his demeanor quickly turning serious. "What brings you here, Lady Xia?" he inquired, studying her intently. Lady Xia stared at him with a shocked expression, her body still tingling from the touch of his hand. She struggled to compose herself before finally speaking, I just wanted to know how you were doing. I wanted to know if everything is going well between you and Shuiying." Fan Shuiying was Lady Xiao's daughter and also Wang Jian's wife. So it made sense that Lady Xia had come to talk to Wang Jian about it. As she spoke, however, her gestures were hard to ignore. Lady Xia was purposely crossing her arms beneath her massive globes, pushing them up and out for Wang Jian's perusal. Her lips were bitten in a seductive manner, and her eyes sparkled with an irresistible desire that was impossible to ignore. As Lady Xia continued to speak, Wang Jian listened intently, all the while studying her every movement and gesture. He could tell that she was nervous, yet determined to keep up her seductive facade. He decided to play along, enjoying the game of psychological manipulation. "Well, Lady Xia, I'm doing just fine, thank you for asking," he replied smoothly, his eyes never leaving hers. "As for Shuaying and I, everything is going quite well indeed." Lady Xiao's eyes flickered slightly at the mention of her daughter's name, but she quickly regained her composure and leaned forward slightly, giving Wang Jian an even better view of her ample cleavage. "I'm glad to hear that," she purred, her voice dropping to a sultry whisper. "And what about us, Wang Jian? How are we doing?" Wang Jian couldn't help but chuckle at her blatant attempt at seduction. He leaned back in his chair, his expression amused. "Well, Lady Xia, I must say that you're looking quite lovely today," he said smoothly, his eyes dancing with amusement. "But I must ask, what brings you here, really?" Lady Xiao's cheeks flushed slightly, and she shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She knew that Wang Jian was onto her, but she couldn't bring herself to admit it. "I already told you," she replied, her voice slightly shaky. "I just wanted to check on you and Shuaying." Wang Jian raised an eyebrow, his smile growing wider. "Is that so?" he asked, his tone teasing. "Because it seems to me that you came here for a different reason entirely." Lady Xiao's eyes widened in shock, and she took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but her movements had become more erratic. Her heart was pounding in her chest as she struggled to keep her composure. Wang Jian, on the other hand, feigned a perplexed look as he responded, "Is that so? I guess I must have been mistaken then." Since he had already answered her questions, he felt that it was time for her to leave. "Since you have no other reason to be here, I suggest you leave now." "I need to go back to sleep," he said firmly. Lady Xia was flabbergasted to hear those words. With a rattled look in her eyes, she stood up and walked up to the door, trying to hide her disappointment and frustration. However, before she took even a single step outside, she spoke up with her back facing Wang Jian, "You are right, Your Highness. I did come here for another reason. I thought you would know, but it appears I was mistaken." As soon as she finished speaking, Lady Xia felt a strong smack on her buttocks, causing her to involuntarily moan in ecstasy. She turned around to see Wang Jian standing right behind her, his eyes dark with desire as he licked his lips dangerously. "Now, was that so hard to admit?" he asked, his voice low and seductive. Lady Xia felt herself getting wet as she saw that depraved smile on Wang Jian's lips. Lady Xia had been consumed by desire for weeks, ever since the last time she and Wang Jian had shared a night of intense passion. It had been more than a month ago, before he left for the Windhaven Kingdom. Since then, she had discovered that Wang Jian had found another mistress, Lady Zhuran, and had seemingly replaced her with this woman. At first, she was relieved, as their relationship had never been consensual, she had been a sex slave to him. However, as time passed, Lady Xia couldn't help but dream about those unforgettable nights of pleasure. Finally, she had reached her breaking point. It was too much for her to bear. She had to have him again. Follow the latest novels n/velbin.com. So, she devised a plan to seduce him. Lady Xia didn't want to directly express her desires to Wang Jian. Lady Xiao's plan was a gamble, but she was willing to take the risk. She wanted nothing more than to feel his strong, muscular body on top of hers, thrusting into her with raw, forceful energy. She wanted him to dominate her, to take her without mercy. Regrettably, Lady Xiao's plan to seduce Wang Jian by wearing a revealing dress didn't succeed, and she had to confess her desires to him. But it wasn't a complete failure, as Wang Jian soon planned to have rough, forceful sex with her. Inside the room, Wang Jian grabbed Lady Xia by the waist and pulled her into a deep, passionate kiss. His hands roamed all over her body, exploring every inch of her skin. Lady Xia moaned as his tongue traced her lips, his roughness exciting her beyond belief. Wang Jian quickly undressed Lady Xia as he continued to kiss her. Before even realizing it, he pushed Lady Xia onto the bed and climbed on top of her. His hands were all over her, squeezing her breasts and pinching her nipples as he devoured her mouth. As he breaks the kiss, Wang Jian whispers in her ear, "You want me to take you, don't you?" You want me to use you for my pleasure. Lady Xia nods eagerly, her desire growing with each passing moment. Wang Jian grins wickedly and flips her onto her stomach, pulling her hips up towards him. He enters her from behind, the force of his thrusts causing the bed to creak and shake. Lady Xia grips the sheets tightly as Wang Jian grips her hips, pulling her onto him with each thrust. As he continues to pound into her, Wang Jian reaches around to grab her breasts, squeezing and pulling at them roughly. Lady Xia moans with pleasure, the mixture of pain and pleasure driving her wild. Suddenly, Wang Jian flips her over, pushing her legs apart and entering her once again. He leans down to whisper in her ear, "Let's try something new, shall we?" He lifts her legs up and places them on his shoulders, entering her deeper than ever before. Lady Xia gasps at the sudden intensity, but Wang Jian doesn't slow down. He continues to thrust into her relentlessly, his hands gripping her thighs tightly. Lady Xia feels a wave of embarrassment wash over her as she realizes how exposed she is in this position. But the pleasure is too overwhelming to resist, and she surrenders herself to Wang Jian's rough touch. Wang Jian pulls out and flips her onto her back, spreading her legs wide and entering her once again. This time, he leans down to take one of her nipples into his mouth, biting down hard as he thrusts into her. Lady Xia cries out in pain and pleasure, the sensations overwhelming her. Wang Jian's hands roam all over her body, grabbing and squeezing her flesh as he continues to thrust into her with raw, primal energy. As he pulls out once again, Wang Jian grins down at her. Ready for another new position? Lady Xia nods eagerly, her body aching for more. Wang Jian pulls her to the edge of the bed and enters her once again, this time with her legs wrapped around his waist. He thrusts into her with even more force than before, his hands gripping her hips tightly as he drives her wild. Lady Xia can feel herself approaching orgasm, but Wang Jian isn't done yet. He pulls out and flips her onto her hands and knees, entering her from behind once again. Lady Xia feels exposed and vulnerable in this position, but the pleasure is too intense to resist. Wang Jian pounds into her relentlessly, his hands roaming over her body as he takes her to the edge and beyond. As Lady Xia experiences a wave of pleasure that crashes over her body, she lets out a primal cry of ecstasy. Her body quivers with delight as she reaches the height of her pleasure. Wang Jian looks down at her, a satisfied smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I'm just getting started, my dear," he says with a glint in his eyes. "We have so many more positions to explore together." Lady Xia looks up at him, her eyes shining with a submissive glint. "I am your loyal and devoted servant, master," she says in a soft voice. "My only desire is to please you and fulfill your every need." "Wonderful," Wang Jian whispered huskily. As the first rays of sunshine filtered through the window, Wang Jian and Lady Xia were entwined in each other's arms, their naked bodies pressed against each other. Lady Xia's curves molded perfectly to Wang Jian's chiseled frame, her eyes closed, and her lips slightly parted in contentment. As they slowly roused from their slumber, Wang Jian's hands began to roam over Lady Xia's body, trailing over her curves and teasing her sensitive flesh. He toyed with her nipples, watching as she moaned and writhed beneath him. "I never thought you would become so bold as to beg me for sex," Wang Jian teased, a smirk playing on his lips. Lady Xia moaned and writhed beneath him, her body responding instinctively to his touch. "Ah, master. It's all because. Ah, that night was unforgettable. My body craved for it." Wang Jian chuckled and leaned down to kiss her, his lips hot against hers as his hands continued to explore her body. "Well, I aim to please, my dear. And there are so many more pleasures to be explored." Lady Xia gasped as he rolled her over onto her stomach, his hands sliding down her back and over her smooth, round buttocks. He caressed her there for a moment, reveling in the silky texture of her skin. As they entered the bathroom, the steamy air filled their lungs, and they both felt their pulses quicken. The cold water couldn't douse the heat between them, and Wang Jian couldn't resist taking her against the wall. He raised her left leg and shoved her against the tiles, positioning himself behind her. Lady Xia's body tensed as he plunged his large, throbbing cock into her wet and tight pussy, eliciting a gasp of pleasure from her. "Oh, master," Lady Xia moaned as Wang Jian started thrusting into her with a raw, primal energy, his hands roaming all over her body. "You know just how to make me feel so good." Wang Jian grinned as he continued to pound into her, savoring the way her body yielded to him. "That's right, my dear. Just let go and feel the pleasure." Lady Xia did just as she was instructed. After 10 glorious minutes, Wang Jian reached his peak and spilled his seed inside her. As they both caught their breath, Wang Jian knew it was time to move on to the next stage of their morning routine. Now, my dear, it's time to clean up. I want you to use those luscious tits of yours to lather up my body, he commanded. Lady Xia eagerly obeyed, rubbing the soap onto her ample breasts and pressing them against Wang Jian's muscular chest. The sensation of her soft skin against his sent shivers down his spine, and he groaned with pleasure. As they soaked in the warm water, Lady Xia was still catching her breath from the intense passion they had shared just moments before. I will do anything for you, master, she breathed, her voice husky with desire. I just beg you to never tell my daughter about it. Wang Jian's lips curled into a wicked smile. Of course, my dear. Your secret is safe with me. But I do have a task for you. Lady Xia looked up at him, her heart racing with anticipation. What is it? Wang Jian leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. I am thinking of launching a line of luxury beauty products for women. Something that will revolutionize the industry and make me a fortune. And I want you to manage this business. Lady Xiao's eyes widened in surprise and excitement. Me? But how can I? Wang Jian silenced her with a kiss. You are a woman of many talents, Lady Xia. And I trust you implicitly. With your beauty and charm, you will have no trouble selling our products to the most influential women in the land. Lady Xia felt a surge of pride and gratitude. Thank you, master. I will do my best to make you proud. Wang Jian smiled, his eyes glittering with ambition. I know you will, my dear. He then handed her 3 vials containing the formulas for the beauty products. Wang Jian's voice dripped with satisfaction as he gazed at Lady Xia. These formulas have been crafted to perfection by the Miracle Angel tribe. They are completely organic and easy to make. And with your business acumen, I'm certain you'll be able to market these products effectively. Lady Xiao's eyes sparkled with excitement. Thank you, master. I will not disappoint you. Follow the latest novels n/velbin.com. Wang Jian leaned closer to her, his breath warm against her skin. Remember, my dear, while we will sell these products to everyone, our real target is the distinguished women of the empire. I want you to use this business to expand your network and make connections with all the most beautiful and influential women. Lady Xiao's heart quickened as she listened to Wang Jian's words. She knew that this was not just an opportunity to sell beauty products, but a chance to make a real impact in the court and further Wang Jian's royal ambitions. I understand, master. I will work tirelessly to ensure the success of this business and your ambitions. Wang Jian smiled, a glint in his eye. I have no doubt you will, my dear. Lady Xia smiled, feeling a sense of pride and purpose. After providing Lady Xia with detailed instructions on how to develop the beauty product business, Wang Jian received an unexpected report from one of his trusted merchants in the southern district of the empire. The report stated that the merchant had been contacted by a member of the notorious Crimson Cult, who was interested in placing a huge order for a number of items. Although this information wasn't about Yi Chen, the merchant thought it would be useful information for Wang Jian and sent it to his palace immediately. As Wang Jian read the report, a devious smile formed on his lips. He had been searching for the Crimson Cult for a long time, and this might be his chance to finally meet with them and strike a deal. Interesting, he mused to himself. Looks like I can finally meet up with the Crimson Cult. Without wasting a moment, Wang Jian's palace swiftly dispatched a message to the southern merchant, informing him that the royal palace would be taking over the negotiations with the Crimson Cult. In exchange for his cooperation, the merchant was generously compensated. The merchant was overjoyed with this development. He had never been eager to engage in business with the notorious Crimson Cult, and now he would be able to reap the rewards without the risk. Since the message had been sent, Wang Jian had 3 days before he would meet with the Crimson Cult. The meeting was set to take place at the Shrouded Lantern Pub, a dingy establishment nestled in the heart of the Thornwood village. Wang Jian understood the gravity of the situation, realizing that he needed to be cautious and strategic. He couldn't risk going alone, but he also couldn't bring too many people and risk exposing his plans. After careful consideration, he decided to bring Lady Zhuoran and 2 additional King Realm experts who had been trained by his mother. In total, he had 7 King Realm experts who had been groomed by his mother. However, the remaining 5 were left behind to safeguard his palace. With his team prepared, Wang Jian felt more confident and ready to face the Crimson Cult. As they mounted their griffins, Wang Jian and Lady Zhuoran were seated together while the other 2 King Realm experts occupied the second griffin. The creature's powerful wings beat against the wind as they soared through the sky. As they soared through the sky on the backs of griffins, Wang Jian's arm tightened around Lady Zhuran's waist, pulling her closer to him. His touch was possessive, almost aggressive, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of fear creeping into her mind. Wang Jian's hand began to wander, his fingers trailing up Lady Zhuran's spine until they rested at the nape of her neck. His touch was electrifying, sending shivers down her spine, but she tried her best to ignore it and maintain her composure. "This will be quite an adventure, won't it, my dear Lady Zhuran?" Wang Jian whispered into her ear, his voice laced with a dark, seductive undertone. "Perhaps we can make the most of our time alone together." Lady Zhuran's heart skipped a beat as she felt his strong grip on her body, her skin tingling with a mixture of excitement and fear. As they flew on, Wang Jian pressed himself closer to Lady Zhuran, his bulge rubbing against her voluptuous backside. The sensation sent a shiver down her spine and her body reacted in a way she couldn't control. She tried to move away from him, but his grip was too strong. Lady Zhuran tried to keep her composure, but the anticipation was too much. She could feel the wetness between her legs grow as her mind was filled with forbidden thoughts. She tried to resist, but the pull of his sinister and depraved aura was too strong. The griffins soared higher, the wind whipping through their hair as they flew towards the meeting with the Crimson Cult. But for Lady Zhuran, the anticipation of what was to come was almost too much to bear. The other two King Realm experts sat on the griffin ahead, maintaining a stoic facade as they ignored the display happening on the other griffin. It took the group one whole day to reach the Thornwood village. As Wang Jian and his group arrived at Thornwood village, he knew that they had to be on their guard. The looming threat of the Crimson Cult was always present, and they couldn't afford to let their guard down. Upon entering the village, Wang Jian wasted no time in seeking out the merchant who had encountered a member of the cult. He needed to know everything he could about them to remain on the front foot. As Wang Jian and his group approached the merchant's shop, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. "This place is too quiet," he thought to himself. "And why do I feel like we're being watched?" Suddenly, a prickling sensation ran down his neck, and his instincts went into overdrive. He used his spiritual sensitivity to scan the area, and his fears were confirmed. 7 King Realm experts lurking in the shadows, he thought, keeping an eye on the shop. This can only mean one thing, a trap. Wang Jian's heart raced as he realized the danger they were in. "The merchant we came to meet is probably a member of the Crimson Cult," he thought, "and we've walked right into their trap. We're surrounded by their allies." He knew that they needed to act quickly. "We can't stay here and wait for them to make the first move," he thought. "We need to take control of the situation." Despite the danger, a sinister smile crept onto Wang Jian's face. In a blur of motion, Wang Jian vanished from his spot, leaving Lady Zhuran and the 2 guards stunned. They caught a glimpse of him darting towards the left with an intense determination in his eyes. With a flick of his wrist, Wang Jian summoned a raging inferno of flames that he congealed into a mighty fist. He delivered a devastating punch that collided with the building, setting it ablaze with a searing intensity. The explosion was deafening, and the shockwave reverberated through the entire village. As Shan summoned his Crimson Fawn Wolf, Wang Jian drew upon his spiritual energy to conjure his own spirit. With a roar, the dark flame double-headed river dragon materialized before him, its fiery breath illuminating the night sky. The dragon's left head was a deep, shadowy black, while its right head blazed with crimson flames. Shan charged towards Wang Jian with his wolf-like spirit, its razor-sharp teeth bared. Wang Jian responded by unleashing his flame elemental attack technique, sending a torrent of flames towards Shan. Shan countered with his own firestorm blast technique, but Wang Jian's flames overpowered his attack, causing it to fizzle out. Wang Jian dashed towards Shan, his sword flashing in the moonlight. Shan attempted to block with his Crimson Shield technique, but Wang Jian's blade sliced through the shield with ease. Shan retaliated with his Fang Strike technique, but Wang Jian deftly dodged the attack and struck back with his Starry Night Sky Strike, sending a wave of searing flames towards Shan. Despite Shan's fierce efforts, he proved to be no match for Wang Jian's superior skills and techniques. With precision and speed, Wang Jian subdued him, expertly binding him with the qi restraining ropes that prevented him from tapping into his qi or spiritual energy. Relieved to have Shan in custody, Wang Jian returned to his group who were anxiously waiting for him. Without wasting a moment, he provided Lady Zhuran and Li with some potent recovery pellets, which immediately began to work their healing magic. Mei and Shan were tightly bound in ropes, helpless and at the mercy of their captors. Visit novelbin.c.m for updates. Wang Jian's group quickly made their way towards the location where they had hidden their griffins, and they mounted the majestic creatures to take off from the city. As they soared high in the sky, the gusts of wind tousled their hair wildly. Li kept the two prisoners securely bound on his griffin, while Wang Jian's arms tightly encircled Lady Zhuran's curvaceous and alluring figure, his fingers shamelessly caressing her soft skin. He leaned in close to her ear, his breath hot against her skin, and whispered, "My dear Zhuran, I'm so proud of you for winning your battle. You deserve a reward for your efforts." Lady Zhuran's heart raced with fear. She knew exactly what he meant by reward, and the thought of being alone with him made her stomach churn. But she couldn't let her fear show on her face. She forced a fake smile and replied, "Thank you, Your Highness. I am honored to receive your commendation." Wang Jian's lips curled into a wicked smile. "Excellent," he purred. "Then you'll come to my tent tonight, won't you? And wear that seductive dress I gave you earlier." Lady Zhuran's heart sank. She had no choice but to say yes, but the thought of being alone with Wang Jian, knowing his intentions, made her feel sick. But a small part of her was looking forward to it, too. She couldn't deny the excitement that coursed through her body at the thought of his touch. "Yes, Your Highness," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "I will come to your tent tonight." After a long journey, they finally arrived at a suitable spot to set up camp. With the griffins landed, they started preparing for the night, setting up their tents and lighting a fire. The smell of roasting meat filled the air, making their stomachs rumble with anticipation. As they finished their meal, Wang Jian ordered the group to bring out the two prisoners. With the captives bound and gagged, they were unceremoniously thrown onto the ground. Wang Jian ordered them to be awakened, and one of his men poured a bucket of water on their faces, causing them to sputter and cough as they regained consciousness. Sean and Mei opened their eyes and saw Wang Jian staring at them with a solemn look on his face. Wang Jian spoke, "Now, why don't we have a talk? What can you tell me about your cult?" Sean sneered, "Why should we give you anything? You are nothing but a pathetic prince with no power." Without a word, Wang Jian pulled out his dagger and stabbed it into Shan's hand. Shan cried out in pain, writhing on the ground. Mei's eyes widened in terror as she watched the scene unfold. She knew that Wang Jian was not a man to be trifled with, but she had not expected him to be so ruthless. Wang Jian turned to Shan, "Let's start again. Why did your cult attack me?" Shan glared at him, his hands still bleeding. "I told you, we will say nothing." Wang Jian rolled his eyes his disdain, "Is that so?" He grabbed Shan by his hair and threw him out of the tent. "Kill him. He is of no use to us," Wang Jian ordered Li, who was outside the tent. Li grabbed hold of Shan and took him away. The atmosphere in the tent was tense, and Mei felt her heart pounding in her chest as Wang Jian approached her. His touch was gentle, but his eyes held a dangerous glint. "I would hate to harm this gorgeous face." "So, why don't you speak?" he said softly. Mei's lips trembled as she realized the gravity of the situation. She knew that the fate of her cult and possibly her own life depended on what she said next. I can't betray my cult," she stuttered. Wang Jian's face darkened. "Do you really want to end up like your friend out there?" Mei's eyes widened in fear as she realized that Shan had been taken away to be killed. She knew that she had to choose her words carefully. 3 of our hideouts and warehouses were raided by the church. We needed to gather resources, and one of our followers informed us of your plans. "So, we plan to kidnap you and use you to acquire resources," Mei said quickly. Wang Jian's expression softened slightly, but the chill in his eyes remained unaltered. "I appreciate your honesty," Wang Jian said. "Now, I propose a deal. Contact your leader and tell him that I am willing to provide him with all sorts of supplies, including pellets, talismans, weapons, armors, and any other equipment he desires for twice the price. In exchange, I want the support of your cult in my battle for the throne." "I will pass on your offer to our leader," Mei said cautiously, "but I cannot guarantee his agreement." Wang Jian's eyes narrowed as he listened to Mei's words. "I see. Then let me make myself clear. If your leader refuses my offer, I will consider it an act of aggression against my faction. Make sure to mention this." Mei shuddered at the thought of Wang Jian's wrath. She knew that she had to tread carefully. "Understood. I will relay your message to our leader and await his response." As the night grew darker, Mei's heart weighed heavily with guilt as she was coerced into writing the letter to her cult leader. The paper felt rough against her trembling fingers as she scribbled down the details of the proposed deal with Wang Jian. As soon as she finished, Wang Jian took the letter and skillfully tied it to the leg of a messenger bird. The bird let out a soft coo as it took flight, its wings flapping through the cool night air. May watched with a mix of emotions as the bird disappeared into the horizon, hoping that her cult leader would agree to the deal. After dealing with the situation at hand, Wang Jian ordered Li to keep an eye on May in her tent. He then returned to his tent. Lady Zhuran was already waiting for him, draped in a flowing robe that revealed a tantalizing sight of a silky and transparent garment underneath. Her curves were accentuated by the delicate fabric, and Wang Jian's eyes gleamed with desire and debauchery as he approached her. Without a word, he pounced on Lady Zhuran, his hands tearing at her clothes with an animalistic force. The fabric ripped easily under his strength, revealing her luscious curves to his hungry gaze. Lady Zhuran moaned in pleasure as she felt his hot breath on her neck and his lips trailing kisses down her body. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, and her own desire began to build with each passing moment. Wang Jian's hands roamed freely over her body, caressing every inch of her with a feverish intensity. He fondled her breasts roughly, his fingers digging deep into the soft flesh as he kneaded them with a mix of pleasure and pain. Lady Zhuran gasped at the sensation, her moans growing louder with each passing moment. "More," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sounds of their passion. "I want more." Wang Jian obliged, his hands tracing the curves of her body as he explored every inch of her with a primal hunger. Finally, one of his hands grabbed hold of one of her silver tails as he yanked them strongly. Lady Zhuran's moans grew louder as he continued, her body writhing beneath his touch. As their passion reached its peak, the air in the tent grew thick with the sounds of their pleasure. Lady Zhuran cried out in ecstasy as she felt the heat of his body against hers, and Wang Jian groaned with pleasure as he reached his own climax. As the first round of passion ended, Wang Jian and Lady Zhuran were both panting with desire. Wang Jian's eyes roamed hungrily over Lady Zhuran's body, taking in every curve and swell with a mixture of hunger and possessiveness. With a feral growl, he flipped Lady Zhuran onto her stomach, pressing her down into the soft bedding of the tent. She moaned in pleasure as he trailed hot kisses down her spine, his hands exploring every inch of her body with a feverish intensity. He positioned himself behind her, his hands gripping her hips as he plunged deep inside her. Lady Zhuran cried out in pleasure as he filled her completely, her body trembling with desire as he set a punishing pace. Wang Jian's breath came in harsh gasps as he pounded into her relentlessly, his fingers digging deep into her flesh as he claimed her body as his own. His hands soon released her buttocks and grabbed 2 of her 5 tails while yanking them. Lady Zhuran's moans grew louder with each passing moment as she approached the brink of pleasure once again. As the second round of lovemaking came to a thunderous conclusion, Wang Jian and Lady Zhuran were both drenched in sweat, their bodies entwined in a tangle of limbs and desire. But even as their passion ebbed, Wang Jian's hunger for Lady Zhuran only grew stronger. With a devilish gleam in his eyes, he pulled her up into his lap, his hands caressing her body with a possessive intensity. "You are mine," he growled, his lips trailing hot kisses down her neck as he claimed her body once again. Lady Zhuran cried out in pleasure as he filled her once more, her body writhing with ecstasy as he set a punishing pace. Wang Jian's breath came in harsh gasps as he pounded into her relentlessly, his fingers digging deep into her flesh as he claimed her body as his own. For hours they continued, lost in a haze of desire and pleasure as they explored each other's bodies with a primal hunger. In the end, they were both spent and exhausted, their bodies drenched in sweat and their breaths coming in harsh gasps. But even as they lay there, entwined in each other's arms, Wang Jian knew that his hunger for Lady Zhuran would never be fully sated. That's all for this part, trekkers. See you all in next one. Till then, bye.